The red-haired man reflects on a beautiful dream he once wished to destroy. The blonde knight watches stoically. Spikes of shadow impale the red-haired man, raising his final ambitions. As he bleeds out, the villain laments the unfortunate timing of his failure. The blonde hero reaches out. He closes his eyes and confirms that the villain is finally dead. The knight walks away from the grand hall as the wicked villain meets a pathetic end. Namu Yun, the novelist, prepares to end his series following the death of his strongest villain. He finds it miserable to continue writing a novel that he no longer wants to produce. He resolves to push through his regrets and finish the final chapter. A sudden heavy thump startles him.
Startled by a loud thump, he wonders who could possibly be knocking at such a late hour.
The persistent thumping sounds again, making him realize it is far too late for visitors. He cautiously moves toward the front door to see who is there as the thumping continues. The noise stops abruptly, leaving him to think it might have been a drunkard. Glowing paper floats in the air. He turns and spots the mysterious paper resting on his floor, wondering where it came from. He picks it up and questions the meaning of receiving a gift he does not recognize. He is stunned as dark red energy suddenly erupts from the paper and surrounds him. Dark energy takes a human shape. Terrified, he cries out as the supernatural power begins to overwhelm him. The spirit of the red-haired man accepts his death with a grim smile. The specter looms over his creator, speaking of the immense time and effort he spent. The villain recounts a decade of losing his family, friends, and lovers in his quest for revenge. He admits his failure and confronts the novelist, who is stunned to see his own creation. The spirit reaches a hand out and asks for one final favor. A horrified scream rings out as the writer is pulled into a dark, swirling vortex. The villain smiles as he fades, telling his creator to do it for him.
The novelist's reality glitches and shatters as he falls into a dark, webbed abyss.
The man lies on a back. He slowly opens one red eye and lets out a confused sound. He sits up and wonders if he had simply passed out. He looks around the man room. He looks at his sleeve in shock and wonders what has happened to his clothes. He rushes toward the large mirror, desperate to understand why everything has changed. He stares into the ornate mirror. He realizes with a nervous laugh that he has possessed the body of his own creation. He confirms that he is now Arsène Adel, the most powerful villain in his own novel. A grand mansion stands at sunset, only days before his scheduled assassination. He recalls the Arsène family's demonic history and their fall due to the betrayal of 6 families. He sits on the floor reflecting on the weight of the Arsène family bloodline. He realizes the original Arsène brought him here as his creator after failing to achieve revenge. He fears he will die soon unless he uses a status window to help him survive. A blue system window confirms that while he is gifted, he cannot match the main characters. He clutches his head as he realizes the severity of his current situation. He finds he cannot control mana, a backstory detail that now threatens his life. His attention is taken by a sudden, quick flash of light from the bed. He remembers the parchment appeared just before he was brought into the novel. He grabs the paper, hoping it contains a way for him to survive despite his lack of power. He looks at the document and lets out a bewildered gasp. Arsène panics over the disappearing text and fears this might be his end. Glowing text appears on the mysterious gift as a strange energy hums. He reacts with shock as the paper asks him to answer yes or no. He questions the paper before realizing the spirit of Adele is behind it. He agrees to listen as the paper explains how to use information purchase. He writes a question about returning home but is told it is impossible. He decides to focus on immediate survival despite the disappointing answer. The creator prepares for his first move with renewed determination. A notification offers to imprint mana manipulation and trait usage for free. He accepts the gift and celebrates being able to feel the matter. He tests the dark sense-stealing ability known as his first trait, Darkness. A small success yields promising combat potential for the upcoming battle. He successfully manifests a terrifying killing aura to restrain his opponents. He believes ordinary people will fall to the aura while considering his teleportation talent. Arsène activates his position transfer skill and designates a specific target. He chooses a suit of armor to test the swap ability. The position transfer skill activates with a sudden burst of blue light. He reacts with surprise as he tumbles through the air mid-teleportation. He hits the floor with an irk and admits he needs more practice. He vows to succeed and survive no matter how many tries it takes. The leader urges his cavalry to hurry and ensure they kill the target. Night falls over the grand and silent Arsène family estate. Heavily armored boots walk across the stone floor of the mansion. Guards watch in silence as the executioners arrive at the door. Captain Feltz demands to know the current location of the target. Servants point toward the room where the silent Arsène is waiting.
They report that he hasn't moved at all for several days.
Feltz scoffs at the boy's seemingly pathetic and immobile state. The soldiers force their way through the double doors to attack. Arsène greets the captain calmly and asks if he intends to kill him. Feltz coldly orders his men to eliminate him as a soldier draws a sword. Arsène marks the attacking knight as his target for the position transfer. The knight's sword misses completely as they suddenly swap places. Arsène stabs the knight from behind with a quick and lethal strike. The captain watches the sudden and effective counterattack with visible shock. The novelist lands gracefully on the floor while blood spills from his foe.
Felt is furious and orders all of his men to gam.
Arson smashes through the glass window to escape your room.
He falls toward the ground from the high building after jumping.
He uses his talent to swap positions with a docker he threw.
He lets out a strange groan and resolves to reach the arson forest.
The captain orders a pursuit as the boy flees into the night.
The dark and misty forest looms ahead in the moonlight.
Heavy breathing fills the air as Arson runs deep into the woods.
He realizes that escaping the territory won't guarantee survival on its own. He plans to enter the demonic realm through the gate in the forest.
He hopes the demons will accept him if he shows them enough talent.
He sweats nervously and wonders if the knights have already caught up.
The captain orders his men to spread out as Arson hides hereby.
He moves cautiously through the trees, searching for the hidden forest gate.
Shock and alarm wash over Adele.
A massive explosion of light erupts. Feltz curses Adel for his slipperiness.
Adele maneuvers through the dark forest.
Adele realizes he only has a few transfers left and needs to find the gate quickly.
Adele begins to fear there is no way out.
Adel asks for the exact location of the demonic gate, but the response informs him that such information requires payment in gold or a relic.
Panicked breathing fills the air as Adele grips the paper.
A sudden burst of energy overwhelms Adele.
Adele hits the ground with a brunt.
A green glowing blade points at Adele while Feltz asks if his flight was driven by a simple desire to live.
Feltz declares that Adele will certainly die today, regardless of his wishes.
Blood drips from Adele's mouth as he tells his foe not to make him laugh.
Adele clutches the parchment and insists that he won't die because he still has one method left.
Adele resolves to attempt his final plan regardless of whether he survives.
Feltz mocks Adele's resistance and notes that he is acting like a true patriarch.
Adele questions why a group of adults is acting so dignified while hunting down a single child.
Feltz laughs and cruelly suggests Adele should have changed his career to being a nanny, though he doubts the boy could even manage that.
Feltz raises his sword and claims he originally intended a painless death, but now he will use Count Leon's blade to pierce Adele's heart.
Feltz lunges forward and orders the boy to die.
Adele smiles through the blood and decides that now is the time to act. A sudden quick glow emanates from the parchment. A blinding flash of light erupts.
A notification thanks Adele for his payment, noting it was barely enough, and begins guiding him to the forest gate.
Feltz gasps in shock as a sudden burst of energy surrounds the boy.
A portal opens with a roar. Adele successfully activates his transfer ability as a system window confirms he is moving.
Feltz watches a bright burst in the distance with total confusion.
Feltz blows a command for the boy to stop.
Adele lands on the ground and curses the captain for following him so far.
Adele spots the massive red portal and realizes he has finally found it. Feltz swings his sword and refuses to let the boy go.
Feltz chases Adele into the portal. A blade narrowly misses Adele's head.
Adele offers a chilling farewell, promising to see the night next time.
Adele mocks the captain from within the orange flames before disappearing. Feltz bellows in frustration after failing his mission.
Under a black sun, the captain observes that Adele has successfully entered the demonic realm. Adele chews thoughtfully on some food. Adele sits in a dark room and reflects that he woke up inside a man-made dungeon called the Secret Demonic Arts Place.
Adele eats jerky and wonders why there is food and a stone bed in a placement for protecting treasure.
Adele notices a barrier and a stone guardian, noting that this place built by a high-ranking family is full of strange aspects.
Adele admits that the guardian is terrifying just to look at. The magical parchment begins to glow.
The system warns Adele that he cannot offer objects he doesn't possess, or the exchange will fail.
Adele smiles as he realizes the spirit of Adele is actually letting things go this time.
Adele spots a strange stern maul.
Adele touches the stone and realizes he can sense things through his body's unique connection.
He tests the limits of his body.
Adele realizes he has found a way to deactivate the barrier and finds the situation quite a shame.
Adele realizes he needs another escape method. Adele observes a stone fragment that fell from the guardian and hopes things go his way. The system designates Adele's target for a position transfer. A sudden burst of light signals the activation of the transfer skill. Adele successfully outmaneuvers the guardian and celebrates his achievement.
The massive stone wolf guardian lets out a deafening roar.
A dark fortress stands beneath a foreboding black sun. A bucket spills with a splash as a master scolds his servant for the mess.
Patriarch Crete watches the argument from his high balcony.
Patriarch Crete of the Bears family is introduced with a grim expression.
Crete notes the estate is busy because his daughter will soon raid a hidden domain.
The patriarch finds the current situation particularly tricky. He notes that his daughter will receive entry into Saitan if she succeeds, but she will defy any order to fail. The daughter seeks entry to Satan only to gain revenge against the humans who killed her mother.
Crete sighs and wonders if the girl can survive a place filled with demon-like monsters.
A maid rushes through the doors to report urgent trouble to the patriarch.
Crete demands to know the reason for such a loud fuss.
The maid apologizes before reporting news of an unidentified person currently inside the hidden domain.
Crete questions the intruder's presence as the maid confirms there are no traces of the door being opened.
The maid reports the intruder touched a function only the Patriarch can use from the inside.
Crete suspects the person was forcefully summoned through a war arrogate. Crete dismisses the intruder as a dead man and orders focus on his daughter's exam.
He looks out the window and speculates the survivor might become a useful pawn. Adele lets out a loud ah as he is flung through the air. Adele catches his breath and realizes he almost died to the giant wolf.
He notes the barrier has disappeared but realizes leaving is still dangerous.
Adele wonders if the creature was also made of stone. The novelist resolves to try a new plan with a smile.
Adele designates the giant stone wolf as his transfer target.
He celebrates the success of the transfer as the wolf is displaced. The stone wolf guardian looks around in total confusion. Adele watches the monster struggle behind the barrier and notes the creature will likely perish.
Adele searches for the exit before stopping semi.
A massive mantis appears as Adele realizes there is a mission at every stage. Adele lets out a nervous gulp and notes this foe is more dangerous than the wolf. Adele dodges the mantis's strikes and confirms the enemies are inanimate.
He realizes swaps are possible as long as there's a target in the trap area.
Adele sprints forward through the dark stone hallway.
A mysterious message welcomes Adele for successfully reaching the end.
Adele is baffled that the dungeon would welcome an intruder.
He suspects he has entered a boss room and looks for an opponent.
A terrifying Death Knight monster looms over Adel.
Adel notes the Knight's force seems similar to the powerful Captain Felt's.
A message expresses respect for Adele's arrival as he designates the knight.
The Death Knight is swapped away with a sudden flash of light. Adele breathes a sigh of relief upon finding the massive treasure box.
He notes the chest is large and features an ornament engraved with a black dragon.
Adele kneels before the chest and examines the dragon emblem.
He reflects on the high-ranked demon families representing the deadly sins.
Adele panics upon realizing he has encountered the prideful Bears family and fears for his life. Adele decides to empty the treasure chest and flee immediately.
A sinister splash of dark liquid erupts from the Kingam.
He lets out a muffled oomph as the substance attacks him. He gasps, ugh, kiok, as the liquid is forcefully swallowed. Adele retches with a loud blar while collapsing in pain. A piercing scream of ah rings through the chamber. A sudden splatter of blood paints the stone walls. Adele huffs and wonders how long he was unconscious.
He recoils in shock upon discovering his left eye is black.
A system notification reveals he is now a half-demon.
The text describes his new eye trait, which increases dynamic eyesight.
Adele grins and feels his choice to come here was right. He spots a door and worries about the guards outside. He fears execution and considers begging for mercy to survive. He realizes he must hide his family insignia to live. A monstrous voice booms a demand to open the door. Adele flinches as the sudden shouting startles him. The Guardian mentions Her Highness is arriving, confusing the boy.
He realizes this domain was a test for high-ranking families.
Adele prepares to use his parchment to identify the owner. The magical paper demands a payment of gold or relics. Adele pays with 100 points of his maximum mana. A metallic clatter sounds as someone approaches the inner chamber.
A horned woman in white armor walks into view.
Adele breaks into a sweat and fears his end. He realizes the reward he stole was meant for Renee. Narration explains that Renee will soon confront him after her trial. Renee strikes down a stone guardian with a powerful slash.
Adele resolves to act out his desperate plan for survival.
He stands calmly as a blade is pointed at him. Renee stares coldly and demands to know who he is.
Adele kneels and welcomes her for successfully clearing the domain.
She remains skeptical and demands an immediate explanation for him. Adele lies that the Patriarch sent him as her bard. She narrows her eyes and questions his identity with suspicion.
Adele insists he is skilled and plans to use her.
She lets out a skeptical pff as he waits nervously. A sudden ringing sound accompanies a quick burst of light.
Renee gasps in surprise at the boy's sudden attunement.
Adele grabs her hand and promises to protect her effectively.
A sharp talk sounds as she reacts to his text.
Renee huffs and overlooks his presence for the moment.
She orders him to follow her to the Patriarch now.
Adele follows her while planning his fast as possible escape.
He promises not to be late as they leave. Renee stops suddenly as they step out into the open.
She spots an army and calls out to her father.
Patriarch Crete offers a chillingly amused oh-ho as he watches.
Adele is struck with pure terror upon hearing her words.
He panics as he realizes the Patriarch is waiting outside. Adele fears death if his stolen eye of Superbia is discovered and wonders why the man isn't reacting. Patriarch Crete asks Renee if she cleared the domain successfully.
Crete orders the group to fly.
Swallowing hard, Adele wonders about the Patriarch's true intentions. Trapped by guards and out of mana, Adele realizes escape is impossible. They arrive at the massive Gothic Bears mansion.
Adele stands nervously behind the high-ranking demon Patriarch.
Crete dismisses the others and orders them back to their quarters.
Crete commands Adele to wait for his later summons. Adele considers fleeing now that he is alone. Shadows and glowing eyes reveal he is being watched.
Crete sits alone in his office, contemplating the situation.
Crete acknowledges that the final task has been completed.
He asks Renee if she still insists on entering the training facility. Renee firmly confirms her intention to go. A tense silence settles between father and daughter.
Crete suddenly shifts the subject and asks Renee about the boy.
Renee recalls Adele's impressive display of magic.
Renee speaks highly of the boy, stating that he is strong.
Crete finds her positive assessment of the intruder quite intriguing. Crete grants Renee permission to head to Saitan as she wished.
Overjoyed by the news, Renee thanks her father enthusiastically.
Crete reflects on how the intruder survived and claimed her relic.
Adele grows restless while waiting for his inevitable summons. A guard arrives to lead Adele deeper into the mansion. Adele enters the patriarch's office to face him along. Crete eyes the boy with a cold, piercing gaze. Adele wonders what the powerful demon patriarch is thinking.
Crete smirks and calls the boy a bastard.
A terrifying aura erupts as Crete notes his daughter was fooled. Adele grunts in pain as the oppressive demonic energy crushes him. Pinned down, he lets out an as the floor nearly gives way. Adele desperately bets that the patriarch doesn't actually want him dead.
Crete hums with amusement at the boy's observation.
Adele huffs while struggling against the overwhelming demonic pressure. Crete asks the boy for his aim. Adele introduces himself as the dark energy begins to swirl. The boy is lifted into the air by the dark magic. Crete repeats the name as the boy is tossed backward. Adele demands to know what the patriarch wants from him. A shadowy dragon emblem is forcefully implanted into Adele's body. Crete orders him to maintain the lie as he gasps for air. The patriarch warns of the poison while the boy lets out a pained cry.
Crete dismisses the boy and tells him to wait for further orders.
Adele collapses, coughing as the patriarch tells him to leave. Gasping for air, Adele curses his predicament. A servant shows Adele to his new living quarters. Narration explains Adele has become a dependent of the bear's household. Adele realizes he is being completely used as a pawn. He rests on the bed, accepting his new, dangerous life. Adele focuses on the glowing dragon emblem on his chest and resolves to remove it, desperately hoping his plan will work. A sudden pat sounds as the bluestone dragon is successfully transferred into Adel's palm, confirming his theory that the object was inanimate. Adele holds out his fingers stained with dark liquid and tells the creature to eat it. The small dragon licks the substance as Adele realizes he must appease the creature in this way to make it sleep. Adele lies exhausted on his bed while the dragon snoozes on a paper nearby, relieved that he can finally relax and wondering how much of the throat trap has been removed. Drowsiness overtakes Adele as he remarks that he feels like he is about to pass out. A glowing blue status window appears before Adele, revealing his race as a half-demon and noting his position transfer talent has reached level 2. Adele smiles while resting on his pillow, acknowledging his skill upgrade but noting that his mana pool is still insignificant compared to typical story protagonists. His consciousness begins to fade as Adele drifts towards sleep. The dark-haired girl named Renee stares forward with a cold, displeased expression. Adele offers a nervous smile, noting that 3 days have passed since he was assigned as Renee's personal guard. As they walk through the stone garden, Renee remains silent, prompting Adele to reflect on her consistently cold reactions. Adele watches Renee walk away and reflects on his guilt as the author who created her difficult life. Adele looks surprised as a voice from above announces that the patriarch is calling for both of them. Renee and Adele stand before Patriarch Crete in his office as narration explains the leader previously denied her request to enter the Saitan training facility despite her success in the hidden domain. Patriarch Crete warns Renee that she would quickly perish in Saitan with her current abilities and fail to avenge her mother. Tense blue energy surrounds Renee while Adele feels increasingly out of place during the family confrontation. Patriarch Crete shocks both of them by offering to permit Renee's entrance if she agrees to take Adele as her guardian. Renee immediately rejects the offer by shaking her head as Adele wonders if she truly hates him that much.
Narration describes Saitan as a deadly location caught in conflict with the Imperial School where Renee and many other students originally died in the story.
Renee gazes into the distance as Adele questions why she is so determined to go to such a dangerous location. Adele realizes that Saitan might be the perfect location for him to gather power since he is already aware of the major incidents that will occur there. Adele accepts the arrangement but tells the Patriarch that he has a specific request in return. Patriarch Crete stares silently at the boy with a piercing gaze.
A nervous gulp sounds as Adele requests a reward related to mana, figuring he should gain whatever he can if he is going to be dragged into danger anyway.
Crete smirks and remarks that he expected the boy to ask for the removal of the poison.
Adele realizes the Patriarch is unaware that the worm poison has already been removed from his body. Calling him an arrogant bastard, Crete agrees to listen to the boy's mana-related request. Renee bows respectfully as Crete orders her to take her leave so he can speak with Adele alone. Adele continues to wonder if Renee's coldness stems from a deep-seated hatred for the idea of traveling with him. Waiting for the reward, Adele speculates whether he will receive a mana elixir or a magical artifact. Crete mentions a sensitive family treasure as the reason for dismissing his daughter, confusing the boy.
Crete notes Adele's low mana reserves and offers to help him, claiming it is the least he can do since the boy will be dying in his daughter's place. Enveloped in purple light, Crete orders Adele to come closer so he can transfer the bear's family's mana cultivation technique to him.
Adele is stunned that the patriarch would share such a secretive and powerful family technique. A mystical chant to the demon god echoes through the room as purple energy flows into Adele's body.
A pained ha escapes Adele as he kneels amidst the swirling demonic energy.
Crete is impressed that Adele remains sane during the chant, calling him an interesting individual.
Adele gasps at the revelation that mana will now be bestowed upon him directly by the demon god. Crete adds that the boy's family appears to be related to the 7 deadly sins.
Smirking, Crete claims it wouldn't matter even if the boy were a spy now that the worm poison is planted within him.
Adele remains silent and confused because he doesn't remember creating a setting where his family was related to the sins.
Later, Adele sits atop a stone in the forest to practice, fearing his new mana could go out of control.
He understands that accepting this demonic energy means he can never use human mana again. Adele closes his eyes and accepts the change, knowing he has no other choice.
A terrifying roar sounds as glowing blue eyes appear within the deep, dark energy. A mysterious voice within the darkness calls the boy a mongrel.
Adele is filled with dread as he realizes a powerful entity is addressing him.
The dark presence claims Adele carries the blood of a filthy traitor rather than the lineage it expected.
Shaking with fear, Adele asks the entity if it is the demon god itself.
An entity with glowing red pupils within blue eyes identifies itself as the god of pride. Adele sweats nervously and asks the entity if it intends to kill him. The god of pride dismisses the threat, claiming Adele would have died the moment he spoke if that were the case.
The entity admits that for some reason it doesn't want to kill him, leaving the red-haired boy bewildered. Sensing a shared sin and kinship, a purple light brands the boy as the entity explains he can now wield its power, warning him not to succumb to pride. Adele realizes he has gained the power of a demon god and 3 extra lives thanks to the mysterious mark. Adele notes the mark on his neck is like a tattoo that will eventually cover his body. Meanwhile, a dark figure watches him from the shadows.
Sensing a presence nearby, the red-haired boy looks around with a confused expression.
A sudden shock hits Adele as he spots Renee watching him from behind a large tree.
Panicking, Adele wonders why Renee is there and if she managed to overhear his conversation with the powerful entity. Looking up at him with wide blue eyes, Renee asks if the red-haired boy is a dark priest.
Completely blindsided by her question, Adele can only offer a stunned response. A month passes since Adele received the mark, and a blue status window shows his mana has surged to over 1,000. Pleased with his progress, Adele reflects on how his mana tripled in a short time due to his focus and interest traits. Adele smiles confidently, believing he can eventually surpass the human realm's heirs and conquer the hidden domain.
Adele's train of thought is interrupted by Renee training with her sword nearby, making him wonder why she isn't at the training grounds.
The red-haired boy calls out to the girl, politely addressing her as she stops her practice. Renee turns to acknowledge Adele, holding her sword behind her head. Adele is relieved she is no longer avoiding him, yet he realizes she deeply misunderstands him as a priest. He understands that in this world, only dark priests can communicate with the demon god, which explains her confusion. Renee jumps slightly when Adele addresses her again, her expression showing surprise.
Adele requests that she treat him in the same manner she used to, despite her new perception of him.
The dark-haired girl hesitates, looking unsure of how to respond to his request.
Adele gently urges her to treat him comfortably rather than with the reverence shown to a priest.
The red-haired boy offers a warm smile as he waits for her to accept. Renee immediately changes her tone and demands that he bring her some water. Adele is taken aback by her sudden bossiness, his face surrounded by cute bird icons. While stretching her leg high, Renee explains she is tired and thirsty after training. Adele notes her attitude shifted remarkably fast.
Renee commands him to hurry up, and Adele begrudgingly accepts his fate of doing whatever she asks.
Adele serves tea to the horned girl as she sits on a stump while a bird watches from a tree branch above.
Looking frustrated, Adele realizes he needs to conquer a domain soon, but Renee's constant presence makes it difficult. Narration explains that he needs a specific treasure from the domain to survive in Saitan before the main character arrives. Deciding to try and distract her, the red-haired boy addresses the dark-haired girl once more.
Adele asks how her preparations for Saitan are going, prompting Renee to wonder why he is asking so suddenly.
Explaining his concern about the vicious humans she will face, Adele claims he is only asking because he is worried for her. Renee states she has packed everything, but Adele asks if she is absolutely sure about that. He suggests she go back and double-check her belongings so she isn't troubled later. Adele continues to feign worry, reminding her that he is her escort after all.
Renee stares at him with a flat expression and bluntly calls him a liar.
The red-haired boy is caught off guard as Renee asks where he is trying to go behind her back.
A menacing blue aura surrounds Renee as she asks if he is sick of her, sending a chill down Adele's spine.
Panicking, Adele quickly lies that he only wanted to conquer a nearby domain for her safety. Renee remains silent as she processes his explanation while Adele desperately hopes she believes him.
Suddenly, Renee claims she has remembered what she had forgotten, giving Adele a moment of hope.
Adele is confused when Renee mentions she is warming up instead of heading back to the mansion.
A glint of metal appears as Renee begins to unsheath her sword, leaving Adele wondering what she means.
Renee declares that she will be going with him to the domain, shattering Adele's plan to go alone.
Renee tells him to hurry up and lead the way as the red-haired boy sighs in defeat.
They arrive at the eerie domain of the Undying, a dark cemetery filled with crosses and skulls under a swirling sky.
Renee confirms that she is familiar with the location Adele mentioned.
Adele observes Renee's unease and realizes the domain is likely high level.
He notes the increasing danger but finds comfort in having Renee's assistance.
Adele worries that traveling together will make escaping the mansion more difficult.
Smiling, the red-haired boy asks Renee if coming along is a burden.
Adele warns her about the patriarch's potential anger, but Renee remains unconcerned.
The dark-haired girl reveals that she knows of a secret exit.
Renee leads Adele to a hidden passage within the mansion's walls.
Adele remarks on her surprising familiarity with this secret escape route. Looking at Renee's silence, Adele assumes she sneaks out of the mansion often. Renee urges them to leave quickly before they are caught.
The two companions trek across a treacherous and fog-covered mountain path.
Adele asks how much farther they have to travel to reach their destination.
The red-haired boy nearly reveals too much about his knowledge of the area.
A sudden, sharp clatter sounds as a stone falls from the path.
Adele announces their arrival as the atmosphere grows increasingly ominous. A chilling wind howls across the desolate and ruined stone domain.
Renee curses the location while Adele struggles to translate her unique insult.
Adele reminds himself to keep his true bloodline a secret from Renee.
He identifies the correct spot to enter and suggests they start digging.
Adele finds the entrance, knowing rotting soldiers protect the grounds below.
Renee rejects Adele's offer to lead and insists on going first.
Adele finds the interior of the tomb surprisingly well lit as they descend. Renee points deeper into the dark, cavernous hallway. She confirms they have arrived at the correct spot within the domain.
Adele is unsettled by the massive amount of fresh graves surrounding them.
The pair draws their weapons as they prepare for an inevitable fight. A skeletal hand suddenly bursts through the dried earth.
Numerous skeleton soldiers rise from their graves surrounded by eerie blue light.
The duo finds themselves completely surrounded by the encroaching undead swarm.
Adele tells Renee he will leave the main combat to her.
Renee's blade thrums with powerful blue energy as she prepares her attack.
She moves like a blur, shattering the skeleton soldiers with one strike.
Adele realizes a necromancer must be nearby, controlling the endless swarm. He parries an attack and promises to catch up to Renee shortly.
A high-pitched hum sounds as the shattered bones begin to glow.
Renee watches in disbelief as the fallen skeletons begin to reassemble.
The dark-haired girl gasps when she realizes the skeletons are reviving.
A massive skeletal entity appears and mocks the intruder's lack of fear. The caster orders their elimination while Adele identifies it as the source.
Adele shouts for Renee to keep advancing despite the growing undead army. A sharp gasp escapes Adele as a skeleton lunges from the speed.
He shatters the attacker with a precise blow from his dagger.
Adele claims he has an easy way to clear the domain. Renee leaps through the air toward the giant skeletal caster.
The caster frantically orders the undead to stop the advancing intruders.
Adele urges forward, knowing they must reach the caster's org.
He plans to break the orb to unlock a new ability. A massive armored skeleton appears and swings a heavy blade at Renee.
Adele shouts a warning, realizing the battle will not be easily won.
The dark-haired girl lets out a thunderous shout as her eyes glow with intense white light. A powerful force shatters the massive skeletal creature into countless fragments. The red-haired boy rushes past the crumbling remains of their giant foe. A blue system notification designates the target for his position transfer skill. As a sudden quick tap sounds, Adel leaps toward the hooded necromancer holding a glowing red orb.
He smirks as he realizes his new ability allows him to swap objects instantly.
Adele activates his exchange ability with a determined, concentrated shout.
The skeletal caster's hand begins to pixelate as the precious red orb slips away. Plucking the orb from the air, the red-haired boy smiles and compliments his own catch.
The necromancer lets out a panicked cry of refusal as his plan falls apart.
A violent purple explosion erupts, completely obliterating the skeletal caster.
Standing amidst the debris, the duo hears the caster's final, confused question before it fades.
Adele celebrates their success while Renee happily confirms their hard-earned victory.
The red-haired boy offers a silent word of gratitude to the fallen.
He prays for the peace of those lost in a tragedy he once penned himself.
Renee asks if any tusks remain, prompting Adele to mention it is time for rewards.
A large, ornate treasure chest emanates a mysterious blue glow among the scattered bones.
The domain's treasures include a dagger forged from Demon Realm steel and an artifact ring.
Adele admires the dark dagger as it hums with a powerful magical resonance. He smiles confidently, knowing the weapon will perfectly complement his darkness trait.
Looking at the ring, the red-haired boy decides he has little personal use for it.
He offers the artifact ring to the dark-haired girl, keeping the dagger for himself.
Renee accepts the gift while Adele prepares to hand it over to her.
The red-haired boy asks to assist as he gently takes the girl's hand. With a soft, sliding sound, Adele places the artifact ring onto her finger. Renee is completely stunned, her face turning a bright, vibrant shade of red. The horned girl begins to tremble uncontrollably while Adel looks on with a puzzled expression. He wonders if the gesture holds a different meaning for demons as he asks her opinion. A radiant blue energy swirls around Renee's hand as the ring's power activates. Renee finds the artifact's power incredible while Adele begins collecting the gold on the floor.
The red-haired boy happily scoops up piles of gold coins as his personal reward.
A sudden heavy clang rings out as Renee's sword strikes the ground near his head.
Facing her cold stare, Adele nervously promises to distribute the gold perfectly and fairly.
Narration explains they return to the mansion before dinner after successfully clearing the domain. A status window reveals Adele is a half-demon with a mana pull nearing 1300. Adele is pleased to reach a mana level equivalent to a mid-rank demon.
A few days later, the black-haired patriarch Crete summons both Adele and Renee. Crete informs the two that it is finally time for them to enter Saiton.
He explains that they must head to the capital today for their academy entrance. When the patriarch asks about their status, both youngsters confirm they are fully prepared.
Crete dismisses them without looking back, stating that no formal farewell is necessary.
The dark-haired girl remains silent, looking down with a somber and dejected expression. Renee gives a deep, respectful bow to her father before preparing to leave. Adele announces his departure alongside the girl as they turn toward the exit. Just as they leave, the patriarch calls out to the red-haired boy by name. Looking over his shoulder, Crete offers a final word of encouragement for their journey. With a grateful smile, Adele acknowledges the patriarch's surprisingly kind parting words. A grand two-horse carriage waits in the courtyard surrounded by the mansion's staff. A servant announces their immediate departure to the capital as they load the luggage. Adele boards the carriage, reflecting on the hidden affection even demon parents feel for their children. Adele worries about his uncertain future.
As the carriage thunders along, a series of rhythmic thumps sounds.
A loud rattling sounds as the wheels traverse the road. A sudden clatter sounds as the carriage bounces along.
Adele wonders if he accidentally upset Willet.
Renee stares silently out the carriage window. Renee finds the red-haired boy surprisingly good-looking. Renee doubts Adele's underwhelming combat power and lack of presence. Both companions wonder why the other is staring so intently. The dark-haired girl questions why she still doubts Adele. Renee silently examines the artifact ring on her finger.
A sudden flush of heat sounds as Renee blushes deeply.
Narration reveals a ring gift signifies an eternal vow in the demon realm.
Renee wonders what kind of vow Adele intended to make.
The dark-haired girl remains curious about her companion's true thoughts. Adele announces their arrival at the capital is imminent. Their long journey finally nears its final stage. With a sudden, quick huff, Renee turns away from him. Renee abruptly ends the conversation to take a nap. The grand demon capital looms ahead in the distance. Adele admires the massive scale of the demon capital. The red-haired boy notes the city's medieval human architecture. Adele identifies an elite demon by the tattoo on his neck. Renee's footsteps echo with a series of quick taps. Renee prioritizes registration for the academy's entrance exam. The dark-haired girl rejects the idea of touring the city. The girl hurries off with a sudden, rapid scurry. Adele struggles to understand his companion's confusing backstory. The bustling chatter of a crowd fills the massive academy grounds. A bald clerk informs an applicant of their successful registration. Adele approaches the registrar's desk to begin his application.
The bald clerk questions Adele's status as a non-demon.
A loud crack sounds as the clerk slams his hand down.
Adele sighs as the clerk rants about the past war.
The clerk continues his insults as Renee suddenly intervenes. Renee approaches the registrar's desk with a firm presence.
The clerk recognizes Renee's horns as symbols of high nobility.
Renee identifies herself as a member of House Bears. Renee presents the red-haired boy as her personal guard. The registrar mocks House Bears for its choice of bodyguard.
A menacing blue aura radiates from Renee as she threatens the clerk.
The intimidated clerk quickly backtracks and asks for Adele's identity.
Adele reflects on the historical hostility demons feel toward half-demons.
The red-haired boy suggests they find local accommodations immediately.
They arrive at a clean tavern to stay for the night. Adele notes their limited financial resources for the month.
House Bear's recent poverty has left them with a tight budget.
Adele asks the receptionist for a room for 2 people. Renee flinches as her face turns a bright shade of red. Renee demands separate rooms while the receptionist agrees. The receptionist quotes 2 gold coins for 2 days of lodging and meals while Adele notes the reasonable human currency conversion.
Renee announces she is heading up to the rooms first while the red-haired boy remains in the tavern lobby.
Adele smiles as he promises to bring the luggage up soon and tells Renee to enjoy her rest. Looking back from the stairs, the dark-haired girl quietly returns the sentiment to her companion. The red-haired boy realizes this is Renee's first time staying in a tavern after a lifetime in a massive mansion.
The Grand Academy building stands tall. An armored guard directs the crowd of applicants to head inside and follow the official instructions. Walking through the courtyard, Adele wonders if over 100 people have gathered for the academy exam.
Adele realizes many applicants want to defeat humans and resolves to keep his half-demon identity hidden.
An announcement directs everyone to present their IDs while Adele wonders what they are intended to board. A massive train reaches the platform.
The red-haired boy expresses surprise at the unexpected appearance of a magical locomotive.
Narration explains the train is the only way through the maze-like dimensional gates guarding the Academy of Satan.
Looking out the window, Adele is stunned by the scale of the massive fortress.
A sudden jolt rattles the car as an announcement warns everyone to brace for their arrival at Satan.
Adele winces as bright light fades.
Standing before a magnificent white palace, both companions confirm they have finally reached their destination.
A guide directs all applicants to leave the train and proceed immediately toward the auditorium. Applicants enter the ornate hall.
Looking around the interior, Adele feels completely overwhelmed by the massive scale and luxury of the auditorium.
Adele notices the crowd is mostly young demons and wonders if other noble heirs are present.
Observing a group on the balcony, Adele identifies them as academy instructors based on their unique dark uniforms.
The red-haired boy hopes making a good impression on the instructors will make his future life easier.
A sudden, sharp voice from the stage declares that the time for arrival is officially up.
A heavy, sudden thud sounds.
Mysterious blue light fills the auditorium.
Adele wonders if magical effects change the lighting as he anxiously anticipates the coming entrance exam.
A sudden, thunderous silence sounds.
A woman with wavy hair and a dark crown descends a staircase toward the gathered students. Sharp pink eyes scan the students.
The woman welcomes the applicants to Satan while calling them a group of brainless, idiotic fools.
Adele feels incredible pressure from the woman's voice as she mocks those eager to die this year.
The woman smiles with dark intent.
Headmaster Lucian announces the immediate start of the exam as a massive wave of blue energy explodes outward.
A sudden, sharp coo sounds as Adele struggles against the pressure while Renee urges him to focus.
Applicants collapse under the force.
The purple-haired instructor and his female colleague observe the struggling crowd from their balcony.
The female instructor notes the headmaster's twisted taste while the man argues that mental strength is vital for talent.
Narration reveals the mental endurance test ensures applicants can withstand interrogation and keep secrets if captured by humans.
The purple-haired man notes that nearly everyone has collapsed after only 5 minutes of the trial.
Lucian declares that is enough.
The short-haired woman expresses disappointment that only 8 people remain standing despite the large pool of applicants.
The purple-haired instructor feels relieved that 40% of the group lasted at least 5 minutes.
He notes that rumors of the 7 deadly sins heirs attending this intake seem to be true.
The man with the neck tattoo questions the identity of the red-haired boy who looks like an outsider.
The woman is impressed that the boy has managed to stay sane for almost 10 minutes. Shaking uncontrollably, Adele struggles on the floor as the instructors assume he cannot last much longer.
The man senses something strange.
A sudden, violent explosion of dark and red energy erupts from Adele, catching the instructors off guard.
The instructors watch in disbelief. Lucian watches with keen interest as the swirling energies of the trial intensify around the remaining applicants.
A sudden, dark energy erupts from the red-haired boy as a frantic voice declares his presence to be dangerous.
The purple-haired instructor's eyes widen in terror as he reaches for his weapon, shouting that they must kill the boy immediately.
Narration notes that the red-haired boy initially seemed unremarkable as he struggled against the weight of the test.
Sensing a sudden shift in the atmosphere, the purple-haired instructor wonders what is happening as an emotionless killing intent fills the room.
Dark shadows loom over the boy as narration compares his aura to the cold, detached intent of a mass murderer rather than a simple beast.
Instinct takes over as the purple-haired instructor's hand flies to the hilt of his sword while every other instructor fixes their gaze on the boy.
Waves of blue energy ripple through the air as Lucian stands firm, her expression unreadable.
From her high vantage point, the pink-haired headmaster looms over the applicants, her presence dominating the entire hall.
Sweat beads on the purple-haired instructor's brow as he finds himself feeling genuinely nervous against a mere student applicant.
A woman with wavy, light-colored hair and a scar across her eye watches the unfolding chaos with a silent, knowing smile.
With a sudden, heavy thud, another exhausted applicant collapses onto the cold floor. Gasping for breath, Adele realizes he is on the verge of losing his mind and desperately searches for a way to endure the pressure. A plan forms in his mind as he wonders if releasing his own killing intent could effectively counter the headmaster's oppressive aura. Gritting his teeth, the red-haired boy decides he has no other choice but to unleash his hidden power.
A sudden, deafening roar sounds as Adele erupts in a violent explosion of red and black energy.
Watching the boy's surprising resilience, Lucian considers increasing the intensity of the trial even further.
A manic, dark grin spreads across the boy's shadowed face as he pushes himself just a bit further.
The hall shakes with a series of rhythmic thuds as the two powerful auras clash violently. Lujian's eyes widen in genuine surprise as she realizes her pressure is being pushed back.
A long, exhausted huff sounds as Adele struggles to catch his breath after the energy surge dissipates.
Standing tall amidst the fallen, the red-haired boy realizes his gamble worked as the red aura stabilizes around him. Feeling much better, Adele quickly turns his attention toward Renee to check on her status.
A sudden, unsteady wobble sounds as Renee struggles to remain standing, though Adele notes she is holding out better than expected.
A sharp-eyed boy with messy brown hair is identified by a golden plaque as Baltan, the heir of envy.
A woman with long, dark hair and sharp horns is identified as Prone, the heir of lust.
A boy with glowing green eyes and dark curls is identified as Samuel, the heir of gluttony.
Two shadowed figures are identified as Aaron, the heir of sloth, and Guar, the heir of greed.
Adele reflects on the tragic fate of these characters, knowing they were written to be killed by the future hero's party. He counts 6 of the legendary heirs present in the room, including Renee.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Adele's attention is captured by a final, unexpected figure.
He stares intensely at a cascade of long, flowing white hair.
Narration identifies the girl's striking red eyes and her crown of thorns.
Fear grips the red-haired boy as he recognizes the girl as the future's most terrible villain.
The white-haired girl is revealed as Diana, the heir of wrath and the future demon lord.
A sudden, sharp whistle sounds as an announcement declares the official end of the first exam. Adele puzzles over Diana's presence, knowing the family of Wrath typically provides the Demon King and shouldn't be here as a mere student.
He wonders if some unknown event has fundamentally altered the history he knows.
Despite his confusion, a relieved smile crosses his face as he realizes he didn't fail.
Enraged noble applicants begin to protest the results, demanding to know what kind of exam would treat them so poorly.
A sudden, wet squelch sounds as the purple-haired instructor violently grabs a protesting student by the face.
The instructor glares with lethal intent, stating that he doesn't care about the student's family or status.
With a sudden, heavy thud, the student is thrown to the ground as the instructor warns them not to make him repeat himself.
Crossing his arms, the purple-haired man barks that anyone who couldn't last 5 minutes is useless and dismissed immediately.
A heavy metallic boom sounds as the massive academy gates slam shut on the failed applicants.
Watching the merciless dismissal, Adele feels a wave of relief that he managed to pass the first stage.
Looking toward the stage, Adele finally remembers where he recognizes the pink-haired headmaster from.
Narration identifies the pink-haired woman as Lujian, the headmaster of Saitan and one of the realm's strongest beings.
Gripping his sword hilt, the red-haired boy resolves to be even more cautious as the competition for the second exam narrows.
A sudden voice calls out to Renee, mocking her as the combat genius of the Bears family as Adele looks on in surprise.
Renee finds herself surrounded by several admiring applicants.
Adele notes the heir's resilience against the pressure.
He wonders why his success remains unnoticed.
Renee approaches to confirm their mutual success. Adele hopes the faculty noted his performance.
A sudden, loud shout for attention sounds. Eris introduces himself as their future instructor.
Adele finds the man's appearance quite intimidating.
Ares praises their resilience during the trial.
He explains the test's purpose regarding Forture.
Ares announces that the 8 top performers receive extra points and potential weaponry access depending on the next exam.
Adele feels exceptionally lucky for his survival. He senses growing envy from his peers.
Ares begins detailing the second entrance exam.
Ares explains the second exam will test their abilities and weapons against humans.
Ares notes that class assignments may depend on their performance in the coming test.
Adele ponders the identity of their human opponent.
Ares prepares to reveal their human adversary.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Eris triggers a magical manifestation.
Brilliant blue energy swirls within all.
A powerful figure begins to take form. A massive blade materializes amidst the light.
Adele recognizes the legendary hero Nanai-Sal. The summoned warrior stares ahead with intensity.
Adele is stunned by the hero's presence.
Renee asks if Adele identifies the warrior.
Narration details Nanai-Sal's importance to history.
His legendary bloodline is mentioned with reverence.
He is revealed as the protagonist's father.
Applicants fear they are being fab. Adele recalls the hero's many past victories.
Ares clarifies that the applicants aren't expected to withstand the hero's full force, as he will only use 10% strength.
Renee notes that they wouldn't stand a chance if the hero used his full power.
A student questions if 10% is too easy, but another argues a weakened monster is still a monster.
Adele reflects that 10% of the Sword Saint's power could still destroy an entire city. Ares explains that they will be divided into teams of 4, with the top 8 separated for fairness.
Adele realizes he is considered elite talent.
Renee deals with her many starstruck admirers.
Adele ignores the whispers regarding his luck. His attention is taken by a series of sudden, quick taps sounding on his shoulder.
Renee offers a parting wish for him to pass and return safely.
Adele returns the sentiment with a smile.
Aries starts calling the names for groups.
Aries announces Group 33 with Adele as leader and members Kina, Chris, and Sanchez.
He wonders about his unknown team members.
Adele observes the 3 members of his squad.
Adele introduces himself to the new group.
Chris and Kina greet their leader mournfully. Sanchez reacts with a sudden, sharp sounding as he turns away. Sanchez expresses outrage at Adele's leadership role, calling it a disgrace to his house.
Adele laments that even unknown applicants look down on him, wondering if the arrogant boy considers himself one of the 7 legendary heirs.
Shaking off the negativity, Adele encourages his team to perform their best as Chris and Kina enthusiastically agree to give it their all.
Stepping into his role as leader, Adele requests that his teammates share their specific abilities and weapons, starting with the silver-haired boy.
A sudden resonant chime sounds as Chris demonstrates his mana transformation ability, explaining how he can materialize and reshape a blue triangular prism.
Though lacking raw destructive force, Chris highlights the incredible versatility of his magic as Adele acknowledges the utility of the skill.
Impressed by the utility of mana transformation, Adele approves of Chris's contribution before calling on the blonde girl to present next.
Kina admits that she specializes in supportive roles rather than direct combat, leading Adele to assume she is a buff-type mage.
Enveloped in a warm orange glow, Kina explains that she prays to the demon god to grant her allies enhanced speed.
A sudden, brilliant radiance erupts as Kina unleashes her blessing, drawing a surprised reaction from the red-haired boy.
Visibly drained by the effort, Kina asks if her companions feel lighter, while Adele remains silent in contemplation.
Adele gives a lukewarm confirmation of her speed buff's effectiveness, prompting an indignant outburst from the hurt blonde girl.
Adele quickly reassures his teammate that he was only teasing, while Chris enjoys the lighthearted dynamic between his new companions.
Behind his smile, Adele privately reflects that her buff is exceptionally weak, making him wonder how she managed to pass the first trial.
Turning his attention to the final member, Adele calls upon the arrogant gray-haired boy to reveal his capabilities.
With a confident posture, Sanchez begins to manifest his power, causing jagged stone plating to encrust his legs and arms.
A sudden, powerful roar sounds as Sanchez completes his transformation, revealing a complete suit of hardened rock armor.
Adele recognizes the hardening ability as an ideal trait for a defensive tank role within their small squad.
After showcasing his own strength, the gray-haired boy aggressively demands that Adele finally demonstrate his own hidden abilities.
Moving in a sudden, blinding flash of blue energy, Adele catches the arrogant boy completely off guard with his speed.
Reappearing like a phantom, Adele's red eye gleams as he calmly identifies his ability as teleportation.
Having proven his point with effortless precision, Adele confirms his role while the gray-haired boy stands paralyzed by the sudden display of skill.
Kina and Chris express genuine amazement at the rare teleportation skill, while Adele graciously accepts their enthusiastic praise.
Laying out a clear tactical plan, Adele assigns the defensive specialist to the front line while he takes the center with support from the rear.
Adele checks in with his team regarding the strategy, receiving a positive response from Kina and a begrudging silence from the prideful warrior.
The booming voice of the instructor signals the start of the second trial, heightening Adele's focus as the moment of truth arrives.
Following the official command, the 4 members of Group 1 nervously step forward to face their legendary opponent.
Adele notes the fierce determination in the eyes of the first group, even as they prepare to battle a living legend.
A sudden, sharp whistle sounds as Nine Cell prepares his sword.
With a sudden, deafening boom, the Sword Saint unleashes a single, overwhelming wave of energy that sends the entire group flying back. The raw power on display leaves Adele and his companions speechless as they witness the true gap in their strength.
A sudden, pained scream sounds as a fallen applicant struggles against the lingering effects of the devastating energy strike.
Dreading what's to come, Adele realizes he couldn't even track the hero's movements despite the man using only a fraction of his strength.
Aries calls for Group 2.
A sudden, agonizing grunt sounds as the members of the second group are instantly neutralized by a single, casual strike.
Watching the brutal efficiency of the exam, Kina trembles in fear while her teammates brace themselves for their inevitable turn.
Eris orders the members of Group 4 to step forward, maintaining the rapid pace of the examination.
One applicant from the group openly declares their certain defeat, arguing that there is no point in attempting the impossible challenge.
Aries stares at the cowards.
Granting the coward's wish, Aries allows 2 students to skip the test and asks if the remaining pair still intends to proceed.
One determined student agrees to attempt the trial alone, drawing a sharp, surprised reaction from the observing Adele.
Adele puzzles over their choice to proceed, suspecting that the true requirement for passing might involve courage rather than victory.
Chris questions why some students are allowed to bypass the fight, but Adele clarifies that they were likely just dismissed.
Cell faces the remaining there. Adele reflects that 2 people have no hope of handling the Sword Saint, deciding to observe the results for a bit longer.
The hero clears the arena. A sudden pain scream sounds as Adele realizes the applicants would be dead if the hero used his true power.
Chris wonders if defeating such a monster is even possible, while Sanchez tries to act tough despite his visible nerves.
Adele secretly notes that the arrogant boy's legs are shaking uncontrollably despite his dismissive words about facing a human hero.
Group 5 enters the fray. Group 9 meets their end. A sudden, quiet resignation sounds as the members of Group 10 decide to forfeit their attempt at the exam. Aries calls for the next group as narration notes that 5 teams have already withdrawn without landing a single meaningful strike on the legendary hero. Facing the unbeatable Sword Saint, a new squad prepares for a battle with no rules against quitting mid-match.
A sudden resonant ring sounds as the hero's massive blade connects with an applicant's defensive shield.
Watching from the sidelines, Chris expresses awe at the block, while Adele observes that the applicant's skills are improving as the test continues. After observing the ongoing matches, Adele concludes that he has finally identified the true requirement for passing the second trial. With their turn approaching, Sanchez notes the time while the blue-haired boy expresses his overwhelming nervousness. Adele informs his teammates that he has discovered the secret to success, prompting a confused reaction from the gray-haired warrior.
Adele explains that the real criterion for passing is demonstrating the courage to fight until the end against an overwhelming force.
Flashing a confident smile, Adele prepares to suggest a radical and daring tactical change to his companions.
A sudden, sharp shing sounding as Adele draws his dagger and suggests that their squad should aim to actually defeat the hero.
Chris and Kina enthusiastically agree to the high-stakes gamble while Sanchez reacts with pure shock at the proposal. Adele reflects on his hidden nature, convinced that his specific talents as a villain will allow him to secure a victory.
A sudden, powerful rumble sounds as Group 33 charges into the arena with their magical abilities fully activated. Facing the silent warrior, Adele takes command and instructs his squad to maintain their assigned positions without letting nerves take over.
Chris and Sanchez acknowledge the order, with the gray-haired boy maintaining his typical arrogant and dismissive attitude.
A sudden, gathering hum sounds as the hero begins to manifest a surge of brilliant blue mana around his form. Adele lets out a sudden, frantic shout warning his teammates that the opponent's attack is commencing.
A sudden deafening boom sounds as the legendary hero unleashes a massive sweeping wave of blue energy across the floor.
Chris stares in wide-eyed horror as the impact of the energy wave instantly shatters his protective mana prism.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Adele orders Kina to move quickly and protect their falling teammate from further harm.
Responding instantly, Kina uses her magic to intercept the blue-haired boy and mitigate the impact of his fall.
Adele yells for his frontline defender while the rock-armored warrior grunts with the strain of holding his ground. A sudden, low whistle sounds as the hero follows up with a second, even more powerful energy strike.
A sudden, pained grunt sounds as Sanchez's hardened rock armor begins to fracture under the intense pressure of the blow. Having successfully withstood the heavy strike, the gray-haired boy lets out a triumphant shout while Adele offers quick praise.
Analyzing the flow of combat, Adele spots a brief vulnerability in the hero's pattern just before a secondary strike.
Despite seeing an opportunity, Adele's primal instincts warn him that approaching the hero now would be a fatal mistake. Adele privately wonders if the hero is intentionally baiting them or if his movements are guided by a sophisticated artificial intelligence.
Predicting the next move, Adele orders his team back into their defensive formation for an incoming follow-up attack.
A sudden, sharp crack sounds as Chris desperately attempts to reform his failing mana shield against the pressure.
Observing the battlefield, Adele realizes that his companions have reached their absolute limits as their defenses continue to crumble.
Adele expresses grave concern at the devastation caused by a single strike, urging his team to endure for just a bit longer.
A sudden gathering hum sounds as the hero raises his weapon once more, prepared to unleash another wave of energy.
Adele braces for the worst as he realizes the hero is about to repeat his overwhelming and relentless assault.
A sudden blinding boom sounds as a massive eruption of blue mana completely engulfs the squad's defensive position. A sudden pained scream sounds as Sanchez reels from the blast, shocked by the terrifying increase in the hero's power. Frantically shouting orders, Adele tells his team that they must find the strength to survive or face certain death.
A sudden, frustrated curse sounds as Adele notes they are the first team to block this far, questioning the hero's brutality.
The legendary Sword Saint stares ahead with cold, unyielding eyes, showing no signs of fatigue or mercy toward the applicants.
Surrounded by swirling blue energy, the hero maintains his combat stance while preparing to deliver a final maneuver.
A sudden, heavy groan sounds as the blue-haired boy collapses on the ground, his strength and mana completely depleted.
Kneeling beside her fallen teammate, the blonde girl asks about his condition while he struggles to remain conscious.
Reaching out to the injured boy, Adele asks for his trust one last time as they prepare for a final gambit.
The gray-haired boy expresses panicked disbelief at his leader's actions as the hero begins his final offensive approach.
In response to his teammates' concern, Adele calmly confirms that he has a definitive plan to end the battle.
Radiant with dark and lethal intent, Adele's inner thoughts reveal a vow to personally strike a blade into the hero's throat.
A sudden chilling hush sounds as Chris and Kina look up at Adele with expressions of pure horror and shock.
A sudden, gathering roar sounds as the legendary hero channels an immense quantity of mana into his next strike.
A sudden, frantic scream sounds as Sanchez warns his companions that the hero is coming directly for them.
Adele informs a panicked Sanchez that he must defend without their teammates' barrier.
A sudden, resonant ring sounds as the hero channels a massive surge of blue power.
Sanchez screams in agony as the hero's energy wave begins to crush his defenses.
A sudden, deafening boom sounds as a massive eruption of mana clears the entire arena. Utilizing his unique skill, Adele initiates a rapid position transfer to escape the blast.
Having successfully avoided the strike, Adele reappears directly behind the unsuspecting legendary hero. Adele designates a final target position as the hero prepares for a counterattack. Descending from the air, Adele prepares to deliver a lethal strike with his dagger.
Adele lets out a sudden, frantic shout while swinging his blade toward the hero's neck.
A sudden, sharp shing sounds as Adele's dagger cuts through the air with incredible speed.
A sudden, violent crack sounds as red energy explodes at the point of contact. The two combatants clash in a desperate struggle of raw strength and magical power.
Gritting his teeth, Adel realizes he must endure the hero's pressure for just a bit longer.
Adele activates his secret darkness trait, unleashing a surge of black mana to consume his opponent.
A sudden gathering roar sounds as a massive vortex of shadow completely engulfs the battlefield.
Adele reflects on his narrow survival while noting that his darkness has successfully trapped the hero.
Trapped in a lightless void, the Sword Saint realizes he is now completely blind and vulnerable.
Adel brandishes his lethal dark weapon, noting its overwhelming advantage within this pitch-black space.
Vowing to secure victory, Adele prepares to unleash his full strength against the immobilized legendary hero.
Sensing a presence in the gloom, Nene's cell tenses as he prepares for an invisible strike.
A shadow looms within the dark haze as Adele closes in for the final confrontation.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the hero is caught off guard by an attack from the darkness.
Adele acknowledges the hero's monstrous resilience even while facing an impossible and lethal situation.
Surrounded by swirling shadows, Adele and the Sword Saint face off one last time.
Flashing a sinister and bloodied smile, Adel reveals his true, ruthless nature as a villain.
A sudden low hum sounds as Adele's dagger glows with an intense and lethal purple light.
Manifesting multiple blades of energy, Adele prepares to rain destruction down upon his trapped opponent.
Adele mockingly informs the hero that he has been lured into a final, inescapable trap.
A sudden, sharp whistle sounds as a barrage of dark daggers materializes in the void.
Adele clenches his fist to trigger a devastating rain of black blades against his target.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the darkness pierces through the legendary warrior's defenses.
Witnessed by the crowd, a massive pillar of shadow energy erupts from the arena floor.
Chris and Kina watch in wide-eyed horror as the dark energy consumes their legendary opponent. Observing the chaotic scene, Eris calmly notes that the battle has reached its conclusion.
A sudden, quiet top sounds as Adele's foot lands on the floor amidst fading clouds of shadow.
Standing tall amidst the fading smoke, Adele reveals himself as the sole survivor of the clash. The legendary Sword Saint lies defeated and unconscious on the ground before the victorious red-haired boy. The surrounding applicants are left in a state of pure shock by the impossible outcome. A wide shot of the stadium reveals the total silence following Adele's monumental and shocking victory.
Adele lets out a triumphant shout, finally celebrating his success in defeating the living legend.
Cheering wildly, Chris and Kina rush onto the arena floor to congratulate their teammate.
Chris expresses his absolute amazement at the feat, while Adele credits their collective effort.
Kina explains that their injured frontliner is safe under the care of the Academy's instructors.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as a relieved Adele sheathes his lethal dagger.
Glancing back at the fallen hero, Adele suggests that they should properly finish the encounter.
His teammates react with confused surprise, believing the fight had already reached its end.
A sudden, frantic twitch sounds as the hero's foot moves slightly on the arena floor.
Chris is frozen in horror as Adele prepares to deliver a final lethal blow to the hero.
Adele explains with a dark smile that they must ensure their enemy is truly dead.
Eris watches in grim silence as Adele prepares for one final cold-blooded strike.
Lounging regally atop a kneeling man, the noble lavender-haired girl dismissively acknowledges the half-blood boy's performance.
Her gray-haired attendant compares the boy's skills to Fran's, which the noble girl finds laughable and incomparable.
Watching from the balcony, Fran mocks the red-haired boy's supposedly inferior nature and predicts his true self will soon be exposed.
Resting her chin on her hand, the noble girl dismisses the entire spectacle below as nothing more than stupid and vulgar.
A sudden, intense hum sounds as the black-haired girl on the stairs begins to radiate a cold blue mana aura.
Stunned by the sudden display of power, Fran is left wondering about the identity of the mysterious girl.
Noting the familiar horns, Fran questions if this is Bear's and wonders why the girl is staring at her so intensely.
Despite her noble status, Fran begins to tremble in fear under the weight of the black-haired girl's soul-crushing bloodlust.
Observers in the crowd realize that a battle of intimidation has already begun between the heirs of the 7 deadly sins.
While her sycophantic attendants predict an easy victory for Fran, the noble girl begins to sweat under the stranger's pressure.
Observing the tension from the sidelines, Adele keeps a close watch on the brewing confrontation between the two powerful girls.
Identifying her as Renee, Adele notes with concern that the black-haired girl is radiating a massive amount of lethal intent. Aries looms over the group, addressing the red-haired boy as Pixie Adele with a casual yet dominant tone. Standing beside the massive purple-haired warrior, the red-haired boy looks up with a seemingly innocent expression. With a polite and closed-eyed smile, Adele asks why the giant is addressing him specifically. Aries finds it hard to believe that the boy is genuinely as clueless as he is pretending to be. Maintaining his cheerful mask, Adele calmly confirms that he has no idea what Aries is referring to. Turning his back to walk away, Eris warns the boy that he will be watching his every move from now on. Once Eris departs, Adel's expression shifts as he realizes he must focus his attention on the volatile Renee instead. Pink and blue energies clash silently in the air as the two girls maintain their aggressive combat stances. Surrounded by awestruck students, Adele notes that the two rival heirs are still engaged in their silent standoff.
Adele wonders about the identity of the girl with the long lavender hair who is standing across from Renee. He identifies the noblewoman as Laurel Fran, a prominent representative of the House of Lust.
Adele privately admits that his focus on the human world has left him largely ignorant of the demon world's politics. Laurel Fran's gaze narrows as her pink aura flares, signaling her intent to escalate the confrontation. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Fran finally notices the red-haired boy standing within the crowd.
Pointing a commanding finger toward him, Fran loudly calls out to the half-blood boy in front of everyone.
Adele is visibly startled and confused by the noble girl's sudden and aggressive shift in focus toward him.
To the absolute shock of the onlookers, Fran points at Adele and arrogantly commands him to become her personal slave.
A sudden, frantic shout sounds as someone screams Renee's name just as the black-haired girl prepares to strike.
With eyes glowing an intense blue, Renee launches herself into a high-speed aerial assault toward her rival.
A sudden, violent clang sounds as their blades meet in a massive explosion of mana and sparks.
Fran is left reeling and shocked by the sheer speed and savagery of Renee's unexpected counterattack.
A sudden, thunderous boom sounds as Ares intervenes, roaring for the two girls to stop their duel immediately.
Ares sternly reminds the applicants that unnecessary brawling within the Academy's walls is strictly forbidden.
The purple-haired giant orders them to resolve their personal petty problems outside the Academy's grounds.
Adele lets out a long, relieved sigh, grateful that the intervention prevented a major disaster between the noble houses.
Renee calmly sheathes her blade while a shaken Fran complains that the black-haired girl is completely insane.
Approaching with a concerned smile, Adele asks the black-haired girl if she is all right after the scuffle.
He informs Renee that her group is about to be called for their next assignment and that she should prepare.
A sudden soft rustle sounds as Renee reaches out toward Adele with a surprisingly gentle expression.
Renee uses a white cloth to carefully wipe the sweat and dirt from the red-haired boy's cheek. Offering a rare and quiet word of praise, the black-haired girl tells Adele that he did a good job. Fran watches the intimate interaction in wide-eyed horror, questioning what kind of scandalous relationship they share.
Adele appreciates the improved treatment he's receiving since passing the exam, noting the girl's change in attitude.
Looking him directly in the eye, Renee notes that Adele was clearly hiding his true strength to appear weaker.
Adele is caught off guard when an official announcement suddenly calls for Group 34 to step forward. Renee turns to join her group, promising that she will not reveal the secret of his hidden power to anyone. Standing alone, Adele wonders if his performance was really that transparent or if he simply looked like a priest.
A sudden, sharp demand sounds as a voice from off-panel orders the red-haired boy to state his name.
Confirming his identity, Adele answers the noble girl's demand by stating his name.
Laurel Fran acknowledges Adele's name as decent, and the red-haired boy asks why she called him over. Explaining that he interrupted her earlier, the noble girl demands that Adele abandon Renee and serve her instead.
Flaunting her pink aura, the noble girl orders Adele to witness her appeal and vows to humiliate her rival.
Declining the offer because his teammate's turn has arrived, Adele walks away as a shocked Laurel Fran wonders why her charm failed.
Ignoring the noble girl's frantic shouts, Adele wonders if he is about to witness the true extent of Renee's power.
Standing with her group, Renee is highlighted as a child of the 7 deadly sins whose strength carries high expectations.
Facing the glowing blue projection of the Sword Saint, Renee prepares for her turn as mana swirls around the arena. Observing the standoff, Adele notes that the intensity of Renee's aura is even more incredible than he previously imagined.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Renee firmly plants her boot to begin her advance. Enveloped in a brilliant blue mana shroud, Renee charges forward with incredible speed to confront the legendary projection.
Watching from the crowd, the orange-haired boy laughs and finds the black-haired girl's performance to be quite funny.
Adele watches in silent concern as Renee walks directly toward the Sword Saint, questioning what her strategy could be.
A sudden low hum sounds as Renee and the Saint face each other at point-blank range.
The two warriors lock eyes in a tense close-up, neither yielding an inch of ground to the other. Positioned for a decisive strike, the duelists stand poised as the air vibrates with concentrated mana. The camera focuses on their glowing eyes, capturing the absolute focus and lethal intent of both combatants.
A sudden, loud clang sounds as Renee's blade shatters the projection sword in a violent explosion of blue light. Stunned by the display of raw power, Adele and the other students are left completely shell-shocked. Following her crushing victory, Renee calmly walks away as the projection behind her dissipates into fading particles.
A sudden, thunderous woe sounds as the surrounding applicants erupt into wild cheers for Renee's effortless victory.
Ares dismissively acknowledges that the performance was not bad while the crowd continues to chant Renee's name.
Adele reels from the realization that Renee won the encounter with terrifying ease compared to his own struggle. Laurel Fron dismisses the feat, claiming Renee needs that much strength just to be a worthy opponent for her.
Adele asks the noble girl if the combined heirs of the sins could truly defeat the real Sword Saint.
Laurel Fron explains that no one currently alive can defeat the saint, though the previous Demon King might have succeeded.
Angrily claiming Adele is mocking her, the noble girl points out that the illusion was far weaker than the saint's true power.
Realizing he struggled against a weak fake, Adele acknowledges his ignorance of the demonic world despite being its creator. Despite his earlier difficulties, Adele feels a sense of intense anticipation for the future challenges beating in his heart. An official announcement calls for Group 35 as the narrative notes that only the heirs of the sins remain. Following Renee's lead, the other highborn children easily defeat the saint, with the orange-haired boy boasting about the simplicity.
Observing a mysterious girl with a crown of thorns, Adele notes that he already knows who the two strongest are.
Ares loudly announces the formal conclusion of the entrance exams and orders everyone to gather by the podium. Ares confirms that everyone who stood their ground and fought has passed the test, regardless of whether they won. Welcoming the survivors, Ares declares them official trainees and members of the elite Saitan Academy. Warning the new recruits, Ares predicts a hellish road ahead that will make many of them wish they had quit. Ares orders the passing students to prepare for the formal entrance ceremony occurring in 2 days. Ares singles out the 8 individuals who defeated the Sword Saint, ordering them to remain exactly where they are.
Renee questions the giant's motives while Adele suggests they are about to receive a reward in the secret armory.
Approaching the elite group, Ares confirms he is granting them the promised opportunity to enter the armory. Raising his hand to interrupt, the trainee named Baltan asks Ares for permission to speak. The orange-haired boy asks if they are allowed to leave with multiple weapons from the legendary armory. Identifying the boy as Lycan Baltan, the son of Envy, Adel notes his limitless greed and novel origins. Ares rejects the request, explaining that wielding multiple weapons would only hinder their focus and permitted only one. Turning to lead the elite group, Ares orders them to follow him toward the secret weapon vault. A sudden bright hum sounds as Ares activates a complex magic circle on the wall with his hand. Massive, ornate doors pulse with a brilliant blue mana as the secret entrance to the armory is revealed. Ares presents the armory as a formal perk of Saitan, warning them that their choices here will define their futures. Skeptical of the reward, Adele privately notes that the entrance looks more like a dangerous dungeon than a vault. Ares orders the group to enter one by one in reverse order and warns them of an inspection upon exit. Realizing he is the last to enter the armory, Adele notes that Lycan Baltan is clearly only interested in himself. As Lycan excitedly rushes toward the vault doors, Ares sternly tells the orange-haired boy to be quiet and enter already.
Speaking with Renee, Adele learns she plans to select an artifact since she already has a weapon, and he decides to do the same.
Adele looks worriedly at the noble girl, wondering if there will even be any good items left for him.
Emerging from the vault with a proud grin, Lycan Baltan shows off the black thorny crown he chose.
Seeing the other heirs exit with various small artifacts, Adele wonders if choosing armor would be a better strategy. Renee approaches the red-haired boy and informs him that it is finally his turn to enter. Noting the golden bracelet on her wrist, Adele asks the noble girl about the specific features of her new artifact. Renee tells him he will find everything out inside the vault since the items come with written descriptions. The black-haired girl adds a final warning that certain items in the vault are missing their descriptions entirely. Adele is left puzzled by the idea of artifacts having no descriptions and wonders why that would be the case. He briefly questions if those items are worthless but concludes they must be valuable if the Academy keeps them.
As Adele approaches the giant, Ares informs him that he is the very last person to enter the armory.
The giant commander stares down at the red-haired boy with a silent, intimidating expression. Ares tells the boy to speak up if he has questions, though Adele feels the giant's expression is discouraging him. Adele asks about the items lacking descriptions, and Ares explains they simply haven't identified their properties yet. Confirming his suspicion, Adele asks if they truly know nothing about those items, and Ares agrees with him. Ares warns that picking an unknown item is a gamble that could result in great power or a permanent curse. Noting they are short on time, the purple-haired giant orders Adele to enter the vault immediately. Standing before the massive entrance, Adele offers a small smile before stepping into the Academy's secret weapon vault. Entering the wide hallway, Adele finds the interior bright and tidy but hopes nothing dangerous will suddenly appear. A sudden cold whistle of wind sounds as Adele gazes upon the misty chamber filled with glowing artifact displays. Stunned by the impressive sight, Adele passes by legendary weapons and wonders which one he should choose. Stopping before a spiraling spear, Adel decides to read its description to see if it suits his combat style. The Twin Fang Spear's description details how it was used to hunt serpents and can summon snake spirits with mana.
Adele dismisses the spear, feeling its abilities are underwhelming and unnecessary since he already uses daggers.
A system window describes the Starlight Crystal, a magical orb capable of illuminating its surroundings with borrowed starlight.
Deciding the light-based item is incompatible with his dark element affinity, Adele moves on to find something else.
Adele stops in confusion when he finds a completely empty display case, wondering what kind of item was stored there. He reads a description for a circlet that provides exceptional recovery and stamina to its owner until their death. Realizing the empty case held the crown like in Balton-Tuck, Adele complains about the orange-haired boy's extreme greed.
Looking around the room, Adele realizes that the other students have already picked most of the best artifacts.
A sudden, frantic wah sounds as Adele panics, realizing that there truly is nothing useful left for him.
Frustrated that the heirs of the Sins took the elite gear, Adel wonders if any of the remaining armor is worthwhile.
Standing before a display with a simple broken sword, Adele stares at the weapon in contemplative silence.
He considers taking the broken weapon as a last resort, but fears that it might be a cursed object.
A sudden, bright idea strikes Adele as he remembers a specific method he can use to identify the items. Preparing to spend some of his gold, Adele pulls out a pen and paper to utilize his information-seeking ability.
A sudden, rhythmic scratching sounds as Adele writes a request for data on the broken sword, triggering a payment prompt.
The system demands either an elite relic or 100 gold coins for the information, shocking the red-haired boy.
A sudden, sharp shook sounds as Adele quickly turns his attention to a different item to compare costs.
Inquiring about a damaged scroll, the system informs Adele that the information fee is 50 gold coins. Realizing the price reveals the item's true value, Adele decides to find the object with the highest information cost.
Adele counts 7 unidentified items in his row and prepares to check them all to find the most expensive one.
He asks the system about an eagle-shaped stone which only requires a single gold coin to identify. Learning the stone swaps luck for misfortune, Adele is repulsed by the cursed item and moves to the next one. Adele continues his search, encountering items that require fees of 50 and 100 gold coins to identify. Finding most of the options mediocre, Adele notes that only 2 items remain and hopes for a better result.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Adele discovers a mythical grade artifact that requires 300 gold coins to identify.
Overjoyed by his incredible luck, Adele decides to take the mythical grade item, confident it surpasses everyone else's choice.
A sudden, sharp realization strikes Adele as he stares at the final unidentified artifact remaining in the vault.
He turns his attention toward a glowing pedestal housing a delicate, shimmering necklace pulsing with teal energy. A sudden, prickling sensation washes over him as if unseen eyes are watching his every move from the shadows. He focuses intensely on the jewelry, noting its placement as the very last item in the Academy's secret collection.
He prepares to use his identifying ability, asking for specific details about the nature and origins of the unnamed necklace. A sudden, brilliant flash of teal light sounds as his magic interacts with the artifact's protective display case.
Startled by the sudden, overwhelming surge of energy, the red-haired boy reels back in shock. A mysterious system prompt appears on a decorative scroll demanding a god as an offering to unlock the item. Puzzled by the cryptic and impossible requirement, Adele wonders if the necklace belongs to a legendary tier. Despite the strange cost, he feels a surge of triumph, believing he has found something truly special.
He holds the cost assessment paper, watching as the artifact continues to pulse with a radiant, otherworldly light.
He ponders the impossible demand, noting that he possesses no gods to offer, let alone a minor deity.
He decides to test the artifact's reaction by carefully infusing a small amount of his own dark mana.
A sudden, heavy silence follows as he watches the necklace, waiting for any sign of a response.
Frustrated by the lack of information, he sits cross-legged, contemplating the repeated demand for a divine offering.
He attempts to bypass the restriction by asking which specific deity is tied to the mysterious, unidentified necklace.
The system provides the same vague response, confirming his attempt to gather more data has failed once again.
He leans against the display case, debating whether the item is worth the risk of being a useless gamble. A sudden, determined grin spreads across his face as he makes his final decision to take the unknown prize. Confident in his instincts, Adele puts on the necklace, certain its value far exceeds any common artifact.
He decides to verify his hunch by summoning his status window to check for any sudden changes.
He notes a mysterious new entry in his trait list under a skill titled the Eye of Superbia. Emerging from the vault, Adele is confronted by Ares, who asks about the nature of his chosen artifact.
Adele explains he chose an unidentified item, prompting the skeptical giant to question his reckless decision-making.
Adele offers a playful smile, claiming he truly knows nothing about the necklace's hidden properties or identity.
A sudden tense silence falls as Ares glares down, making Adele wonder why the commander dislikes him so much.
Ares eventually sighs, choosing to trust his new cadet's decision in his capacity as a Saitan instructor.
The commander dismisses the group, warning them to treat their new rewards as potential lifesavers during future hardships.
Observing the other highborn heirs, Adele acknowledges they are the future elite leaders of the demonic realm.
He wonders if a seemingly ordinary trainee like himself can truly survive and thrive within the walls of Satan.
A sudden swirling mana effect sounds as the session ends and Ares officially dismisses the gathered cadets. Adele turns to Renee, suggesting they return to their dormitory together, and the black-haired girl agrees. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as a large hand clamps onto Adele's shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. Lycan Bolton approaches with a jovial laugh, apologizing for his earlier rudeness during their first meeting. The orange-haired boy introduces himself properly, expressing his admiration for Adele's combat performance during the exams. Adele politely introduces himself while shaking hands, relieved by what seems like a friendly and respectful gesture. A sudden, painful jolt sounds as Adele's expression twitches when the handshake turns unexpectedly hostile and violent. Bolton's eye glows with a sinister light as he crushes Adel's hand with immense, overwhelming physical force. Gritting his teeth in agony, Adele realizes the orange-haired heir is attacking him for no apparent reason.
Adele notes that Baltan is a battle-obsessed predator who only shows interest in strong people and the weak.
A terrifying vision depicts Baltan standing atop a pile of corpses, fueled by intense jealousy and greed.
Bolton mockingly asks why Adele is struggling while the sound of cracking bones echoes between their joined hands. A sudden, shimmering blue light sounds as Adele activates his position transfer skill to escape the crushing grip.
Distancing himself, Adele tells Bolton to stop the aggression, though his injured hand continues to tremble violently.
Bolton erupts into manic laughter, thrilled by the sudden display of magic he didn't even see coming. Surrounded by an aura of intense heat, the boy challenges Adele to a fight to the death immediately.
Adele firmly rejects the challenge, calling the orange-haired heir of envy an insane and dangerous psycho.
Renee interjects, ordering Baltan to stop his provocation and end the conflict before it escalates further. Her eyes glow with a fierce blue light as she threatens to fight him if he touches her guard. A sudden sharp shring sounds as Renee draws her sword, her mana flaring to protect her companion.
Bolton laughs heartily, remarking that while he loves to fight, taking on both Adele and Renee would be too much, and he would rather not get injured before school starts.
Offering a menacing grin, the orange-haired boy tells Adele he is sure there will be plenty of future opportunities before bidding him farewell.
Watching him go, Adele is bewildered by the boy's contradictions, noting that his desire to fight to the death makes him a complete psychopath.
Adele's confusion deepens as he notices Baltan already has his sword drawn, wondering exactly when the battle-hungry boy even managed to unsheath it.
Renee tells Adele they should leave, and the red-haired boy respectfully agrees to follow her.
Adele reflects on how a single day at Saitan feels like several, yet he finds himself genuinely looking forward to his new life at the academy.
The next morning, a shirtless Adele feels unusually refreshed, attributing his good mood to the intense hardships he endured the previous day. Checking his reflection in a mirror, he notes his physique is improving and feels certain he is growing stronger with each passing day.
He decides to try on the uniform sent by Saitan, appreciating that the academy was considerate enough to deliver it directly to his room.
Fully dressed, Adele observes that while they are required to wear the uniform for 3 years, its practical design is quite impressive. Thinking of Renee, he wonders how she looks in her own uniform and decides to go find her to see for himself.
Approaching Renee's door, Adele identifies himself and politely asks if she requires anything before he heads out for the day.
A sudden sharp creak sounds as the door opens, and the red-haired boy smiles warmly as Renee invites him inside. Renee stands by the window in her new school uniform, looking elegant as sunlight filters through the room. Adele remains in contemplative silence.
He tells her she looks beautiful, causing the black-haired girl to jump in a sudden, startled jolt. Blushing deeply, Renee clears her throat and asks if he is heading out, though Adele notices even her ears have turned red from embarrassment.
Adele smiles, thinking Renee has a cute side, and explains he intended to spend his rare day off walking around the city.
He politely bows, advising Renee to take time to rest as well before preparing to make his exit.
Renee suddenly tells him to wait. Looking down with a flushed face, Renee asks the boy if he hasn't forgotten that he has something he needs to do.
Adele is puzzled by her question, asking what it is she thinks he needs to do while Renee stares at him intensely.
He falls into a pensive silence.
Renee reminds him of his duty as her guard, prompting a sudden, shocked realization from the red-haired boy. Adele admits he forgot his duty because he was too excited about resting alone, and Renee decides to accompany him once she changes clothes.
Renee asks how much longer he plans to keep staring at her, prompting a sheepish Adele to promise he will wait outside.
The city architecture stands tall, Walking through the streets, Adele observes the reconstruction efforts and notes that while the humans won the war, they failed to completely conquer the capital.
Renee taps Adele on the shoulder.
She points toward a nearby vendor and suggests they eat, leading Adele to realize she is interested in trying the local street food.
A sudden, rhythmic sizzling sounds as meat and vegetables cook over an open flame on the grill. Adele inquires about the food, and the vendor explains that the skewers are made of seasoned buck and fresh vegetables.
Ordering 2 skewers, Adele wonders if the taste will be similar to chicken as Renee politely thanks him for the meal. Renee takes a saving bite.
Adele asks if she enjoys the food, and Renee happily confirms that the skewers are truly tasty and delicious.
Adele is surprised to see Renee smiling, marveling that someone usually so stoic and cold can show such a cheerful expression.
A stone fountain flows peacefully.
The two companions continue their walk together, blending into the crowd of people moving through the capital's busy plaza.
Adele reflects on how long it has been since his last real break, feeling that this might be his final moment of leisure for a long time.
He suddenly stops in his tracks, his eyes widening in shock as he gazes upon a massive stone statue of a crowned warrior. Staring up at the towering figure in the middle of the city, he wonders about the identity of the woman the statue represents.
When Adele asks about the monument, Renee is surprised by his ignorance and informs him that the statue depicts the first Demon King.
Recognizing the title, Adele studies the stone features and realizes the legendary figure bears a striking resemblance to Diana. Noting that such an up-close view of the first Demon King's face is rare, Adele decides they should move in for a better look.
A sudden, low hum sounds as the statue's eyes ignite with a brilliant, glowing teal light.
Adele's necklace reacts violently, pulsing with an intense teal energy that causes the boy to gasp in confusion. Panicked by the artifact's sudden activation, he wonders why the necklace is glowing so brightly as it continues to pulse with power.
A sudden, roaring boom sounds as a massive pillar of light erupts from the necklace and shoots toward the statue's head.
A sudden sharp shring sounds as the jewelry releases a final, blinding flash of magical energy. Looking down at his chest, Adele is horrified to see that one of the jewels on the necklace has turned gray and wonders what is happening.
Renee asks Adele why he suddenly pulled out his artifact and began staring at it.
Adele reflects on the brilliant light he saw coming from the statue and the strange color change of his necklace. A sudden, sharp shring sounds as Adele quickly tucks the jewelry back into his shirt to avoid suspicion.
Observing Renee's puzzled expression, Adele concludes that he was truly the only one who witnessed the phenomenon.
He thinks about the vague clues he has received so far and realizes he has discovered something significant in an unexpected place. Convinced the necklace is connected to the first Demon King, Adele vows to uncover the truth by investigating everything related to it. Adele agrees to head back with Renee, though his mind remains fixated on the true nature of the artifact.
The following morning, Adele and Renee arrive at the academy grounds as the entrance ceremony is about to begin.
Inside the massive auditorium, the headmaster and instructors sit before the gathered group of 100 new students. Students nearby express disbelief that a small child is the headmaster, while Adele notes the terrifying presence she exudes. Adele thinks to himself that she is cute, only for a mental rebuttal to mockingly dismiss the thought. The headmaster glares toward the crowd, wondering what is wrong with the eyes of the person calling her cute. A sudden, pained sounds as Adele winces when the headmaster's intense gaze lands directly on him. Realizing she can read minds, Adele quickly tries to correct his thoughts by calling her adorable instead. Instructor Era shouts for silence, officially signaling the start of the academy's entrance ceremony. The atmosphere settles as the headmaster delivers an ordinary speech regarding the strict rules of Satan. As the speech concludes, a gray-haired instructor named Idea announces the oath-taking of the top cadet and the runner-up. Balton and Diana walk toward the stage to fulfill their roles as the leading students of the new class. Adele observes that the highborn heirs naturally took the top positions while noting that Renee seems completely unfazed.
He reflects on Renee's singular goal of revenge and decides he must also stay focused on his own objectives.
A sudden, sharp spark sounds as Adele's eyes widen when he senses a hostile gaze from behind. Balton offers a mocking smirk from the crowd, leading Adele to label the orange-haired heir a creepy stalker. Diana stands elegantly on the stage, her presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. The students marvel at Diana, the Demon King's daughter, wondering if anyone could ever hope to stand in her way.
Diana begins the solemn oath, pledging the loyalty of those who have been accepted into the academy.
As her words echo, the atmosphere in the auditorium shifts as she promises to wipe away disgrace and rebuild the realm. Adele feels the collective rage of those who lost everything to humans, worrying that his arson bloodline would mean his certain death. He envisions a horrific future where he is captured and tortured for eternity if his true identity is ever revealed. Ares breaks the tension by ordering the cadets to check the bulletin boards for their class assignments. Adele suggests they head over to look, and Renee agrees to follow him to the boards. A sudden rhythmic thump sounds as a crowd of students gathers around the large parchment lists.
Finding his name, Adele notes that he is in Class A and looks around to find where Renee has been placed.
Adele wears a wide, triumphant grin.
Adele tells Renee she is in Class C while struggling to hide his joy, prompting her to order him to wipe the smile off his face. Walking away, Renee reminds him that he is still her guard and must come immediately whenever she calls for him.
Adele celebrates the news, thrilled that their separation into different classes will finally give him some time to relax.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as a passing student deliberately shoulders into Adele, stopping him in his tracks.
A blue-haired boy with a dark expression stops and looks back at Adele with clear irritation.
The boy asks Adele if he wants to die, calling him a bastard while his eyes begin to glow with a lime-green light.
Adele recognizes him as Samuel, the son of Varys from the family of gluttony and a powerful heir of the sins.
Attempting to avoid a fight on his first day, Adele politely apologizes and claims he simply wasn't paying attention.
Samuel tells him to get lost, remarking that Adele is only lucky because the school year has just begun.
Adele sighs, wondering why all the heirs of the 7 deadly sins are so incredibly difficult to deal with.
A sudden, sharp slam sounds as a hand strikes the table during a meeting between the Saiton staff.
Idea stands up and shouts at Eris, insisting that she is now a proper instructor of the academy.
Ares argues from experience that a certain student is too dangerous and that it would be better for him to handle them.
Idea retorts that the student is already assigned to her class and warns Ares that he cannot simply walk all over her. The headmaster orders Idea to sit down, causing the gray-haired woman to react with a sudden shock jolt.
Idea sulks in her chair, grumbling about how she is always the one treated so meanly by the others.
The headmaster turns her attention to Instructor Ares, asking for the specific reason he wishes to switch the classes he is in charge of.
Instructor Ares expresses his intention to handle trainee Adele personally, citing his experience with similar foes on the battlefield.
Ares argues that Adele was born with a murderer's nature and must be restrained before he turns on his allies.
A separate pair of instructors questions if Ares is overreacting, noting that the half-demon seems much weaker than the heirs of the sins.
Ares counters that power isn't everything, as Adele possesses a calmness and boldness that rival any heir of the 7 deadly sins.
Ares reiterates his desire to lead Class A specifically because he believes Adele requires extreme caution.
A sudden sharp shreen sounds as Instructor Idea loudly interrupts the conversation.
Standing up defiantly, Idea accuses Ares of making the request because he simply doesn't trust her abilities.
The headmaster apologizes for offending her, but Idea shouts and demands to know when they will finally stop treating her like a child. A sudden heavy sounds as the headmaster demands silence, her overwhelming aura filling the room with crushing pressure.
The instructors fall into a somber silence as the meeting continues under the headmaster's intense gaze.
The headmaster acknowledges Ares's concerns but refuses to change the assignments, stating that switching classes now would cause more harm than good.
Ares reluctantly accepts the decision while maintaining that they must still be incredibly cautious around the boy.
The headmaster orders Idea to pay special attention to Adele, and the instructor quickly agrees to the task.
Formally concluding the meeting, the headmaster dismisses the group and tells them to go greet their new students.
Looking down, Adele wonders why he has such terrible luck. Titania laughs mockingly, expressing her relief that Diana isn't in their class.
Adele feels similarly relieved that Balton isn't there, though Samuel sits silently at a nearby desk.
Titani asks Samuel if he followed her there, prompting the blue-haired boy to snap back that the assignments were random.
Titani laughs hysterically as she offers Samuel the privilege of being her slave, leaving Adele to sigh at her behavior. Titani turns her attention back to the two boys as the atmosphere in the classroom remains tense.
Samuel glares at her, coldly threatening to kill Titani if she doesn't shut her mouth immediately.
Titani is taken aback by his hostility, her expression shifting to one of shock and annoyance. As the two begin to bicker loudly, Adele stares blankly and wonders if he will actually be able to get along with his classmates.
Idea enters the classroom, observing the group of students gathered at their desks. She remarks on how noisy they are being and asks if they are seriously planning to start a fight on the first day.
Adele immediately recognizes her as the instructor from the academy staff.
A sudden sharp clap sounds as Idea slams her hands together to get everyone's attention.
Smiling brightly, she introduces herself as Idea, the instructor in charge of Class A, and tells them to remember her name.
She further reveals her identity as the Legion of Calamity, prompting a shocked reaction from Adele.
Students whisper in awe about her legendary status as the one who killed tens of thousands of humans single-handedly.
Adele feels a sense of relief, thinking that having such a powerful instructor might actually improve his chances of survival.
A sudden quick tap sounds as Idea turns to the board to begin the first lesson.
She writes hunting method in large letters, announcing that this is what she will be teaching them. Samuel scoffs as Idea clarifies that they won't be hunting simple animals or demonic beasts.
Smiling calmly, Idea announces that they will be hunting the very reason they came to the academy: humans. A sudden loud whoa sounds as the class reacts to the news, while Adele reflects on how things are finally starting to escalate.
Titani observes Idea's face as the instructor explains that she will only handle hunting methods while others teach magic and weaponry.
Idea adds that she is also in charge of stamina training, causing Adele to wince at the mention of his greatest weakness.
The group moves outside to a massive field, which Adele notes is many times larger than a typical training area.
Idea asks if everyone has arrived as they gather on the stone-paved plaza. Reaching out, she focuses her power and manifests a large, swirling teal magical portal in the center of the field.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as a large, armored boot steps through the shimmering light and onto the ground.
Multiple human warriors in full plate armor emerge from the portal, their eyes glowing with an eerie teal light.
Adele and the other students stare in shock at the sudden appearance of the enemy soldiers.
Idea laughs and clarifies that these aren't real humans, but rather powerful magical illusions she created herself. She mentions that she was the one who created the Sword Saint illusion for the entrance exam.
Adele is horrified, realizing she can create clones with significant power and labeling his instructor a total monster.
Idea explains the task is simple. They must pass through the illusions and reach her. She looks directly at Adele and calls his name to step forward. Idea smiles mischievously, challenging Adele to try stabbing her throat just as he did to the Sword Saint illusion.
Adele realizes that instructor Idea has also taken an interest in him, just like instructor Aries did before.
Idea asks instructor Idea if he is meant to spar with her directly during this training session. Idea explains that humans fall like dominoes once their leader, who provides their mental fortitude, is defeated.
Idea declares that she will act as the leader of the illusionary human soldiers for this exercise.
A sudden, sharp shing sounds as Adele recognizes the tactic of capturing the chief from Sun Tzu's Art of War. Adele confidently smiles, thinking that subduing the leader among all those human soldiers will be too easy.
Idea laughs and tells him it is impossible to subdue her, so he passes if he touches her or her weapon.
Idea shouts begin as the illusionary human soldiers charge forward with a sudden loud rush.
A sudden quick shh sounds as Adele activates his skill Position Transfer to move and teleports across the field.
Instructor Idea is visibly shocked as Adele suddenly appears directly behind her in the blink of an eye. A sudden soft tap sounds as Adele holds his weapon to her neck and asks if this counts as a pass.
Adele notes that while dozens of meters separated them, such a distance is nothing to him now.
He observes his great progress from only spanning a few meters at first, confident he can destroy an enemy base now.
A sudden, loud ha sounds as instructor Idea laughs at his unexpected and successful maneuver.
Adele is stunned to find that Idea has caught his dagger between two of her fingers with casual ease.
Idea tells him that he passes and orders him to go back to his place in the rank.
Adele wonders if they have discovered his true identity or if their interest is driven by hostility or curiosity.
Idea asks the class if they saw what Cadet Adele did and warns that those who fail will receive extra classes.
A sudden loud crash sounds as a cadet shouts for the humans to die while attacking an illusionary soldier.
Adele notes that the demons do the basics well, but the soldiers are merely normal humans without powers.
He observes that the class only took a few down, but things would change if instructor Idea controlled them directly.
A sudden sharp clang sounds as a cadet is caught off guard by multiple spears from the human illusions.
Adele watches his classmates get beaten by the magical soldiers and thinks that the hits must really hurt. A student shouts that he will jump over them all as he leaps high into the air with daggers drawn.
A sudden sharp whoosh sounds as the illusionary human archers fire a coordinated volley of arrows.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as the jumping student is shot out of the air and falls to the ground.
Adele thinks that while his teleportation is overpowered, he should be able to aim for the top of the class. Instructor Idea folds her arms and cheerfully calls for the next cadet to step forward for their turn.
Samuel tells Adele to move as he walks past him with a cold and arrogant expression.
Adele observes Samuel, wondering if his cocky personality matches his actual skill level on the battlefield.
Samuel announces that he will begin as green magical energy starts to swirl around his body.
A sudden loud hum sounds as Samuel stands centered in a gathering ring of green magical light.
A sudden, massive boom sounds as Samuel unleashes a violent and destructive explosion of green magical energy.
A colossal green tornado of pure magical power erupts and towers over the entire training area.
A sudden, violent roar sounds as the shockwave from the massive explosion ripples across the field.
Adele is shocked as the magic wipes out everything instantly, finally understanding the true nature of magic.
Samuel's unique ability of gluttony is described as a monstrous skill that eats through everything it touches.
Samuel breathes heavily while looking back at instructor Idea through the settling dust of his attack.
A sudden soft sigh sounds as Idea wonders what is with the students in this current batch. Instructor Idea stands perfectly composed and unharmed amidst the swirling debris and smoke of the explosion.
Adele realizes that there is no way a seasoned instructor would be blown away by a mere cadet.
Idea remarks that Samuel blew away everything besides her and admits it was impressive enough to shock her briefly.
Smiling cheerfully, Idea tells the blue-haired boy that he has unfortunately failed the training test.
Samuel stares at the instructor with a look of utter confusion and disbelief at the result. A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Idea prepares to reveal the reason for his failure.
A sudden, heavy stomp sounds as a massive new wave of human soldiers emerges from the smoke. Idea explains that unless you kill the leader, humans will always find replacements to fill their ranks.
Adele is stunned to see at least 200 new human soldiers summoned so quickly by the instructor.
Idea acknowledges Samuel's powerful magic for a first year while the cadet clenches his fist in frustration.
Instructor Idea cheerfully calls for the next cadet as a disgruntled Samuel walks away from the field.
Adele observes that Samuel is taking the failed results surprisingly well despite his obvious discontent.
Samuel stands silently before the smiling boy.
Samuel huffs and turns away, clearly in the might. Adele reflects that Samuel failed because he was far too overconfident in his own magical abilities.
Instructor Idea points toward the soldiers and notes that Samuel would have passed if he had focused on his target.
A confident laugh rings out from above, announcing that the long wait is finally over. Fran stands heroically and excitedly declares that it is finally her turn to take the test.
Students whisper about Fran of the 7 deadly sins, while Adele wonders how she intends to pass the trial.
Fran mocks the illusionary human soldiers, asking if such lowly minions dare to block her path.
She laughs with absolute, unearned confidence. Fran stands frozen and sweating, causing the onlookers to wonder why she isn't moving. Terrified and overwhelmed, Fran panics internally as she tries to figure out her next move.
Adele observes the situation, noting that as a child of lust, Fran is not built for direct combat. Adele recalls that Fran acts like a queen bee who is completely helpless without her minions. Trapped without subordinates, Fran desperately thinks that she needs to do something to survive the trial.
Her eye widens in sudden realization. She turns toward the closing enemies. In a moment of desperation, Fran screams for her slave to help her, leaving a bewildered Adele questioning her words. The other students are shocked that she called the boy her slave, while Adele can only sigh in embarrassment.
Adele is confused by her behavior as Fran gets pummeled and continues to demand his immediate help.
Instructor Idea points silently at Fran.
Illusionary soldiers swarm the screaming girl.
Adele watches Fran get beaten and considers the possibility that she is unable to cast buffs on herself.
As Fran continues to scream for help, Adele decides there must be a special reason for her struggle. A sudden soft hum sounds as a soft teal light begins to glow nearby, catching Adele's attention. Adele watches a pink-haired girl heal a student's leg, with the boy thanking her and her expressing relief.
Teal healing magic mends galooned.
Adele stares in surprise, knowing that healing is a power that should only be accessible to humans.
He reflects on the rarity of having a classmate with such a rare healing talent in an academy for demons. Though he doesn't know her name yet, Adele decides he must find a way to approach the pink-haired girl.
Instructor Idea asks Adele to help the fallen Fran walk now that the test is officially over. Idea takes her leave while Adele sighs, thinking that the timing for this tour couldn't be any worse.
A sudden, quick poke sounds.
Adele bluntly calls how useless as he pokes her forehead, prompting a pained cry from the girl.
Adele tells her to get up since the trial is over while Fran groans in frustration.
A soot-stained Fran angrily asks if he saw her failure, but Adele simply acts confused. Fran yells at him not to act clueless while Adele quips that she looked weaker than a slave. Instructor Idea addresses the class, noting that while she had expectations, the results were still a good first lesson. She explains that experiencing failure is important for understanding their current standing and their mistakes. Samuel scoffs and clicks his tongue as the instructor emphasizes the importance of learning from their errors.
Idea tells the students that understanding their limits allows them to support one another and work together in battle.
Adele considers that Saitan's random class placement emphasizes the synergy that Instructor Idea is promoting. Instructor Idea singles out Adele as the only student who passed the test, and he acknowledges her firmly. With her teal eyes glowing intensely, Idea tells Adele that she is looking forward to seeing his future progress. Surrounded by the dark stares of his peers, Adele politely promises to work hard and learn everything.
As Idea dismisses the class, Adele wonders if her words were actually intended as praise. Adele is left uneasy, questioning why the instructor's encouragement felt so hostile and ominous.
Adele wonders if he can build a faction here while Fran keeps trying to make him her slave.
A sudden, loud chime sounds. The scene shifts to a classroom where a new instructor introduces himself and prepares to begin the lesson. The instructor at the chalkboard notes that demons center their society around the first Demon King while teaching about the demonic realm's history. Adele observes that getting hit hurts demons just as much as humans, while the instructor explains that their body structures are quite similar. The instructor warns the class to memorize today's material to avoid remedial lessons for the upcoming quiz. Adele slumps over his desk, lamenting that this feels exactly like his time in school. Defeated on his first day, Adele lets out a heavy, tired sigh.
Adele sighs as his classmates laugh and chatter at him.
Narration notes that Adele has no friends now, just as he didn't back then.
A pink-haired girl stares in confusion at the boy slumped over his desk. Adele realizes he should finally approach the pink-haired girl.
Adele stands up from his desk, deciding it is time to talk to her.
Adele walks across the quiet classroom toward the girl's desk.
Adele tentatively approaches her as she looks up at him with a questioning expression.
Adele smiles warmly as he introduces himself and tells her it is nice to meet her.
The entire class goes silent as they stare at the interaction between the two students.
Sweating under the pressure, Adele wonders why everyone is staring at them. Looking a bit nervous, the pink-haired girl replies that it is nice to meet him too.
Adele reflects that two half-demons are bound to attract attention and decides to save the rest of the conversation for later since she seems uncomfortable.
Adele tells her he will talk to her again later as she bids him to bye.
A sudden, heavy step sounds as Adele walks toward the door, thinking he will feed his loneliness manna in the restroom. A sudden, sharp creak sounds as Samuel bursts through the door, coming face to face with Adele.
Adele sighs at the terrible timing as he stares at the arrogant blue-haired boy. Samuel glares at him and asks if it's him again.
Adele smiles and tells Samuel to go ahead since he was just about to leave. Samuel scoffs and calls him a nauseating low-class creature as he walks past.
Samuel's eyes glow green as Adele's glow red, with Adele mockingly asking if his family must be amazing.
Samuel stops and asks what he just said.
Enraged, Samuel asks if his family produced a piece of garbage that can walk and talk like him.
A sudden, sharp grinding sounds as Samuel bares his teeth and calls the boy a filthy little thing.
Surrounded by dark green energy, Samuel threatens to tear him to pieces while Adele notes that this boy shows pure hatred and hostility.
A sudden, sharp rasp sounds as Adele grips his dagger, deciding it's better to eliminate Samuel now if he intends to get in the way.
A sudden soft whoosh sounds as Adel smiles, thinking that no one would mind a missing arm if magic is used in the fight. A sudden loud command sounds as an instructor at the front of the room orders them to stop immediately.
A sudden soft ding sounds as both boys freeze in shock, wondering when the instructor arrived.
A sudden soft sigh sounds as Samuel's green magic dissipates while he glares toward the front.
Adele realizes his and Samuel's abilities were deactivated and wonders who this instructor really is.
The instructor adjusts his glasses and tells the students to return to their seats so he can introduce himself.
A sudden, heavy stomp sounds as Samuel clicks his tongue and walks away while Adele thinks it feels unsettling to let this slide.
The instructor asks everyone to be quiet as students settle into their desks.
The instructor introduces himself as Instructor Robolt and announces he will be teaching magic from now on.
Adele notes that an instructor at Saitan must be powerful and expresses excitement for the lesson.
Adele reflects that in his novel, magic is a category entirely separate from talents or traits.
He considers that magic might be closer to a skill or even a specific branch of study.
Instructor Robolt states there is one thing the students absolutely need to know before they begin learning magic.
He explains that attributes are based on the 4 elements of earth, water, wind, and fire, plus darkness and light.
Adele thinks that while most people only have one attribute, he might have 2.
He reflects that while the Baraz family's darkness attribute is clear, the Adele family's attribute remains unknown to him. Instructor Robolt announces that today's class will focus on finding out which attribute each student's mana holds.
A sudden sharp top sounds as he indicates a purple orb, explaining that its color will change to show their attribute when they touch it. The instructor tells them to line up to begin the test while Adele decides to stand near the back to observe the others first.
Red-haired Adele prepares for battle as Chapter 21, the fox-eyed villain of the Demon Academy, begins.
Touching the purple orb, the spiky-haired student watches it glow as Instructor Robolt identifies his fire attribute.
Robolt notes that green signifies a wind attribute before summoning the next student to test their mana.
Watching the line move, Adele observes that the testing process is going much faster than he anticipated.
Robolt calls for the next student, and Adele steps forward with a polite smile.
Surprise colors Adele's expression when Robolt greets him by name, and he wonders how the instructor already knows who he is.
A sudden quick whoosh sounds as Robolt instructs him to place his hand on the testing orb.
A sudden low hum sounds as Adele extends his hand toward the swirling energy of the artifact. A sudden deep thrum sounds as Adele makes contact, causing the orb to emit a chaotic, dark light.
Peering closely at the orb, Robolt remarks on the extreme rarity of seeing mana split between black and another unusual shade.
Robolt explains that while black represents the darkness attribute of high-ranking demons, the grayish light appearing alongside it is entirely unfamiliar to him.
Adele asks if the instructor is genuinely unsure of the result, prompting Robolt to clarify that he recognizes it but is simply stunned by its rarity. Robolt identifies the gray color as chaos, an attribute belonging to magic that exists outside of natural law. Robolt admits his knowledge on the subject is limited, claiming he cannot provide more details beyond its defiance of providence.
Adele considers the instructor's words, deciding to investigate the confirmed darkness attribute while looking for clues about the nature of chaos.
The scene shifts outside to a grand building surrounded by gardens where a sudden, soft splash sounds from a nearby fountain.
Back in the classroom, Adele sits with his arms crossed, silently pondering the implications of his newly discovered gray attribute. Behind the oblivious Adele, Instructor Idea stands close, her glowing teal eyes fixed on him with a mysterious intensity.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Franz startles Adele by appearing directly behind his seat.
Sweat-beaded and wide-eyed, Fran is baffled that Adele managed to detect her stealth technique. Fran quickly brushes off the failure of her stealth, insisting that it isn't the most important matter at hand.
Looming over him with her arms crossed, the silver-haired girl demands to know what on earth he was thinking during their earlier encounter. Adele maintains a pleasant smile and asks for clarification, but Fran tells him to stop pretending to be ignorant. Adele explains that he simply cannot tolerate being bullied, though Fran scoffs at his reasoning as a mere excuse.
Fran leans in close and shouts that he has made the mistake of antagonizing a powerful noble family.
Adele argues that since outside forces can't infiltrate Saitan, he thought he would be safe, but Fran angrily retorts that he is missing her point entirely. Looking skeptical, Fran asks if he truly doesn't understand the consequences of his actions. A sudden, loud chime sounds as Fran begins to explain the significance of that specific student's family background.
A sudden, weary sigh sounds as Fran gives up on the conversation, closing her eyes in frustration.
Turning her back on him, Fran walks away as Adele watches her go from his desk.
Adele wonders if she was warning him about the Samuel family's reputation for brutal revenge, but he quickly dismisses the idea as unlikely.
Adele decides to put the interaction aside and focus on his final class of the day.
A sudden, loud slam sounds as a heavy hand strikes the desk at the front of the room.
Standing before the chalkboard, the muscular, purple-haired instructor Aries bellows that the students are pathetically weak and unworthy of sitting in his presence.
Aries points out their failure, noting that almost every group was defeated by practice dolls using only a tiny fraction of their power.
Adele realizes that the instructor is intentionally attacking their pride to provoke a reaction from the class.
Aries promises to teach them swordsmanship personally so that even in death they might manage to maim their enemies.
A sudden, heavy thumping sounds as the students are forced to begin a grueling run across the academy grounds. Watching them from the sidelines, Aries shouts that stamina is the essential foundation for powerful swordsmanship techniques. A sudden, heavy panting sounds as the exhausted students struggle to complete their 30th lap. Aries stops two specific students, calling out to them as they win. A sudden, loud shout sounds as Aries demands to know who authorized them to use mana to aid their running, forcing the pair to apologize while on the ground. A sudden, loud cry sounds as the furious instructor orders the two students to restart their laps from the very beginning. Running with a smirk, Adel reflects that these coddled children are too soft, comparing their struggle to the chaos of his own past.
Aries dismisses the cadets who finished 50 laps, leaving Fran and her companion collapsed in puddles of sweat on the floor.
A sudden, sharp bark sounds as the instructor announces that everyone who failed to finish on time will receive extra lessons. Exhausted but finished for the day, Adele heads toward the dormitory to rest. Adele walks toward a massive, ornate mansion that serves as the student housing.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as someone unexpectedly reaches out and touches Adele's shoulder from behind.
Adele turns in shock to see a girl with messy dark hair and black horns, recognizing her as Renee.
Staring with glowing blue eyes, the ominous girl looms over him, leaving Adele to wonder why she has approached him.
Adele acknowledges Lady Renee and asks if she is heading to the dormitory, which she confirms.
Adele asks how her first day went, but Renee remains stoically silent.
Adele wonders if Renee was bothered by someone as students in the background gossip about them.
Renee bluntly tells Adele that he is lacking, catching him completely off guard. Renee explains that his physical training is insufficient and proposes they do a cool-down workout together. A sudden, quick sweat bead forms as Renee asks for his help, and Adele stares back with a weary expression. Heading toward the training area, Adele notes Renee's relentless energy while she leads the way. Adele accepts the invitation, thinking that training with a descendant of a deadly sin will be beneficial despite the difficulty. The scene shifts to the exterior of a massive, ornate stone building under a bright sky.
Entering the spacious training hall, Adele expresses surprise at the vast size of the facility.
Adele observes the high-quality equipment and the dedication of the other students working on their stamina.
Renee suggests starting with a heavy barbell, but Adele insists on attempting the lift first. Renee warns him about the weight, but Adele confidently assures her he can handle it given his years of training. A sudden, sharp grunt sounds as Adele's face reddens and veins pop while he struggles desperately to move the weight.
Renee tells him he is too weak and should stop before he causes himself an injury.
A sudden, heavy panting sounds as Adele collapses in exhaustion while Renee easily moves to lift the same barbell.
A sudden, loud grunt sounds as Renee effortlessly hoists the massive weight over her head, prompting Adele's admiration.
2 hours later, Adele suggests they finish for the day, noting Renee is still going strong with her lifts.
A sudden, loud thud sounds as Renee drops the weights and agrees to be escorted back to the entrance. Adele reflects on Renee's extreme training habits lately as he holds her jacket for her.
Curious about her current state, Adele decides to sneak a peek at her status window while she gets dressed.
A glowing system window reveals Renee's half-demon race, chaos disposition, and a slight increase in her mana. Adele is surprised that her mana only increased by a small amount despite her dedicated nightly practice. Adele considers finding an elixir to help Renee through her slow growth period while she finishes changing. Renee startles Adele by asking what he is doing, and he quickly laughs it off while urging them to leave.
An aerial view shows the grandeur of the academy buildings surrounded by manicured gardens.
Adele bids Renee a good rest as they separate, and she offers a brief response in return.
Feeling on the verge of collapse, Adele prepares to head to the Bali dorm for some much-needed sleep.
Adele follows the directions inside the luxurious building, walking toward the staircase to find his room.
Checking his acceptance letter, Adele confirms that his assigned room is number 407. Adele reaches the 4th floor and begins scanning the hallway for a specific tour. Adele hopes for a skilled and kind roommate he can eventually win over to his side.
A sudden quick sounds as Adele feels a sense of excitement about meeting his first male friend in this realm.
A sudden sharp creak sounds as Adele opens the door to greet his roommate, only to find the spiky-haired Samuel sitting there.
Shock and disbelief freeze both boys as they realize they have been assigned to the same room.
A sudden sharp ding sounds as the two rivals stare at each other in stunned silence.
A sudden loud shout sounds as both boys simultaneously demand to know why the other is in the room.
Adele grips his head in frustration, lamenting the terrible turn of events.
Enraged, Samuel bites down on his lollipop and fumes about the misfortune of sharing space with Adele.
A sudden quick whoosh sounds as the two boys turn their backs on one another in mutual annoyance.
Samuel scoffs at the filthy half-blood while Adele darkly considers ways to eliminate his troublesome roommate.
A sudden sharp scrape sounds as Adele moves toward his desk while Samuel watches him with intense hatred.
Samuel stands up abruptly and aggressively challenges Adele to a fight right then and there. Adele remains calm, pointing out the insanity of fighting in the dorms before announcing he is leaving. Adele bids Samuel a sarcastic good rest as he turns to walk out of the room. A sudden quick tap sounds as Samuel insults him again while Adele exits into the hallway.
Adele walks away, deciding to wander around until Samuel is asleep so he can avoid more confrontation.
Adele is puzzled by Samuel's extreme anger, noting that the boy isn't even a child of wrath. Recalling that Samuel is a child of gluttony, Adele wonders if the boy's behavior is linked to something like his own chaos disposition.
Adele ponders the true meaning of chaos and whether it functions as a mana attribute.
Adele reflects on his system's failure to provide information about the chaos attribute.
Frustrated by his ignorance, Adele decides to go out and practice his mana technique.
Adele pauses to enjoy the refreshing morning breeze outside.
A sudden sharp chirp sounds as Adele notices a small bird perched nearby.
Adele observes the sparrow-like creature, noting that it looks surprisingly cute.
Adele smiles warmly at the little bird. Adele muses that even a secure place like Saitan has outside creatures wandering around.
The bird watches Adele with an ominous, glowing red eye.
Adele returns to his dormitory room, pleased to find that Samuel is already asleep.
A sudden heavy flop sounds as Adele collapses onto his bed in exhaustion.
A sudden soft snore sounds as Adele prepares to fall asleep instantly.
Adele drifts off into a deep, peaceful sleep.
A sudden low hum sounds as Samuel wakes up with glowing green eyes.
Samuel sits up and stares at the sleeping Adele in silence.
Samuel reflects on how irritating he finds his roommate's sleeping face.
Samuel refuses to apologize for their fight, even if he was in the wrong. Samuel wonders if he should even waste his energy on someone like Adele.
Samuel recalls the overwhelming presence Adele showed in class, which caused him physical pain. Samuel questions why he felt that familiar, heart-squeezing sensation when looking at Adele.
A sudden deep rumble sounds as Samuel clutches his stomach in pain.
A sudden sharp gasp sounds as Samuel realizes his hunger is spiraling out of control.
Samuel struggles with the intense, agonizing rampage of his gluttony trait. Samuel feels as if his internal organs are drying up from starvation. A sudden, quiet mumble sounds as Adele shifts comfortably in his sleep.
Enraged by his suffering, Samuel wishes he could punch Adele's smug face. Bright morning light fills the room as Adele wakes up groggily.
A sudden, sharp tweet sounds as Adele looks toward the window.
Adele notices the same bird from yesterday has returned to visit him.
A sudden, quiet snicker sounds as Adele grows suspicious of a non-cadet lifeform appearing.
A sudden, sharp rattle sounds as Adele opens the window, wondering if Instructor Eris is spying.
Adele confirms the bird is a real creature and tries to lure it with food. Adele realizes Samuel is gone and worries about missing the end of breakfast. Instructor Idea enters the classroom and greets the students. Adele sits in his desk, lamenting that he got lost and missed his morning meal.
Instructor Idea commands the class to pay attention to an important announcement.
The instructor announces that they will be selecting a class president during homeroom. Adele is surprised by the sudden news of the leadership selection. A student raises his hand to ask how the selection process will work. Instructor Idea explains that she has changed her mind and will appoint the leader herself.
Franz strikes a confident pose, assuming the instructor has made a wise choice in her.
Adele expects the choice to be Fran, just as it was in a novel. Fran arrogantly orders the class to serve her as their king. Adele reflects on Fran's high charisma and buffing abilities despite her lacking intelligence.
Other cadets debate the qualifications of Adele and Samuel for the role.
Adele is pleased to hear his name but remains curious about the final choice. Adele remains certain that Fran is the obvious and only pick for the position.
Fran smugly tells the instructor to go ahead and announce her name.
Instructor Idea shocks the room by stating that the president is not Fran. A sudden, loud shriek sounds as Fran reacts with total disbelief and horror.
Instructor Idea prepares to reveal the true identity of Class A's president.
Instructor Idea commands the room's attention to announce her choice for Class A's president.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as both Adele and Fran react with absolute shock to the unexpected selection.
Adele questions the instructor's reasoning for placing a half-demon in such a prominent leadership position.
Instructor Idea encourages Adele to lead the class well, and he offers a polite but stunned confirmation.
Samuel scoffs as the instructor announces that upcoming classes will focus on practical training for midterm exams.
Renee looks surprised when the instructor explains that students must form 3-person teams by the day's end.
Adele contemplates the intensity of practical training at Seitan Academy.
Adele darkly predicts that the training will likely involve lethal combat, as killing is essential for a true demon's education.
Homeroom concludes, but Instructor Idea signals for Fran to stay behind for a private word.
Instructor Idea offers a chilling smile while threatening Fran with extra lessons if she continues to speak informally.
Adele is amused as Fran is left speechless and terrified by the instructor's stern warning.
Before dismissing everyone, the instructor tasks Adele with submitting the final team list later that day.
Adele wonders about the location and methods of the upcoming training session.
Adele reasons that the need for teams suggests something more complex than the typical events from the novel's timeline.
Deciding to prioritize his own unit, Adele looks toward his chosen partners.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Instructor Eris walks through the academy halls with an intimidating air.
The scene shifts to Instructor Idea quietly working on administrative tasks in her office.
A sudden loud slam sounds as Instructor Eris bursts into the room and shouts Idea's name.
Idea greets her senior colleague casually, while Aries demands to know her true intentions behind the recent appointment.
Idea teases Aries about his serious demeanor, but he remains focused on his disapproval of the new class president.
Aries demands to know why Idea chose Adele for such an influential role.
Idea notes that Aries must have an extensive network of informants to have learned the news so quickly.
Aries warns that the role of president carries dangerous implications, but Idea remains unfazed.
A sudden sharp slap sounds as Aries slams the desk and argues that giving Adele command over Class A is a reckless move.
Aries insists that it is not too late to replace Adele with someone less suspicious.
A sudden low hum sounds as a heavy, oppressive energy fills the room while Idea stares down Aries.
Idea firmly rejects the demand to change her choice for the class presidency.
Idea defends Adele, citing his superior talent, lack of arrogance, and the backing of the Bears family. Aries warns that a verified identity does not equal trustworthiness, comparing a dangerous student to a blind sword.
Idea releases a long sigh, clearly weary of Aris's persistent interference.
Reasserting her authority, Idea tells Aries to stay out of her class's affairs and trust in her eye for talent.
Aries shouts after Idea as she turns her back on him, refusing to let the matter go.
Left alone in the office, Aries curses the situation in frustration.
Aries regrets allowing Idea to take charge of a class filled with such dangerous individuals.
Aries recalls a half-demon from his past who left him with a permanent, unforgettable scar during battle.
Suspecting a hidden connection, Aries notes that Adele's aura feels disturbingly similar to that of his old enemy.
A sudden sharp beep sounds as Aries whistles to summon his familiar.
A sudden quick flutter sounds as a small bird arrives in response to Eris's call.
Aries notes that his spy has yet to find anything overtly suspicious in Adele's daily routine.
A sudden soft whoosh sounds as the bird takes flight, following Eris's command to maintain constant surveillance.
Aries remains determined to uncover Adele's true motives.
The scene shifts back to the classroom, where the other cadets are social and energetic.
Adele observes his classmates eagerly partnering up for the midterm training.
Despite his new status, Adele is puzzled that no one has approached him to join a team yet.
Adele is relieved when a cadet finally approaches him with a nervous offer to team up. Samuel dismissively accepts a partner, warning them not to become a hindrance to his success.
Adele is annoyed that even Samuel has found a group while he remains alone. Realizing he can no longer wait, Adele decides to take the initiative and secure his own partners. Renee feels an increasing sense of panic as she struggles to find a team before the deadline.
A sudden quiet step sounds as Adele approaches Renee from behind to greet her.
Adele intimidates Renee with a dark aura. Renee reacts with sudden, visible shock.
A sudden, sharp hiccup sounds as Renee reacts to Adele's unexpected appearance.
Adele introduces himself and asks if she has a team, while she nervously admits she doesn't.
Adele asks for her name, causing the pink-haired girl to hesitate in silence.
The girl introduces herself as Luna, and Adele invites her to join his team for mutual benefit.
Renee remains flustered by the offer, finding it difficult to respond to the president.
A sudden, soft whisper sounds as Adele leans in and repeats her name.
Adele points out they are both half demons, causing Renee to let out a sudden, sharp squeak.
Adele laughs as Renee quickly agrees to his invitation, praising her for making the right choice.
Fran suddenly appears and asks what makes the choice so excellent.
Fran mocks Adele for his lack of partners, surprising him with her sudden presence.
Fran arrogantly declares that she will accept them both as her subordinates.
Adele informs Fran they have already formed a team, but she insists on leading. Fran laughs as she claims to be the true leader of the class despite the appointment. Adele considers rejecting Fran, but decides to let her join since she is persistent. Adele determines to keep Fran close because of her heritage, provided she consults him first.
Fran demands they follow her while Adele plans to manipulate her pride for his gain.
Adele notices a slight increase in his mana levels via his status window.
Adele hopes to find clues about the Chaos attribute during this week's magic class.
Adele reacts to a sudden inhale.
Adele worries about the stability of the sleeping creature named Crete. A sudden, deep chime sounds as the clock tower signals the time. Instructor Idea enters the classroom and offers a cheerful greeting to the cadets.
Adele notes the instructor's unusually high level of excitement.
Instructor Idea announces that the class will conduct outdoor practical training today. The instructor explains that the cadets will be leaving the academy grounds.
Idea reveals the training will take place in Oregon, much to Adele's surprise.
Adele recalls that Oregon is a detention camp for failed human combatants.
Instructor Idea commands the students to follow her toward a dimensional train.
The cadets express their excitement about the unexpected outdoor excursion. Adele predicts his classmates will be shocked once they understand the true nature of Oregon.
Adele plans to seize an opportunity in Oregon before the novel's protagonist can. Adele questions if he can bypass the strong guards without being detected. A sudden light tap sounds as Fran interrupts Adele's thoughts to ask why he looks stiff.
Adele claims to be nervous about the training, but Fran finds his gloomy face amusing. Fran boasts about her leadership, while Adele wonders if her confidence will last in Oregon.
A sudden loud rumble sounds as the train speeds toward its grim destination.
Adele stares at the looming towers of Oregon, resolved to obtain the special opportunity.
The scene shifts to the chapter channel.
A sudden, sharp screech sounds as the dimensional train arrives at Oregon.
A sudden, heavy gust sounds as the train stops before the massive fortress.
Idea introduces the human prisoner camp, noting the intense atmosphere surrounding the site.
The cadets express their growing dread about conducting training in such a place.
Idea confirms this is the training site and tells them not to worry about battles.
Adele reflects on the instructor's twisted hobby of misleading the students about their safety.
A sudden, deep voice sounds as dark uniformed guards confront the group.
Idea provides the entry permit while Adele senses the guards' immense power.
A sudden, loud clank sounds as the guards permit entry and Idea leads the class.
A sudden, desperate moan sounds as a prisoner begs for release, startling the cadets.
Fran reacts with absolute horror while questioning the nature of the dark prison.
The cadets sense a disturbing presence while Adele remains calm and observes their reactions.
Adele is amused by Samuel's indifference while another student arrogantly orders him to move along.
Adele walks forward silently while the other cadets look on with growing anxiety. A sudden, bright flash sounds as Adele reacts to an unexpected surge of energy. Instructor Idea welcomes the class to the training site as they enter the inner prison.
Adele realizes that this grim environment represents the true nature of Oregon.
The prison cells are filled with emaciated humans living in a state of absolute hell. Instructor Idea explains that the human prisoners are dangerous criminals who attacked the demon realm. The instructor stands before the class and mentions they must be curious about their training.
A sudden low hum sounds as Instructor Idea unleashes a dark, swirling aura before the students.
A terrified prisoner groans in agony as the instructor's energy surrounds him.
A sudden sharp slap sounds as Instructor Idea seizes the prisoner's face with her hand.
Instructor Idea smiles maliciously while telling the prisoner to swallow the energy and end things quickly.
Samuel watches the scene with a cold smile while Luna covers her mouth in horror.
The prisoner lets out a final agonizing scream as the dark energy overwhelms him.
A sudden sharp pop sounds as the prisoner's head violently explodes into a cloud of black mist.
A sudden wet drip sounds as blood and dark residue splatter onto the stone floor near Adele.
Instructor Idea tells the cadets that their goal is simply to kill a human in their own way.
Luna retches at the sight of the gruesome execution while Adele watches from the shadows.
Adele notes his own lack of emotion, realizing he has become fully synchronized with his character.
Adele resolves to survive and fix the world's ending regardless of how much worse things become.
Instructor Idea asks the class president if he has any final words before beginning his turn.
A sudden light step sounds as Adele walks toward a cell to carry out the task.
Adele draws a jagged dagger and prepares to execute a bound, trembling human prisoner.
Adele asks the prisoner if he has anything left to say before he dies.
The prisoner defiantly curses the demons and predicts that humans will eventually wipe them all out.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as Adele plunges his dagger into the prisoner's chest.
Adele finds the execution satisfying after hearing the prisoner's final hateful words.
Adele asks if his performance was sufficient, while Instructor Idea claps and calls it perfect.
Idea commands the rest of the cadets to follow the president's example and begin their training.
Instructor Idea calls for the half-demon cadets to step aside from the main group.
Luna trembles in fear as she and the other half-demons are separated for a different task.
Adele realizes there are several half-demons in class, but worries about Luna's deteriorating mental state.
Instructor Idea informs the separated cadets that they have specific prisoners assigned for their execution.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as a row of bound, tattooed prisoners is brought before them.
Adele realizes with shock that the new targets are actually fellow half-demons.
Instructor Idea tells the cadets they must prove their loyalty by killing these traitors.
A male cadet groans in horror as he stares at the prisoners he must kill.
A sudden, loud smash sounds as the cadet kicks a prisoner while shouting about their shared suffering.
Adele watches as the training begins and the students lash out at the half-demon prisoners.
A sudden, wet squelch sounds as a prisoner begs for his life while being executed. A sudden, deep crunch sounds as Samuel's massive shadow monster prepares to devour a terrified prisoner.
Luna screams in terror and covers her head to block out the sounds of the slaughter.
Adele notes Samuel's unnecessary brutality and wonders if he enjoys tearing humans apart with his magic. Luna continues to groan in distress while Adele stands nearby, unable to assist her.
Adele fears that Instructor Idea will notice Luna's breakdown and react poorly to her weakness.
Instructor Idea turns her head as if her attention has been caught by a cadet.
Fran asks the instructor if she will pass the training as long as she uses her ability.
Instructor Idea confirms the passing criteria while Fran acknowledges her understanding of the task.
Fran commands the human to kill the person beside him as her ability binds them together. A sudden, sharp scream sounds as a prisoner begs for mercy while being attacked by his companion.
Fran remains silent as the prisoner gasps his final breath in the dim light of the cell.
Instructor Idea asks if the task is finished and informs Fran that she has passed the training.
Adele realizes that while Fran hates humans, she is more soft-hearted than he previously imagined.
Instructor Idea turns her attention toward the group and asks if only one cadet remains.
Luna gasps for air in a state of mounting panic as the instructor calls her name.
Idea commands Luna to prove herself while Adele notes that she may be unable to complete the task.
Luna trembles uncontrollably as she pleads in her mind for someone to let her out.
Luna reflects on her hellish life while feeling pathetic for failing to avenge her mother's suffering.
Luna scratches at the stone floor in sheer frustration over her own helplessness.
Adele approaches the weeping girl and asks if she is all right. Luna recognizes Adele as he asks the instructor to wait for a moment before proceeding. Adele announces that he will personally assist Luna with her execution training.
A sudden dull thud sounds as Lunar hacks.
Adele prepares to begin the task and holds a jagged dagger with a calm, friendly smile. Adele places the weapon in Luna's hand and tells her that she must follow through despite her fear.
Adele asks the girl to relax her hand just for a moment while he guides her.
Adele assures Luna she will be fine as long as she keeps moving forward with the blade.
Luna grits her teeth in terror. Luna reacts with shock to his touch.
Adele praises Luna for her success while the pink-haired girl remains frozen in a state of shock.
Idea reflects on the harsh reality that a half-demon who cannot kill is doomed to expulsion or worse.
Idea questions the class president's decision and repeats his title with a suspicious tone.
Idea asks Adele if he truly believes she will allow Luna to pass after receiving his assistance. Adele insists that Luna passes, causing the instructor to ask for immediate clarification of his words. Adele argues that Luna's rare talent as a healer makes her the most valuable cadet in Saitan.
Idea finds his logic unbelievable and asks if he would ignore a cadet who possessed no talent. Adele cold-bloodedly confirms that he would leave any cadet without talent behind to perish. Idea acknowledges his arrogance and tells the pair to wait while she checks on the other students. Adele feels relieved that his answer pleased Idea and saved Luna from a potentially fatal failure. Adele informs Luna that she has safely made it through the training, much to her surprise. Luna thanks goodness for her survival as her consciousness begins to fade from the stress. Adele catches the girl as she passes out from the overwhelming sense of relief.
Adele tells the unconscious Luna to rest well before turning his attention toward his own objectives. Adele resolves to start his true plan, confident that he knows the inner workings of the fortress.
A guard patrols the dark prison halls.
Adele observes the tight security and plans to reach the underground tunnel to find his opportunity. Adele cloaks himself in purple energy.
Adele notes that his magical concealment has improved significantly since his previous attempts. Adele plans to use the darkness to sneak into the underground tunnel undetected.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as a guard hoaks.
A sudden soft gasp sounds as the guard wonders if something is nearby.
Adele worries for a brief moment that his presence has been detected by the patrol. The guard turns back toward Spaff.
Adele realizes the guard sensed a subtle difference and resolves to move more quickly toward the goal.
Adele spots a passage leading deeper into the fortress and prepares to enter. A system notification confirms the activation of a movement ability called Position Swap.
A sudden bright flash sounds. A sudden low swoof sounds.
Adele falls through a secret hatch, confirming his suspicion about a pressure mechanism on the floor. A sudden, low swoosh sounds.
Adele remains composed as he counts the seconds during his vertical descent into the dark abyss.
Adele prepares for impact as his descent reaches the 6-second mark. A sudden, quick whoosh sounds.
Adele hurls a dagger toward the ground as he times his next move perfectly. A sudden, sharp slice sounds.
A system notification announces the activation of a movement ability called Position Swap. A sudden, sharp snap sounds.
Adele lands gracefully on his feet after utilizing his magic to bypass the dangerous fall. A sudden, heavy thud sounds.
Adele finds himself at the entrance of a dark stone tunnel filled with flowing water. A sudden, low rush sounds.
Adele identifies his location as the underground waterway and prepares to navigate the next challenge. A sudden, soft hum sounds.
Adele encounters several poison-type black slimes and notes that their venom is lethal to anyone who touches them. A sudden, deep thrum sounds.
Adele activates a dark magic skill called Fang of Darkness to target the creatures from a safe distance. A sudden, sharp shing sounds.
Adel's magical blades strike the cores of the slimes, effectively neutralizing the threat in a series of precise attacks. A sudden, wet thwack sounds.
Adele walks past the dissolving remains of the slimes with a calm and satisfied expression.
Adele stands at the edge of the waterway and prepares to dive into the deep water to reach his goal. A sudden, low roar sounds. Adele plunges into the dark water, heading deeper into the hidden section of the fortress. A sudden, heavy splash sounds. Adele is startled by a mysterious, dark voice in the water warning him to turn back because a great evil has died.
Adele is puzzled by the mention of a great evil, recalling only a demon rebel who was sealed here centuries ago.
Adele pushes through his confusion, resolving to find the truth once he reaches his final destination.
Adele surfaces and hauls himself out of the water onto the damp stone floor of a hidden chamber. A sudden, wet slap sounds. Adele looks around the dimly lit room and wonders if he has finally arrived at the correct spot. Adele discovers a skeleton bound to the wall with massive chains and thick spikes. A sudden, heavy rumble sounds. Adele observes a pulsing heart within the skeleton's ribcage and realizes it holds the opportunity he seeks.
Adele reaches out toward the heart with a confident smile, eager to claim his prize at last. A sudden, quick whoosh sounds.
Adele stops as he senses an unexpected change in the atmosphere of the silent chamber.
The heart within the skeleton begins to beat violently and emit a sinister red glow. A sudden, heavy thump sounds. The ancient skeleton starts to shift and glow with an intense, eerie energy. A sudden, deep rumble sounds.
Adele is overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the power manifesting before him.
The skeleton's eye sockets ignite with orange flames as its energy begins to pulse. A sudden, low hum sounds.
The skeleton is illuminated by a massive, sun-like symbol as its power floods the entire chamber. A sudden, bright roar sounds.
Adele realizes the glowing symbol matches the tattoo of the Asen family on his own neck.
Adele is shocked to discover that a traitor of the demon realm shares a connection with his lineage.
The skeleton's voice resonates through the room, calling out to the child of Asen and commanding him to listen.
Adele urges the entity to speak, his face showing a mix of tension and anticipation.
The entity reveals that Adele bears the same burden of the blood of chaos born from its own line.
The skeletal figure warns Adele not to let himself be consumed by the chaotic force he carries. A sudden, sharp clack sounds.
The entity explains that chaos is a powerful force capable of distorting the established order of the world. A sudden, low hiss sounds.
The skeleton begins to crumble as it warns that losing oneself to chaos leads to a tragic end. A sudden, sharp shatter sounds.
The heart falls to the floor and returns to a cold, gray state of death as the skeleton vanishes. A sudden, soft thud sounds.
Adele reaches down to pick up the mysterious remains of the heart from among the bone fragments. A sudden, soft brush sounds.
The object begins to pulse with a faint red light as Adele holds it firmly in his hand. A sudden, low hum sounds.
Adele senses a powerful will within the heart that seeks nothing but absolute destruction. The heart crumbles into dust in Adele's grasp, leaving him to reflect on the legacy of his ancestors. A sudden, sharp crunch sounds. A system notification appears revealing that Adele has successfully unlocked a trait called psychokinesis.
Adele is thrilled to have finally obtained the powerful ability he was searching for.
Adele uses his new talent to levitate a jagged dagger, focusing his mana on the weapon. A sudden, low hum sounds.
The dagger clatters to the ground after a short flight as Adele's concentration wavers. A sudden, sharp clang sounds.
Adele realizes that he lacks proficiency with the skill and resolves to train harder to master it.
Adele smiles broadly, pleased with the unexpected gains he found in the darkness of the waterway. Fran crosses her arms and demands to know why the class president has been wandering around the prison alone.
Adele casually claims he was just taking a walk, much to the surprise and annoyance of the white-haired girl.
Fran questions the absurdity of his excuse, while Adele remarks on the interesting sight of the prisoners. Chibi Idea scolds Adele for leaving mid-conversation while he wonders about Luna's whereabouts.
Adele greets Luna as she approaches him in the dimly lit fortress hallway.
Luna confirms she rested well, leading Adele to joke about her deep and sound sleep.
Luna offers a blushing, stuttered thank you to Adele for his timely assistance.
Adele dismisses her gratitude while privately noting that she now owes him a significant favor.
Instructor Idea commands the remaining cadets to gather together for their departure.
The instructor expresses satisfaction that no dropouts occurred during the execution train. Idea praises their new resolve while reminding them that their skills still need polishing.
Adele feels a sense of relief as the group finally leaves the grim fortress.
The scene shifts to the grand, sunlit architecture of Saitan Academy. A week later, Adele reflects on the unchanging routine of classes at the academy. Adele secretly trains his psychokinesis with pen nibs while contemplating the upcoming midterm exams. He recalls that the original story features an invasion of the human world during midterms. Adele darkly wonders how many of his classmates will actually survive the coming battle. His attention is caught by Luna, who appears deeply troubled while sitting alone.
Adele watches the pink-haired girl as she avoids looking at any of her peers. Adele wonders if a specific event is weighing on the normally cheerful girl's mind.
Luna slumps over her desk in a state of exhaustion and misery. A sudden soft tap sounds as Adele pokes the girl's shoulder to get her attention. Adele commands the girl to wake up, causing her to jump in terror.
Luna admits she was frightened while Adele explains he was only trying to wake her.
Adele asks what is wrong, noting that her expression seems unwell.
Luna waves her hands nervously while insisting that absolutely nothing has happened.
Adele maintains a skeptical look but decides to let the matter rest for them. Adele surprises the pink-haired girl by inviting her to have lunch with him. Luna is shocked by the offer but quickly and happily agrees to join him. Adele tells the girl to meet him at the cafeteria as he turns away. Adele notes with satisfaction that Luna is no longer terrified of his presence. A sudden, deep tolling sounds from the academy's massive clock tower. Students walk along the bright campus pathways as the lunch break begins. Adele waits patiently at a designated meeting spot for Luna to arrive.
Adele grows concerned when lunch is almost over and Luna is still missing.
Finding himself alone, Adele decides to skip his meal and return to his dorm to train.
Adele's heart sinks as he spots Renee and Diana walking through the campus gardens.
The black-haired Renee and white-haired Diana scan the area as they pass.
A sudden sharp flash sounds as Adele panics and uses magic to hide from sight.
Diana asks Renee why she stopped as they continue along the path.
Renee suspects she saw someone she recognizes while Adele hides fearfully in the bushes.
Adele is gripped by terror at the thought of those two exposing his identity. Adele realizes he faces certain death if his descent from the Essen family is revealed. A dark memory shows the hero having killed the Demon King and his wife amidst flames. Adele resolves to flee the area as the two girls finally walk away. Adele discovers a quiet and scenic training spot located behind the academy cafeteria. He decides the secluded garden is a better place for practice than his room. A sudden, shrill scream sounds, piercing the silence of the afternoon. A sudden, quick scuff sounds as Adele recognizes the voice and dashes toward it.
Adele arrives to find a group of male students cornering Luna against a wall.
3 bullies loom over the pink-haired girl while ignoring her pleas to stop.
Luna cries out to Adele in desperate relief the moment she spots him.
Adele's expression hardens as he assesses the situation and prepares to intervene.
Adele intervenes, questioning the bullies' actions and ordering them to stop and return to their class.
The green-haired student scoffs at Adele's command as a sudden sharp hiss sounds.
The bully expresses his intense disgust at the sight of Adele protecting a fellow half-demon.
He mocks the idea of a half-demon serving as class president while poking Adele's chest. The student is suddenly choked by swirling dark energy as he attempts to challenge Adele's authority. His companions watch in horrified silence as they realize they are unable to move. Adele finds their paralysis truly ridiculous, mocking their inability to withstand even a small amount of bloodlust. The bully collapses to the ground and gasps for breath as a sudden heavy thump sounds. Adele looks down with cold indifference. The black-haired boy with a spider mark on his cheek observes Adele's calm behavior with deep interest.
Luna remains stunned and silent as she watches the confrontation unfold.
Adele declares that he has no intention of fighting and dismisses the group as they struggle to breathe. Adele warns them that it would be best to say nothing more if they want to avoid a grisly fate. The terrified students beat a hasty retreat, supporting their weakened friend as a sudden low groan sounds. The boy with the spider tattoo casts one last silent look back at Adele. Adele reflects on finding an unexpectedly calm and talented student and decides he should investigate the boy further. Adele turns to the pink-haired girl and asks if she is all right as a sudden, soft scuffed sounds. Luna thanks Adele for his help and confirms that she was not injured during the encounter. Adele notes that class will begin soon and suggests they head back inside. Luna is filled with excitement at the prospect of finally being taught real magic. The cadets gather in the classroom and offer a loud, formal salute to the instructor.
The instructor demands everyone's attention as a sudden, sharp bang sounds.
He announces that today's lesson will cover magic for real situations, specifically stealth art and silence. Adele is pleased to hear the topic, noting that the Academy is finally teaching his specialty.
The instructor explains that assassination is a necessity for them because they cannot defeat human heroes in direct combat.
Samuel scoffs at the instructor's assessment, showing his disagreement with a silent,
The instructor prepares to demonstrate the stealth art to the class.
He explains how to heat up the tattoo and release circulating mana as a sudden, soft hum sounds.
Adele notes that the technique will fail if the mana does not lightly spread across the entire body.
The instructor vanishes completely from the room's sight as a sudden, quick whoosh sounds.
Adele realizes this explains how the instructor went unnoticed during the previous confrontation with Samuel.
The instructor reappears and assigns the class to spread mana over their bodies as a sudden, sharp snap sounds.
He tells everyone to close their eyes and try the difficult process slowly and step by step.
Students struggle to control their mana.
The instructor privately observes that success today will be tough despite everyone's hard work.
He notes that Fran displays abundant mana and great control that lives up to her lineage.
The instructor identifies Samuel as the most outstanding student because his figure is already becoming blurry. He reflects that it normally takes a week to master this and labels both students as geniuses.
He suddenly remembers another talented cadet with the chaos attribute that instructor Eris is wary of.
The instructor calls for Adele's attention.
He is shocked to see that Adele's seat is empty, realizing the boy has completely deceived his eyes.
Adele finds the task remarkably easy as he stands perfectly cloaked in mana with a sudden, quick whoosh sounding.
Following the class, Adele reflects on his easy mastery and wonders how to combine stealth with his chaos attribute.
Adele reflects on improving his skills.
The instructor calls out to Adele in the hallway, asking him to wait. He asks Adele if this was truly his first time learning magic. Adele confirms it was his first lesson, but explains he could use his innate abilities from the very beginning. The instructor reacts with a mix of surprise and amusement at Adele's explanation. He asks Adele if he would be willing to visit his research lab when he has the time.
The instructor explains that Adele's talent and rare chaos attribute give him an overflowing amount of research value.
Adele reflects on his current skill set and its limitations.
Adele politely declines the instructor's invitation, explaining that he is too busy today.
Adele offers a promise to visit the lab another time, leaving the instructors satisfied.
Adele realizes he must now maintain the facade of being a magic prodigy.
The afternoon sun casts long shadows over the grand stone-walled academy.
Alone in his room, Adele prepares to develop a skill that surpasses simple stealth.
Adele grips his leg while worrying about the threat of human spies hiding nearby.
He resolves to master a new trump card to protect his secret identity.
Adele releases a sudden soft pew as he prepares his mana.
He focuses his energy on the impossible task of erasing his own existence.
A sudden sharp hum sounds as Adele is engulfed in a bright, swirling aura. Adele succeeds in turning his body completely translucent, hiding himself from sight.
A sudden heavy thump sounds as Adele's heart begins to race with the effort. Adele gasps for air as a strange, overwhelming sensation takes hold of her. A stylized banner marks the continuation of the fox-eyed villain story.
Adele struggles to breathe as a sudden, soft crackle sounds from his mana.
He realizes with horror that he cannot deactivate the stealth technique.
Adele is gripped by agony as he desperately tries to release the magic.
A sudden, sharp shatter sounds as the translucent mana finally breaks apart.
Adele collapses onto the floor, his body shaking from the intense mana drain.
He gasps for breath, noting that the terrible, blurry sensation is finally fading.
Adele realizes that he nearly lost himself because his mana was so depleted. He understands the dangers of chaos power, but sees its potential as a secret weapon. Adele decides to call his new combination of chaos and stealth absolute stealth. A sudden, sharp thud sounds as Adele is struck by an unexpected force. Adele is knocked backward while struggling to remain on his feet. Samuel stands before him with a look of stern disapproval.
Adele watches Samuel speak but finds himself unable to hear a single word.
A sudden hollow silence sounds as Adele tries to respond and fails.
Panic sets in as Adele realizes he cannot even hear his own voice.
Adele worries that his reckless training has permanently cost him his hearing.
Later, Adele tests his voice in a secluded forest as a sudden, soft hum sounds. He smiles in relief upon discovering that his hearing has finally returned. Adele stumbles blindly through the trees, realizing his sight has now been taken. A sudden, heavy thump sounds as Adele accidentally walks straight into a tree.
Adele notes that a week of testing has resulted in the loss of multiple senses.
He grows frustrated that the technique is unpredictable and only lasts 3 seconds.
Adele decides to seal the dangerous skill until he can use it with certainty.
He relaxes in the grass, choosing to focus on swordsmanship and basic mana instead.
Adele waits for his vision to return so he can make it back to class on time.
The purple-haired instructor oversees the group of cadets during their physical training.
Adele and his classmates run across the courtyard under the bright morning sun.
The instructor commands everyone to stop their training and gather around him. Adele stops in his tracks as the rest of the students assemble.
Adele wonders if the instructor is still unhappy about him being the class leader. The muscular instructor clears his throat to get the attention of the class.
He announces that physical training will be reduced to make room for swordsmanship.
Adele is thrilled at the prospect of finally receiving proper instruction in the sword.
A sudden, sharp ring sounds as the instructor draws his massive blade.
The instructor commands the class leader to step forward for a demonstration. Adele confirms he can channel mana into his weapon as the instructor questions him. Adele calmly affirms his ability with a smile. The instructor challenges Adele to attack with mana while he restricts himself to physical skill.
Adele wonders if the instructor intends to humiliate him with such a handicap.
The muscular instructor confirms the terms of the duel with a stern look.
Adele accepts the challenge and draws a small, curved dagger.
Adele unleashes his mana, eager to test the limits of Instructor Ares.
Adele launches a high-speed strike as a sudden, sharp whoosh sounds. He moves with fluid grace, leaving trails of mana in his wick. Adele strikes from multiple angles in a blur of rapid motion. A sudden, sharp ring sounds as the instructor effortlessly blocks the dagger with his greatsword. The instructor retaliates with a powerful, sweeping blow.
Adele narrowly evades the massive blade with a quick acrobatic leap.
The instructor stands firm, watching Adele's every move.
Adele reflects on the instructor's impenetrable defense, identifying him as a top-tier expert.
He realizes that traditional human titles of mastery hold little weight in the demon realm.
Determined to prove himself, Adele focuses mana into his dagger.
He lunges forward for another assault as a sudden, sharp whoosh sounds.
The purple-haired instructor remains impassive as the attack approaches.
Adele targets a vital point, aiming for the carotid artery with clinical intent.
The instructor shifts slightly to evade the lethal point.
A sudden, soft scuff sounds as the blade grazes the instructor's shoulder.
Adele believes he has finally landed a significant blow.
The instructor catches the blade in his own shoulder, pointing out the technique's flaws. Adele is struck by a massive counterforce as a sudden, sharp crack sounds.
A sudden, heavy thump sounds as Adele is slammed violently into the floor.
Adele gasps for breath amidst the shattered stone and rising desk.
The instructor looms over him with a terrifying aura, leaving Adele paralyzed with fear.
Luna cries out in panic for Adele's safety.
The instructor raises his sword for a final strike as the pressure intensifies. A sudden sharp bang sounds as the massive blade impacts the ground beside Adele.
Samuel and his classmates watch the display in absolute silence.
Adele pushes himself up from the crater as a sudden soft scuff sounds. He regains his footing while struggling to maintain his composure.
Adele reflects on surviving the blow only by using telekinesis to divert the sword.
The instructor stands over the wreckage, his massive sword resting on his shoulder. Adele asks if the demonstration was intended to be a lethal encounter.
The instructor pulls Adele's dagger from his shoulder and denies any murderous intent.
Eris orders Adele back to his seat as the boy recovers his weapon.
The instructor addresses the class, asking Adele what he learned from the clash. Adele identifies the strategy as the ruthless way of the weak.
He explains that Ares purposefully restricted himself to teach a specific lesson. Adele concludes that the weak must sacrifice their own flesh to land a decisive blow. He privately notes that the instructor took the injury on purpose to prove his point. The horned, white-haired girl is stunned by the realization of the instructor's methods. Ares explains that surviving the human world requires taking hits to secure a victory. He urges the cadets to use their own weaknesses as bait for their enemies.
The instructor dismisses honorable combat, focusing only on the necessity of winning.
He formally rebrands the lesson as a weapon technique pass.
Adele reflects on the brutal efficiency of the Academy's instructors as midterms approach.
Adele reflects on a human spy potentially leaking exam details, noting that in the novel, only the Citan cadets suffered while the Royal Academy remains safe.
He suspects that Instructor Ares is watching him and resolves to identify the true spy before the instructor can intervene.
Ares orders the cadets to return to their groups, which Adele views as a perfect opportunity to clear his own name.
Adele faces the purple-haired Gran.
Ares asks if Adele is still upset about their previous duel, but the boy offers a polite denial with a smile.
The instructor tells Adele to return, turning away as a sudden soft whoosh sounds. Adel's expression turns dark and his red eye glows as he watches the instructor walk away.
Sun shines over the academy.
Adele realizes Ares won't help him because of the killing intent and cruelty he displayed during their confrontation. He decides he cannot give up on being ruthless, as he needs that brutality to maintain influence over the 7 deadly sins. Adele resolves that if Ares continues to cross the line, the instructor will have to face the consequences of whatever he does next.
The pink-haired girl cries out in shock as Adele suddenly appears before her at her dusk.
Luna admits she is fine, while Adele notes he has startled her once again with his silent arrival.
Luna reminds Adele of their missed lunch plans from yesterday and asks if he is free to eat with her today. Adele agrees to go with her, and Luna responds with a happy, relieved confirmation.
Grand dining hall stands call.
A sudden, soft clatter sounds.
Adele marvels at the gourmet feast, while Luna is stunned by the overwhelming amount of food on their table.
Adele jokes about the god of gluttony punishing them for waste, leading Luna to promise they will finish the entire meal.
3 male cadets enter Guru.
The green-haired cadet stops suddenly. Adele waves as the group decides to leave the area with a dismissive Tesh sounder. The black-haired cadet stares back. Adele asks Luna about the students, and she reveals they were the ones who used to bully her for no clear reason.
Luna explains that they targeted her because she is physically weak and possesses only average abilities.
Adele understands her plight, noting that Luna's only special gift is her unique healing ability. She clarifies that while they didn't physically harm her, they would often curse at her or steal her silver coins.
Adele reacts with annoyance toward the bullies and tells Luna she should stay close to him from now on for protection.
Luna says she must prove she is different from demon traders, prompting Adele to insist that is even more reason for her to stay by his side.
Adele changes the subject to ask about the identity of a specific cadet among the group that just left.
Adele identifies the student as the one with a spider tattoo on his cheek.
Luna identifies the boy as Kyle, a name that leaves Adele visibly stunned.
Adele wonders if this Kyle is the same person described in the novel or if he simply shares a familiar name.
Adele asks if Kyle is a half-demon, but Luna clarifies that he is actually a pure-blooded demon.
She adds that Kyle is quite frightening because he looks at half-demon cadets with total disgust.
Adele asks if he looks at them like they are bugs, and Luna confirms that is exactly the case.
Adele recognizes that expression as the same look he gave humans back in Oregon, marking Kyle as a prime suspect for the spy.
He considers using a system information paper, but decides it is too expensive to waste money on a hunch.
Adele stands up and tells Luna he already has plenty of info on the spy before heading to confront the group.
3 cadets eat in silence.
Adele looms over the table.
The green-haired boy stands up in shock, demanding to know what Adele thinks he is doing.
Adele calmly begins talking about a certain first-year girl attending the Royal Academy.
The green-haired boy growls about being ignored as Adele mentions the girl is a half-demon with only an older brother as family.
The black-haired cadet glares back.
Adele suggests her name might be Ray, causing the black-haired boy to glare with intense hatred.
The green-haired cadet, Jerian, demands that Adele leave immediately while gripping his shoulder.
A sudden sharp tug sounds. A sudden heavy crash sounds.
Adele confirms he has the right name as Jerian cries out in pain after being slammed onto the dining table.
Adele looms over the green-haired boy as a sudden sharp whoosh sounds. A sudden heavy vroo sounds.
Adele leaves the scene behind as a sudden sharp whoosh sounds.
Adele identifies his target with a chilling smile and a glowing red eye.
A sudden, soft splash sounds.
Jerian washes blood from his face while cursing the presence of half-demon cadets. Jerian asks Kyle if he plans to take revenge for the humiliation, but the boy remains silent. Jerian questions why Kyle is refusing to speak or react to the situation. Jerian reminds Kyle that he was the one who advocated against trusting half-demons, accusing him of backing out.
Jerian calls Kyle a cowardly bastard and grabs his collar as a sudden, sharp clutch sounds.
A sudden, sharp bang sounds as Kyle violently slams Jerian's head into the floor.
Jerian groans in intense pain as he is held down.
A sudden, sharp bang sounds as Kyle continues his ruthless assault.
Kyle calls Jerian an annoying little bug while a sudden, soft splatter sounds.
The fair-haired cadet panics as a sudden, heavy thud sounds. Kyle orders the cadets to leave the room immediately before he kills everyone present.
A sudden, soft creak sounds.
Kyle wonders how Adele managed to uncover his secret identity despite his perception-dulling magic.
Kyle trusts that his top-class disguise spells should have kept his true nature hidden.
A sudden, sharp grip sounds as Kyle considers if Adele might be another spy from the human world.
Kyle worries that his little sister's safety might be compromised if his identity is exposed.
A sudden, soft creak sounds as someone enters the storage area.
Kyle resolves to eliminate Adele before his secret is revealed to the entire academy. A sudden, soft clatter sounds as Kyle prepares his throwing knives for battle.
Kyle decides to send his gathered intelligence report before initiating the confrontation.
A sudden, soft hum sounds as Kyle transmits a message identifying Adele as a threat to his mission.
A sudden, sharp bang sounds as Adele bursts through the doors of the secret storage room. Kyle is visibly stunned by the sudden and bold intrusion.
Adele catches his breath, expressing relief that he arrived just in time to intervene. Kyle demands to know how Adele found the location as a sudden, sharp whoosh sounds.
Adele politely offers a greeting to the spy in the darkened room.
Kyle attacks with throwing blades, shouting that the evening would be better without Adele as a sudden, sharp whoosh sounds.
Adele effortlessly dodges the projectiles while commenting on Kyle's lack of manners as a sudden, sharp whoosh sounds.
A sudden, soft whir sounds as Kyle begins to manifest a powerful magical energy.
A sudden, sharp boom sounds as Kyle unleashes a blast that sends Adele reeling.
Adele identifies the attack as a second circle energy bolt, noting that Kyle is no longer hiding his magical heritage.
Adele explains that using magic circles proves Kyle is a half-demon or human in disguise, rendering his current appearance fake.
Kyle admits that Adele has successfully uncovered his secrets and his hidden base of operations.
Adele offers a cryptic response with a mocking smile.
A sudden, sharp boom sounds as Kyle demands to know how Adele is aware of his sister, Ray.
Adele reflects on Kyle's sister as a sudden, sharp whoosh sounds. A narration reveals that Ray suffers from an incurable mana buildup and Kyle joined the humans to find her a cure. Kyle demands an immediate answer as a sudden, sharp bang sounds.
A sudden, sharp boom sounds as Adele narrowly avoids the collapsing masonry.
Adele decides to provoke Kyle into a blind rage to test his full potential.
Adele admits he has never personally met Kyle's sister despite knowing her identity.
Adele cruelly describes the girl's trembling, sorrowful smile as something truly beautiful. Adele tells Kyle that the sister's smile was so beautiful he felt a desire to break it.
Kyle glares with absolute murderous rage at the insulting provocation.
A sudden, heavy roar sounds as Kyle loses control of his energy in a blind fury.
Adele mockingly suggests that a proper spy should use more creative insults against his enemies.
Kyle commands the boy to be quiet as a sudden, sharp crackle sounds from the lightning gathering in his fist.
Kyle stands fully wreathed in electricity, vowing to force the boy to confess everything before his death.
Adele offers a mocking challenge to the spy, inviting him to try and take him down if he can.
Kyle unleashes a massive torrent of electrical energy across the storage room as a sudden, heavy boom sounds.
Adele uses his position swap magic to instantly evade the incoming energy bolt as a sudden, soft whoosh sounds.
Adele glides through the air with a smirk while the blast erupts behind him as a sudden, sharp bang sounds.
Kyle reacts with wide-eyed shock as his target effortlessly dodges his high-powered attack.
Adele stands unscathed among the floating debris, noting that even he finds his own speed difficult to believe. Adele mockingly asks if the spy has finally finished his futile investigation.
Kyle realizes with growing dread that Adele has known his secret identity from the very beginning.
Adele observes that the spy has finally understood the overwhelming gap in their respective abilities.
Kyle grits his teeth in frustration as a sudden, sharp crackle sounds from his resurging magical aura.
Kyle roars that he is going all out as he prepares multiple orbs of lightning while Adele reacts with surprise.
Adele identifies the massive magical display as a high-level third circle multicast spell.
Adele notes that the incoming volley of 20 shots actually makes the fight easier than he expected. Kyle demands to know why the boy finds his ultimate attack to be an easy obstacle to overcome.
Kyle roars a final command for Adele to die as he launches the massive volley of energy orbs. A system notification appears confirming that Adele has successfully set a target for his position swap ability.
Adele vanishes just as the lightning strikes his former position as a sudden, heavy crash sounds.
Kyle laughs with sinister delight, claiming he anticipated Adele would try to use that specific evasive maneuver.
Adele catches the spy completely off guard by reappearing directly behind him.
Kyle is stunned to realize that Adele is able to chain his magic skills together with such precision.
Adele unleashes a swirling mass of dark energy that completely envelops the two combatants. Kyle panics as he realizes the true terrifying nature of the power Adele is wielding against him. Adele offers a mocking suggestion for the spy to take a short, forced nap.
Adele delivers a swift strike to the spy's neck as a sudden, sharp thud sounds. Kyle groans in pain as he begins to lose consciousness from the precision blow.
Adele exhales a breath of relief, satisfied that he has finally managed to capture the elusive spy.
Adele looms over the unconscious boy, debating whether it would be simpler to just kill him now.
Adele decides he needs the spy's information and must avoid making an enemy out of the boy's powerful sister. A vision reveals Ray as a powerful dragon contractor who has likely cured her illness in this timeline.
Adele breaks into a cold sweat at the thought of facing a vengeful Ray at the height of her powers.
Adele notes that the spy likely hasn't received any updates and still believes his sister is suffering.
Adele stands over the body and wonders if there is a way to force the spy's cooperation through other means. Kyle begins to stir on the floor, groaning in pain as he slowly returns to consciousness.
Adele's red eye glows with a dark, sinister joy as he realizes he has a perfect method to control the spy.
Kyle groans in intense pain as he tries to regain his senses following the brutal defeat.
Kyle wakes up with a sharp gasp, looking around the room in a state of confused panic.
Adele greets the recovering spy with a cheerful smile and asks if he is finally awake.
Kyle demands to know what the boy's planning, but Adele maintains a polite and innocent facade.
Kyle is suspicious of why he was spared and demands to know why Adele waited for him to wake up.
Adele admits he was waiting, but warns the spy that he didn't spend that time sitting idly. Adele reveals a small, glowing purple creature inside a box as a sudden, soft clatter sounds.
Kyle reacts with absolute horror as he looks at the strange creature Adele is holding.
Kyle is terrified by the sight of the box, and Adele mockingly asks if he recognizes the object. Adele confirms that the creature is indeed a parasitic poison used for control. Adele explains that the twin venom parasite only functions properly when it is shared between two different hosts.
Kyle demands to know what was done to him as he stares at the container in terror.
Kyle's eyes widen in realization as he understands the horrific implication of needing a second host. Adele reveals that the other half of the parasite is currently inside the boy's sister Ray, leaving the spy completely speechless. Kyle's expression turns to one of pure dread as Adele explains that Reese Hart was simply unable to manage her extreme mana sensitivity. Adele laughs mockingly, noting that her fragile state made it incredibly easy to implant the parasite. Kyle stares in shock as the boy explains that while Ree's condition is rare, it is not beyond medical treatment.
Adele offers a cruel hope, claiming that he possesses the power to provide a permanent cure.
Adele looks down at the defeated spy, commenting that the boy clearly underestimated his opponent's depth of knowledge. A sudden sharp gasp sounds as Adele displays the Bareth family parasite, which survives by consuming its host's magical energy.
Adele points out that the parasite is the only thing keeping Ree's heart from failing, making Kyle's cooperation inevitable.
Adele smirks as he notices the boy is starting to play along with his deceptive act, finding the situation quite helpful.
Kyle realizes with a start that the parasite he once feared is actually the only thing keeping his sister alive.
Defeated, Kyle demands to know what the boy wants from him in exchange for his sister's safety. A sudden soft footstep sounds as Adele acknowledges that he has demands but insists on setting boundaries first.
A sudden sharp hiss sounds as Adel's dark aura flares, expressing his intense dislike for the spy's defiant attitude.
Adele looms over the boy with a cold glare, reminding him that the lives of both Kyle and his sister are now his to command.
Kyle finally submits to the pressure, and Adele is pleased with the boy's sudden change in demeanor.
Adele states that he requires two specific things from the spy to move forward with their deal.
Adele orders the boy to use his communication device to feed the Royal Academy false intelligence about a planned attack.
Kyle rejects the idea, fearing that Adele intends to redirect his malice toward a different group of innocent students.
Adele ignores the protest and reveals he is fully aware that Ray is currently a student at the Royal Academy.
Adele guarantees that the girl will remain safe as long as Kyle follows his instructions perfectly.
Adele issues a cold command for the spy to immediately withdraw from his current post.
Kyle is stunned by the order to leave Saitan, but Adele explains that he has more important work for the boy to do on the outside. Adele tasks him with investigating and reporting any rumors or news regarding hidden realms within the demon world.
Kyle reluctantly agrees to cooperate, offering to give the boy whatever he wants to ensure his sister's protection.
Adele reflects on how easily his lies have manipulated the spy into becoming a disposable pawn for his future plans.
Adele mentions that there is still one final condition that must be met before their arrangement is finalized.
Adele wonders what is going through the spy's head as Kyle asks about the nature of the remaining condition.
Kyle shouts his demand for a demon god's oath, willing to sacrifice everything if his sister is truly threatened.
A momentary pause in the action serves as a reflection on the silent persistence required to continue through grueling trials.
A narrative explanation reveals that a demon god's oath is a lethal contract that claims the life of any participant who breaks it.
Adele acknowledges that while the oath is risky, it is the most effective way to keep the spy on a short leash.
Adele accepts the terms, secretly plotting to hide a loophole within the contract that will allow him to break it if necessary. Kyle points out that only master-level mages possess such items and asks if the boy has the necessary equipment. Kyle mocks the boy's confidence, but suggests that someone of his standing should have no trouble acquiring the item.
Adele realizes he will have to find a way to get the ritual object himself and begins to search for a potential supplier. A sudden, sharp realization strikes Adele as he remembers that Instructor Robolt might have the master-level item he needs.
Adele resolves to obtain the artifact today, feeling confident that he can convince the instructor to help.
Adele tells the spy to meet him back at the storage room at dawn tomorrow to finalize their deal. A sudden, sharp clasp sounds as the two enemies solidify their dangerous new partnership with a handshake.
Adele walks away satisfied with his new slave, while Kyle remains behind, stewing in his own frustration and defeat.
Adele worries that despite his success with Kyle, he is still unprepared for the challenges of his upcoming midterms.
Adele acknowledges the nearly impossible odds of success at the Imperial Academy, but remains determined to find a way through.
The scene shifts to Instructor Robolt, a man with glasses who is busy studying a thick tome at his cluttered desk.
A sudden, quick tap sounds at the door, pulling the instructor's attention away from his research.
Adele peeks into the office with a friendly smile, offering a polite greeting to the surprised magic instructor.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Robolt jumps to his feet, genuinely pleased that the boy actually came to visit him.
Robolt warmly invites him to have a seat and offers him some tea, which the boy graciously accepts. A large board on the wall is covered in intricate ritual diagrams and star charts used for high-level magic. Adele observes the laboratory with interest, noting the instructor's clear dedication to both scholarly books and complex rituals. Robolt pours the tea while thanking the boy for visiting, and Adele expresses his gratitude for the instructor's kind hospitality. Adele asks the instructor why he was chosen for this specific task. Robolt calls it an important matter while privately deciding to test the boy's resolve. Adele wonders if there is a fear of secrets leaking, but the instructor clarifies that the information is simply difficult to share. Adele surprises the instructor by offering to bind himself with a demon god's oath to prove his trustworthiness.
Robolt agrees to the terms, and Adele is pleased to find the man already possesses such a rare contract.
A sudden, sharp crackle sounds as Robolt manifests the glowing red parchment of the lethal oath.
Adele is taken aback by the speed at which the instructor produced the master-level artifact.
The contract states that Adele must keep the research secret and assist until results are achieved in exchange for a specific payment.
Adele asks if the contract was prepared beforehand, and Robolt offers a nervous laugh in response.
Adele proposes a revision to the contract that allows him to withdraw and return payment if the task exceeds his abilities.
Robolt accepts the new terms and asks what specific compensation the boy desires. Adele considers the necessity of mana-restoring items for his future plans while the instructor awaits his answer.
Robolt agrees to provide the items, noting they are affordable, and presents the pen for the final signature.
Adele confirms that a simple name is all that is required to finalize the magical deal. Adele remains curious about why he was preferred over the more talented upperclassmen.
Robolt admits that he sought help from older students first, but none were able to contribute to the research.
Robolt mentions that even the talented Samuel refused to help, which Adele finds typical of the boy's personality. Adele hands over the paper, feeling satisfied with his successful use of a false identity.
A sudden, violent bang sounds as the contract is consumed by swirling red magical flames.
A sudden, sharp rush sounds as the energy from the contract flows into the air.
Robolt declares the oath complete and prepares to lead Adele into his private study. A sudden, sharp clatter sounds as the instructor pulls a specific tome from the shelf. A sudden, heavy rumble sounds as the massive bookshelf slides away to reveal a hidden passage. Adele is stunned to find such a large secret area within the academy and wonders who else knows of its existence.
Robolt leads the way into a vast underground laboratory filled with brewing equipment and ancient artifacts.
Robolt presents the primary focus of his study, a single ancient book resting on a pedestal.
Adele stares at the object, realizing he is looking at an authentic relic from a lost era.
Otto leans in to examine the weathered manuscript, noting its high-quality construction and aged appearance.
He opens the ancient tome carefully. Adele observes that the pages are mostly blank, though Robolt highlights a single sentence on the very last page.
Adele asks about the book's origin, and Robolt claims to have found it by chance in an abandoned desert home. Robolt explains that he discovered the book lying in the sand during a trip to the western desert. Adele suggests that the location must have once been a thriving village due to the presence of a nearby oasis. Robolt confirms that the village seems to have vanished entirely, leaving only the ruins and the book behind. Robolt becomes visibly excited as he asks Adele to examine the final sentence of the manuscript. A sudden soft rustle sounds as Robolt flips through the pages, explaining that the cryptic writing is the reason he needs help. Alien script covers the final cage.
Adele admits the writing is unfamiliar, and Robolt asks if the boy can sense any hidden meaning behind the glyphs.
Adele thinks to himself that the letters are completely unrecognizable, while Robolt notes that other top students also failed to read them.
Adele asks if any progress has been made, but Robolt admits he is at a total standstill.
Robolt mentions that he searched nearby villages for clues, but none of the locals knew of the book or the ruins.
Adele breaks into a slight sweat, worrying that he might be unable to fulfill his end of the bargain. He searches for a hidden hint.
A sudden soft slide sounds as Adele places his fingers against the ancient parchment. A sudden sharp gasp sounds as Adele's vision is engulfed by a distorting blue light.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Adele's necklace begins to glow with an intense, magical light.
The symbols begin wriggling like insects.
Adele is overwhelmed with confusion, wondering if the moving text is merely a trick of his mind.
The letters rearrange themselves into a readable prophecy about a broken rule and a stopping clock. Adele realizes the book is undeniably connected to the demon god, even if the meaning of the message remains a mystery. Instructor Robolt asks if something is wrong after observing the boy's focused expression.
Adele surprises the instructor by claiming he has successfully interpreted the ancient phrase within the book. Adele admits that while he identified the sentence, he has yet to grasp its full significance.
Robolt is ecstatic, noting that the syllables align perfectly and confirm a link to a rare chaos attribute. Adele offers a simple acknowledgement as the instructor marvels at the research value of the text. Adele suggests the discovery is massive but requires further study to be certain of its true meaning. Robolt decides that further relics must be sought and tells the boy he has contributed enough for today.
Robolt offers to provide immediate payment for the boy's successful interpretation of the glyphs.
Adele is caught off guard by the offer, but the instructor insists on providing the reward right away. Adele smiles to himself, surprised that the payment for his work is being handled so efficiently.
A sudden cold sweat breaks out on Adele's face as he realizes the potential danger if more relics are found. A sudden sharp gleam sounds as Adele's necklace begins to glow with an intense red light. Adele observes that more rings on his necklace are being tainted by the book's corrupting influence.
Adele considers handing the necklace over, but is interrupted when the instructor finds the items he was looking for.
Adele decides to keep the artifact for himself, realizing he cannot fully trust the instructor with its power. Robolt presents a bag containing various potions and scrolls as compensation for the boy's help.
Robolt insists that he is the one who should be grateful for the breakthrough in his study.
Both parties express their hope for a continued and fruitful partnership in the future.
Robot warns the boy to keep their research a total secret from everyone else in the academy.
Adele's eye glows a menacing red as he realizes that the instructor's safety depends entirely on his future actions.
Robo becomes visibly panicked, questioning if the boy intends to betray their magical oath. Adele points out that the instructor is conducting research without the principal's permission, causing the man to groan in distress.
Adele smirks, noting that the instructor's flustered reaction proves his suspicions were correct.
Adele playfully mentions the risk of expulsion to further unsettle the nervous academic.
Adele reassures the man that he will provide full support now that they are accomplices in this secret.
Adele requests mana potions as his only requirement, much to the instructor's relief.
Robo provides the requested potions, and Adele finds the payment to be quite acceptable.
As Adele prepares to leave, the instructor asks what he plans to do with the master-level contract.
Adele reveals with a dark smile that his goal is to use the item to secure a permanent slave.
The scene shifts to the academy exterior as the sun begins to set over the grand architecture.
Adele returns to the storage room and greets the spy with a casual remark.
Kyle dismisses the greeting and demands to know if the boy actually brought the ritual object.
A sudden, soft rustle sounds as Adele produces the magical parchment with a confident smile.
Kyle is stunned that the boy obtained the item so quickly, but Adele reminds him that there is no turning back.
Adele instructs the spy to carefully review the terms and sign the lethal contract.
Kyle agrees and signs the oath, which guarantees his sister's safety in exchange for his absolute obedience to Adele.
Adele declares the magical deal officially complete, feeling satisfied with his new subordinate.
Adele presents the first order to his newly bound slave.
Kyle acknowledges the command to begin feeding false information to his former superiors at the Royal Academy.
A sudden, sharp hum sounds as Kyle inserts the intelligence into a glowing spherical transmission device.
Adele watches with interest as Kyle explains the mechanics and high mana cost of the artifact.
Kyle kneels by the device, noting that it will soon become useless once his betrayal is discovered.
Adele asks if the spy finds their mutual agreement satisfactory, prompting an annoyed response.
Kyle lets out a heavy sigh, resigning himself to his new life of servitude under the boy's command.
Adele issues his final command, ordering the spy to leave the academy grounds immediately.
Adele tasks him with gathering intelligence on hidden realms and noble families within the demon world.
Adele instructs the boy to send regular reports on his findings every 2 weeks.
Kyle accepts the mission, and Adele reflects on how efficiently the former spy follows his orders.
A sudden, quick movement sounds as Kyle reaches out his hand to finalize their dangerous new pact.
Adele smiles and accepts the handshake, looking forward to the spy's future contributions to his plans.
A sudden, sharp clap sounds as the boy and the spy finalize their handshake to seal their new pact. Kyle demands money to carry out the task of gathering information, insisting that he needs proper funds to succeed.
Adele realizes he had not prepared for a payment request and admits that he is currently short on cash.
Adele suggests they seek help from Crete while the black-haired spy becomes visibly frustrated by the delay in payment.
Adele provides a folded paper and explains that showing it to the Bareth family will grant Kyle assistance, provided he never opens it.
Kyle agrees to start immediately and leave the academy once his withdrawal is official, prompting Adele to note his impressive speed.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Kyle walks away, muttering his disgust at being surrounded by people he considers worms.
The scene shifts back to the academy grounds as students interact in the absence of the departed spy. Adele reflects on Kyle's sudden disappearance from Satan and how his own reputation grew following their previous encounter. Adele observes that Luna remains suspicious of him, though he admits her wariness is justified given the scene in the cafeteria.
Adele worries that the instructors, particularly Aries, are convinced he is hiding something, even if they cannot prove it yet.
Adele notes that midterms are approaching and that replacing the class representative now would reveal the underlying chaos to everyone.
A sudden, sharp slap sounds as an instructor slams her hand on the desk to grab the attention of the class.
The female instructor announces that midterms begin in 3 days, covering subjects like weapon techniques, magic, and human understanding. The instructor's eyes glow with an intense light as she highlights the practical exam on the final day as the most critical subject.
The instructor reveals the practical goal is an invasion of the human Royal Academy, which Adele notes is exactly where the story begins.
Adele realizes that the main episode of the original story is finally about to commence within the Academy. A vision of a burning fortress appears as Adele reflects on the impending clash between demons and human defenders. Fran laughs with arrogance and declares that the top rank in the midterm exams will belong solely to her.
The other students erupt into aggressive cheers, calling for the destruction of the class representative and the human enemies.
Adele observes the white-haired girl's wild laughter and notes that the entire class already appears to be brainwashed. The students express a deep desire for revenge against the human world after the suffering their kind has endured.
Adele thinks to himself that this bloodlust is a better outcome than seeing his classmates paralyzed by fear or worry.
Adele remains seated and focused, believing that there is still hope to turn the situation to his advantage.
Adele reflects on his successful manipulations, including bribing Kyle to leak false data and keeping the healer Luna from being expelled.
Adele considers that while the Royal Academy cannot be destroyed, he might be able to prevent his own class from dying in the attempt.
Adele intends to earn high praise as class representative and the trust of Aries to gain access to the armory.
Adele determines his primary goals for the midterm are survival and high scores, and he vows to give his everything to succeed.
Renee approaches the boy and comments that it has been a significant amount of time since they last met.
Adele acknowledges her presence but realizes she is furious as he calculates that months have passed since their last talk.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Renee's aura flares, and she accuses the boy of intentionally avoiding her.
Diana sits comfortably on a wooden crate and curiously asks why the two of them are always found together.
The silver-haired girl with the crown of thorns introduces herself as Diana with a confident and sharp expression.
Adele worries that avoiding bad ties only seems to bring them closer to him, leaving him uncertain about how to handle her.
Diana playfully asks if the boy plans to ignore her greeting, claiming it would be hurtful to her feelings.
Diana smiles as she welcomes him while the black-haired girl scoffs in clear annoyance at the silver-haired girl's presence.
Renee tells them to skip the pleasantries and demands to know why the boy avoided her and is only now seeking a duel.
Adele claims he felt guilty for his actions, prompting a skeptical Renee to ask what specifically he feels guilty about. Adele puts on a fake display of sobbing while claiming he failed his duty as her bodyguard, much to Renee's irritation.
Adele searches through his belongings while wondering if he truly must resort to his backup method to appease her. A sudden, soft chime sounds as the boy presents a glowing glass potion bottle as a gift for the girl.
Diana is stunned to see a mana potion, and Adele notes that obtaining such a rare item was no easy feat.
Diana encourages Renee to accept the gift and forgive the boy, while Adele thanks Diana for helping smooth over the resentment.
Renee remains stubborn and claims she has no need for such items, making Adele realize she is still seriously angry. Renee looks directly at the boy and prepares to offer a more serious response to his apology. Adele claims he kept his distance to protect Renee's reputation after being bullied by other cadets for being a half-demon. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Adele drops to one knee and offers a sincere apology for causing her any pain. Adele bows his head in a submissive posture while silently hoping that his emotional manipulation is working. Diana is convinced by the display and tells Renee that the boy is a truly caring and dedicated bodyguard. Renee's cold expression finally breaks as a small, genuine smile appears on her face after hearing his words.
Adele asks if the girl with horns is now willing to accept his gift.
A sudden, quick swish sounds as Renee turns away while insisting she isn't injured. Diana pokes the black-haired girl's cheek and notes the success of the encounter, while Renee tells her to go away. Diana playfully notes Renee's stiffness, while Adele observes that the silver-haired girl has a surprisingly mischievous side. A sudden, sharp hum sounds as Adele draws his blade and suggests a training session to clear the air. A sudden, soft rustle sounds as Diana calls for a pause before the sparring begins.
Diana encourages Renee to demonstrate her newly acquired skill to her bodyguard.
Adele reflects on the fact that Renee managed to learn something significant during their time apart.
Renee prepares her weapon and tells Adele to watch her closely as a dark aura begins to manifest. A sudden, resonant hum sounds as Renee's eyes glow with power and an intense energy surrounds her. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Renee swings her blade and releases a massive shockwave of dark energy. A sudden, quick sizzle sounds as Adele marvels at the incredible intensity of her aura.
A sudden, low rumble sounds as the dark energy begins to condense around the edge of the glade.
Adele observes the mana concentrating at the tip of the sword and turning the metal pitch black.
A sudden, resonant hum sounds as Renee holds the fully manifested dark blade with absolute focus. Adele realizes that her technique is a form of sword energy that only the most elite human knights can achieve.
Adele is stunned that Renee successfully refined her mana to such an incredibly thin level.
A sudden, quick whoosh sounds as Renee prepares to strike with the dark-coated weapon. Renee admits that the technique is still incomplete and requires her total concentration to maintain. Adele challenges her to a clash to test the new skill, and she readily accepts. A sudden soft click sounds as Adele decides to use a simple dagger to gauge the strength of the black mana. A sudden sharp tap sounds as the two engage in a high-speed exchange of strikes. A sudden sharp bang sounds as their weapons collide in a burst of light and sparks. A sudden quick swoosh sounds as Renee maneuvers with impressive speed and precision. A sudden sharp gasp sounds as Adele narrowly avoids a lethal strike from the black-haired girl's blade.
Adele feels confident as his enhanced vision allows him to track every one of Renee's movements perfectly.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Renee continues her relentless assault with glowing eyes.
A sudden sharp chime sounds as Renee's superior power completely shatters Adel's dagger.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Renee holds her blade to his throat, leaving Adele shocked by her speed.
A sudden, quick swish sounds as Adele praises the incredible power of her new technique.
A sudden sharp clop sounds as Diana applauds the rare sight of a noble lady overpowering her guard. Diana praises the black-haired girl's talent while Renee remains silent and composed. Diana continues to tease her companion as the sparring session concludes. A sudden resonant hum sounds as Diana's eyes glow with a mysterious light while she observes the boy. A sudden sharp chime sounds as Diana activates her special ability to see through Adele's facade. Diana expresses her deep curiosity about the boy's true nature as her power intensifies. A sudden resonant hum sounds as a glowing red aura surrounds Diana while she stares at the boy.
Adele reflects on Diana's terrifying ability to observe even the smallest details of a person's body.
Adele wonders how he should navigate the intense interest of the girl destined to be the next Demon King. A sudden heavy thud sounds as an oppressive killing intent washes over the red-haired boy. A sudden sharp chime sounds as Diana offers a chilling smile that hides her true intentions. Adele notes that Diana's composed smile in the face of killing intent proves her immense strength.
Renee interrupts the tension to ask what Diana is so curious about.
Diana claims she is simply fascinated by Renee's swordsmanship, while Adele silently notes how easily people are deceived.
Adele asks for more details on how the black-haired girl manages to manifest the sword energy. Renee explains that the key is to feel the mana filling the blade from the inside out.
Adele is humbled as he realizes the sheer gap between average cadets and true geniuses.
Adele suggests ending the session so they can focus on their upcoming studies.
Adele asks the black-haired girl if she is well prepared for the midterm examinations.
Renee looks at him thoughtfully as she considers her response to his inquiry.
Adele observes the confidence in the black-haired girl's eyes and calculates that the midterm timing avoids a critical plot point from the original story.
Adele predicts that while the black-haired girl will survive, his own survival and that of Class A remains unlikely.
Adele offers his well wishes to the black-haired girl as she departs with her silver-haired companion.
The silver-haired girl with the crown of thorns offers a final, knowing smile as she leaves.
A sudden, quick rustle sounds as the red-haired boy flinches with a bead of sweat on his face.
Adele sighs as he realizes he has become a target of interest once again.
The sun shines brightly over the spires of the academy as the day of the exams arrives. A sudden, sharp peck sounds as a small bird feeds on fragments scattered on the stone floor.
Adele feeds the bird and notes that the midterm examinations have finally begun.
Adele looks exhausted as he reflects on his inability to truly understand the human-centric curriculum. A sudden sharp peck sounds as the bird strikes the boy's head while he hopes his cramming will be enough to pass.
Adele sits in the classroom and despairs as his memory of the studied material completely fails him.
Adele turns to the pink-haired girl and inquires about her level of preparation for the test.
Luna admits to feeling nervous but remains confident she won't fail, while the blue-haired girl with horns listens in silence.
Fran dismisses the importance of theory and claims she only needs to excel in the practical exam to succeed.
Adele resolves to discipline the arrogant girl later as she boastfully claims the top spot for herself. A sudden, resonant ring sounds as the instructor enters and orders the students to take their seats and clear their desks.
The students begin their work while the instructor warns that any cheating will result in immediate removal.
Adele finds the exam easier than expected as his unique mental traits assist his focus. Adele reflects on the tragic history of the original character's family to formulate his answers about humans. Adele struggles to reconcile his perspective as the creator with the expected answers on the test.
A sudden soft scribble sounds as Adele finishes his writing despite his internal conflict. A sudden resonant ring sounds as the first period ends and the instructor announces the commencement of the weapon techniques exam.
Aries stands with a massive, imposing presence as he prepares to oversee the practical portion of the midterm.
Aries explains that the students must demonstrate their true combat prowess using either magic or weapons.
Luna looks on with concern as the instructor forbids anyone from skipping the exam out of fear.
Adele notes the rising tension as he realizes the students are expected to engage in genuine combat.
A sudden sharp thud sounds as the blue-haired girl with horns trembles in the face of the instructor's power. A sudden heavy crash sounds as a student is violently slammed onto the arena floor. Adele observes the relentless brutality of the instructor, while Aries mocks the student's weak efforts. Aries easily overwhelms the class using only his fists, leaving the students unable to land a single hit.
Aries calls for Samuel to step forward, prompting the dark blue-haired boy to move toward the center of the arena. Samuel prepares himself as Aries challenges him to show his full strength.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Samuel unleashes a massive torrent of green energy shaped like predatory sharks.
Aries acknowledges the boy's effort and decides to increase his own power in response.
Aries' eyes glow with an intense light as he prepares a serious counterattack. Aries unleashes a technique that generates a massive explosion of red fire energy, completely clashing with the green sharks. Samuel is visibly strained as he struggles to maintain his assault against the instructor's overwhelming power. Adele marvels at the instructor's unwavering stability even while maintaining such a high-level technique.
A sudden loud roar sounds as Samuel screams while being consumed by the intense energy of the clash.
Aries offers a praiseful smile as he notes the boy's impressive recovery speed.
Samuel attempts a desperate follow-up strike, but the instructor remains perfectly poised.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Aries delivers a powerful blow directly to the student's midsection.
Samuel collapses to his knees in a daze while Aries asks if he intends to continue.
Samuel trembles as he tries to force his body to move once more.
A sudden quick whoosh sounds as Samuel lunges forward in a final, unexpected attempt to strike.
A sudden sharp crack sounds as Aries intercepts the attack with his shoulder, causing blood to splatter.
Aries commends the student for his tactical thinking despite the failure of the surprise move.
Aries orders the defeated boy to be removed from the arena and immediately calls for the next participant.
Aries fixes his gaze on Adele and demands that the red-haired boy step up for his turn.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Adele faces Aries in the arena.
A sudden resonant ring sounds as Aries orders the battle to begin.
Adele realizes the instructor's murderous aura is intended to inflict serious injury or death.
Adele asks for a brief moment to speak before they clash.
Adele expresses a desire to see how the instructor manages to manifest his power.
Aries prepares his massive red weapon.
Adele offers a calm, confident smile. Aries explains that sword energy is a complex skill that cannot be mastered simply by observation. Adele claims that he can understand the sensation if he is shown the technique just once.
A sudden quick sizzle sounds as Aries tells him to watch the demonstration closely.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Aries compresses red mana to coat his massive blade.
Adele expresses his sincere gratitude to the instructor for providing the demonstration.
Adele reflects on the impossibility of using such a high-level skill through intellectual understanding alone.
Adele prepares to attempt the technique himself while a purple aura surrounds him.
Adele decides to stop overthinking the mechanics and fully rely on his innate talent.
A sudden low rumble sounds as black mana begins to manifest and flow around Adele's dagger.
Adele identifies the skill as Fang of Darkness and notes the absence of the Chaos attribute. Adele reflects that imbuing Chaos would have changed the color of the energy to gray.
Adele asks the instructor for his professional opinion on the successful manifestation.
Aries begrudgingly admits that the boy possesses an incredible level of talent. Adele realizes that his current control over the black energy only allows for a 5-second duration.
A sudden quick whoosh sounds as Adele decides it is worth attempting to strike.
Aries enthusiastically challenges the boy to approach and show his true strength.
Samuel looks on with deep concern as the student prepares to engage in direct combat.
A sudden sharp bang sounds as the red and black energies collide in a massive explosion.
Adele lands gracefully after the clash.
Adele maintains a sly, confident expression.
A sudden sharp chime sounds as the two fighters engage in a high-speed exchange.
Aries likens the boy's strategy of intermittent coding to watching a theatrical performance.
A sudden heavy crash sounds as Aries unleashes a shockwave that forces Adele backward.
A system notification confirms that Adele has successfully activated his second position swap ability.
A sudden low grunt sounds as Aries groans in pain from an unexpected strike.
Adele moves with a blur of speed.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as Adele delivers a kick that knocks the weapon away.
Adele recognizes a critical opening to strike now that his opponent has dropped his sword.
A sudden resonant ring sounds as Adele manifests 3 black daggers using his specialized darkness technique.
A sudden sharp tap sounds as Aries is forced to defend himself with his bare hands.
Aries grits his teeth in determination.
Aries unleashes an overwhelming red war.
Adele finds his attacks ineffective against the instructor's massive frame and unbelievable reflexes.
Adele realizes his opponent is truly a monster that cannot be reached with his current skills.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Adele surrenders just as a massive punch nearly connects.
Aries is left completely speechless by the boy's sudden and unexpected surrender.
Fran and the other students listen as the instructor shouts that running away is strictly forbidden.
A sudden sharp tap sounds as Aries holds a fist inches from the boy's face.
Adele reflects that he chose to surrender to avoid injury and to intentionally annoy the instructor.
Aries orders the boy to return to his seat in the audience. Aries angrily shouts for the next participant to step forward for their examination. The class marvels at the fact that the half-demon student managed to hold his own. Adele smiles as he reflects on how his plan to draw attention with flashy attacks worked perfectly.
Adele reflects on the disastrous consequences if his classmates followed the original story's leadership.
Samuel demands an immediate explanation for the red-haired boy's cryptic and foreboding statement.
Adele notes the boy's quick recovery but ignores his inquiries, prompting Samuel to grow more insistent.
Samuel rejects the casual dismissal and makes it clear he is seeking a specific answer.
Samuel clenches his fist in frustration and demands to know the secret behind Adele's incredible strength.
Adele offers a smug grin while suggesting that his power might simply be a natural gift.
Samuel remains unsatisfied with the vague answer, but Adele questions if a better reason is truly necessary.
The dark blue-haired boy looms over his classmate with an expression of intense irritation and simmering anger. Adele mocks Samuel for relying on his prestigious family status and the unique gluttony power he was born with. A sudden sharp crackle sounds as Samuel erupts in green energy while warning the boy to watch his mouth. Adele remains perfectly composed as a massive swirling aura of dark mana fills the area around them. A sudden soft whoosh sounds as the energy abruptly dissipates while Samuel falls into a stunned silence.
Adele walks away while dismissively labeling the dark blue-haired student as a piece of worthless trash.
Adele worries that his classmate's confrontational behavior will prevent him from following orders during the midterm examinations.
Fran approaches the red-haired boy and demands to know why he is behaving so aggressively.
Adele argues that Samuel was the one who initiated the conflict, but Fran insists that is not the main issue.
Fran acknowledges Samuel's bad behavior, but questions why Adele insists on repeatedly provoking the boy's family.
Adele counters that his insults are trivial compared to the constant discrimination he faces for being a half-demon.
Fran looks surprised and realizes that the red-haired student is completely unaware of a significant secret.
A sudden low hum sounds as the conversation shifts to the heavy burden of Samuel's family lineage.
Fran reveals that the dark blue-haired boy is actually the current head of the prestigious House of Greed. Adele is shocked to learn that a mere first-year student already holds the title of a househead. Adele stares up at the girl with horns in a moment of stunned, wordless contemplation. Adele finally understands the tragic reason why mentions of family caused such an extreme reaction in his classmate.
Fran explains that Samuel's entire family was slaughtered during the war, leaving him as the sole survivor and leader.
Adele reflects on the original character's tragic history, but notes that as a possessor, he cannot feel that same grief.
Adele breaks into a cold sweat as he realizes the characters from his novel are real people with genuine pain. Adele promises to be more careful in the future while Fran prepares to depart for her own exam. Fran finds it hilarious that a student she considers a slave would show concern for her well-being. The blue-haired girl with horns strikes a confident, boastful pose as she takes her leave. Adele smiles as he realizes the arrogant girl has a surprisingly serious and compassionate side to her personality. A sudden, sharp shout sounds as a voice tells the boy to get a hold of himself.
Adele resolves to focus on the present and begins his final preparations for the next stage of the midterms.
Sunlight reflects off the spires of the academy as the day of the exams progresses. Adele finds the magic theory exam remarkably easy because the core concepts are already familiar to him. A sudden resonant ring sounds as the bell signals the conclusion of the written testing period. Adele feels relieved and confident that he has achieved a nearly perfect score on his magic theory test. Adele reflects on the fact that no matter his written scores, the upcoming practical exam remains the greatest danger. Adele looks nervous as he contemplates the possibility of dying during the high-stakes practical combat portion. A sudden soft rustle sounds as someone approaches the boy while he rests his head on the desk.
Fran stands over her classmate and inquires about how he performed on the challenging magic exam.
Adele asks about her results, and she playfully tells him to take a guess while maintaining her confident air.
Adele recognizes that he must humor the girl's ego or she will continue to pester him throughout the day.
Adele assumes she got a perfect magic score but teases her about likely failing the weapon skills portion.
The two students exchange a moment of tense and questioning silence as they stare at one another. Fran erupts in a sudden fury and grabs Adele by the collar for his insulting and disrespectful remark. A sudden heavy thud sounds as Fran delivers a punch to the boy's face while screaming at him.
A sudden quick creak sounds as an orange-haired student enters the classroom and greets the members of Class A.
Adele is caught off guard by the unexpected arrival of the student known as Baltan.
A sudden firm step sounds as the orange-haired boy offers a casual greeting to his classmates.
Adele greets Lord Baltan while wondering why the orange-haired boy has suddenly appeared.
Baltan expresses his appreciation that the red-haired boy remembers him from their previous meeting.
A sudden, resonant hum sounds as Baltan notes that his opponent seems significantly stronger since their last encounter.
Adele offers his thanks for the compliment while noting the strange, dark energy surrounding the boy.
Baltan mentions his desire to test the red-haired boy's strength but explains he has other duties today.
Fran recognizes the boy as a child of jealousy from the entrance exam and notes it is their first meeting since that day.
Baltan confirms the girl's identity as Fran, and she proudly confirms his assessment.
Baltan asks the girl to accompany him, which she perceives as an offensive and disrespectful order.
Baltan explains that the class presidents are gathering for a meeting with the principal.
Adele expresses surprise at the meeting, while Fran clarifies she is not actually the president.
Fran claims that the true class president is actually her subordinate.
Adele maintains a silent, smug smile. Baltan stares in wordless shock. Baltan becomes aggressive and demands a fight upon learning that Adele is the class president. Adele suggests that attending the meeting is more important than an immediate duel. Baltan agrees to lead the way, while Fran insists that the president should follow her instead. Fran gleefully takes the lead while Adele expresses his weariness at the situation.
Adele asks for more details regarding the purpose of the upcoming meeting.
Bolton explains that the meeting concerns the midterm examination plan to invade the human realm.
Adele realizes the meeting will determine the specific attack locations for each class.
Bolton praises the boy for quickly understanding the strategic nature of the gathering.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as Bolton insults Muscleheads while they arrive at the conference room.
Renee is caught completely off guard by the red-haired boy's arrival at the meeting.
The presidents of Class B and D wait impatiently for the meeting to begin.
Bolton announces to the principal that all necessary participants have arrived. Principal Luzian formally invites the Class A president to enter the room. The other class presidents react with shock and skepticism to Adele's official status. Adele politely thanks the principal for the invitation to join the meeting.
Diana mocks the boy's choice of escort while Renee remains in a stunned silence.
Adele reflects that he neglected to tell Renee he was the president and anticipates a difficult explanation later.
Principal Luzian orders everyone to take their seats so the proceedings can begin.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Guar loudly expresses his disgust at a half-demon holding a position of leadership.
Guar insults Fran's family name and claims she was pushed out of her rightful seat.
Guar dismissively labels his classmates as insects that even a Cerberus would find laughable.
Aaron offers a casual agreement with the harsh insults being hurled at the newcomers.
Adele senses a hostile atmosphere and wonders if the meeting is actually a trap. Guar glares with intense hatred while calling the boy a mongrel.
Adele smiles confidently despite being surrounded by hostile opponents on all sats.
A heavy, oppressive pressure builds between the two fighters. The orange-haired boy reflects on the absurdity of following someone to such a chaotic conference room. Adele realizes the principal is allowing the conflict to test his qualifications.
Adele resolves to show his skills while Guar continues to mock him.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as Guar aggressively grabs the boy by the head.
A sudden, quick snap sounds as Adele swiftly deflects the massive haint.
A sudden, heavy boom sounds as the two fighters collide in a powerful exchange.
A sudden, low hum sounds as dark energy spheres manifest around the struggling pair.
Guar screams in a blind rage while hurling hateful insults at the boy.
A sudden, quick whoosh sounds as Adele prepares a counterattack. Adele expertly dodges a powerful punch from the muscular student.
Guar vows to crush the boy's head as he unleashes his full strength.
A sudden, low hum sounds as Adele's aura flares with a dark, crackling energy. A sudden, quick crack sounds as Adele effortlessly catches and deflects the massive student's punch.
Guar screams in agony as blood sprays from a deep wound.
Renee watches the brutal exchange with a stunned and questioning expression. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Adele seizes the muscular boy by the jaw. A sudden, sharp whoosh sounds as a blade of dark energy manifests inches from Guar's face. Principal Luzian intercedes and declares that the demonstration has reached its conclusion. The principal orders the combatants to cease their fighting and return to their assigned seats immediately.
Adele releases his opponent and asks if the principal is finally satisfied with his performance.
The pink-haired woman offers a cryptic smile as the tension in the room begins to simmer down.
Principal Luzian directs Adele to sit next to Aaron while the injured Guar curses his humiliating defeat.
Bolton notes that the red-haired boy is stronger than he initially believed, while Fran gleefully praises her slave.
Diana observes that Adele possesses skills she is unfamiliar with, while Renee remains deeply impressed by her guard's prowess.
Principal Luzian officially calls the gathering to order to begin the strategic briefing.
The principal explains that the meeting's sole purpose is to assign each class a specific region to invade during the practical exam.
Adele expresses his interest in learning the exact details of how the territories will be distributed.
A sudden resonant hum sounds as Principal Luzian decides it is better to show them the targets directly.
A sudden resonant whoosh sounds as a massive, glowing holographic map of the human realm fills the center of the room.
Renee questions if the image is a map, and the principal confirms it is a special tactical representation. Adele correctly identifies it as a map of the human realm's continent, earning an amused confirmation from the principal.
Principal Luzian points out the Imperial Academy, noting she expected the Class A president to aim for such a high-profile target. The principal announces she has decided to give Class A an even more difficult assignment, much to Adele's confusion.
Adele reflects that attacking the academy is already the most dangerous task, making him wonder what could possibly be harder.
Principal Luzian reveals spy intel about a first-year class from the human realm conducting a secret outdoor lesson.
Adele realizes the principal believes attacking an isolated class far from the academy would be a more strategic and easier target.
The red-haired boy falls into silent thought as he analyzes the true implications of the mission.
Principal Luzian suggests that Class A might be better suited for attacking a city area instead of the academy itself.
Fran stands up and arrogantly declares that small fry are not worth their time and that Class A should strike the capital. Adele thinks to himself that the protagonist group has already surpassed the 7 deadly sins and will reveal their power soon.
A sudden firm clench sounds as Adele grips his hand while worrying that any class would be annihilated by the protagonist's companions.
Adele wonders which choice leads to the best outcome and resolves to pick the specific region he needs to visit.
Principal Luzian officially assigns Class A to attack one of the first-year classes of the Imperial Academy.
Adele dismisses the idea of going to the capital as nonsense, much to the shock of his peers.
Guar mocks the red-haired boy for being a half-breed who is too afraid to face mere humans.
Adele responds to the insult with a confident and unsettling smirk.
A sudden loud thud sounds as the principal tells Guar to stop after he rages and hurls another insult.
Principal Luzian asks Adele for his reasoning behind choosing the seemingly easier target over the capital.
Adele considers that the others don't know that one of the protagonist's companions in that class is their most dangerous opponent.
He determines that he must take the risk and go there regardless of the danger.
Adele reflects on the existence of a powerful elixir that he must claim before the protagonist group can consume it.
Adele tells the group that his decision is based on his own specialized ability, prompting a curious response from the principal. He explains that his talent for assassination is best utilized away from the chaotic and crowded streets of a city.
Adele argues that leading a large group for an assassination mission in the capital would be far too dangerous.
The boy maintains his confident smile as he finishes his explanation. Principal Luzian praises him for his deep understanding of both his own strengths and the geography of the human realm.
The principal officially assigns Class A to the Imperial Academy's first-year students, and Adele offers his thanks.
A sudden soft creak sounds as Adele stands to leave and inform his classmates of their mission.
Adele calls for Fran to follow him, and she complies with a surprised and flustered expression.
A sudden heavy silence settles over the room as the rest of the student council watches them depart. Aaron speaks to Renee, noting how impressive it is that she found such a capable guard for the Vares family.
The black-haired girl questions how the boy suddenly learned to manifest sword aura.
She notes that Adele is skilled at hiding things while feeling a strange ache in her chest.
Aaron observes that the red-haired boy has grown incredibly fast since the entrance exam.
The orange-haired boy expresses a growing desire to fight the talented newcomer.
Principal Luzian recognizes why they were warned to be wary of Adele's extraordinary judgment.
She reflects that his skills make him too promising to discard despite earlier warnings.
The principal believes he could be a great asset if tamed or a threat to be eliminated.
She ponders a fate for him similar to the one suffered by the human families.
Adele mentally prepares for the start of the difficult practical examination.
The grand architecture of the academy stands silent before the coming storm.
Students gathered in the hall murmur amongst themselves in anticipation.
Cadets discuss their excitement for the chance to strike at their human enemies.
The students rally together to demonstrate the overwhelming power of Class A.
Strategic deception ensures the Academy's main forces are stationed away from the true target.
Adele realizes the first years will be vulnerable with only one instructor for protection.
He identifies the powerful mage instructor as his primary target for assassination.
The red-haired boy plans to kill the instructor before claiming the hidden elixir.
A sudden sharp ring sounds as the pink-haired man demands silence for the principal.
Principal Luzian steps forward to address the assembled student body.
She declares the beginning of the war against those who slaughtered their loved ones.
The woman speaks of the shared pain and losses suffered by everyone in their realm. She recounts the cruelty of humans who mocked their dead and sought to desecrate them.
Luzian proclaims that it is finally their turn to hunt the humans.
The principal's eyes burn with a fierce and vengeful intensity. The students erupt into a passionate cheer for the upcoming invasion.
Adele reflects on the madness of the situation and the peak of student morale.
Principal Luzian unleashes a massive wave of light to bless her loyal soldiers. Adele is deeply impressed and intimidated by the principal's monstrous display of power.
A staff member instructs the students to board the train in an orderly fashion.
A sudden heavy hiss sounds as the massive steam engine begins to move.
Passengers prepare for the impact as the train heads toward the dimensional station. The students are told to rest during the one-hour journey to their destination.
Adele considers the immense cost required to warp such a large group of students.
A map reveals the eventual fusion of the two worlds into a single dimension.
The pink-haired girl offers Adele a piece of food during the journey. Luna explains it is buck jerky and offers it as a snack to the boy. Adele enjoys the snack while deciding to focus solely on his current mission.
A system window displays the boy's half-demon status and diverse array of times.
Adele laments his low mana levels and his desperate need for the strengthening elixir. Luna asks what he is thinking while the boy focuses on testing his psychokinesis. A sudden low hum sounds as the girl is lifted slightly off her seat.
Luna reacts with shock as her body begins to float unexpectedly.
Adele realizes that even a slight control of gravity will be useful in combat.
Dark energy swirls around a floating stone as the boy hones his skill. He understands that his psychokinesis is the key to manipulating gravity itself.
The boy worries about the chance of encountering the knights who once tried to kill him.
He remembers the powerful warriors of the 6 families who are his true enemies.
Adele reasons that the enemy must believe he died long ago.
He resolves to find a mask to ensure his identity remains a secret. A sudden loud screech sounds as the train speeds toward the dimensional rift. A sudden heavy thud sounds as a black boot lands firmly on the rocky ground.
A massive, spiky, dark crystal structure looms over the cadets.
Adele reflects on the high value of magic stones, noting that selling just one could sustain a person for an entire year.
He considers the gate a waste of resources, thinking it could have been constructed much cheaper with more time. The gray-haired instructor asks the assembled group if they have an idea of their current location. She directs each cadet to take one specific item from the wooden crate before they depart.
Adele receives a white mask from another cadet and questions its purpose. The boy thinks the timing is perfect as he was already looking for a way to hide his identity.
A sudden soft swish sounds as the instructor puts on a mask and explains it will help conceal their identities.
She assures Adele that mask wearers can still recognize each other even as her face becomes a glitchy, shadowed void. The instructor orders the class president and everyone else to put on their masks immediately. A sudden, sharp click sounds as Adele and the other students secure their black and white masks. Adele is impressed by the excellent visibility through the mask and admits that he likes it. The instructor asks if he can see well, and Adele confirms that the mask is more effective than he expected. A sudden, light slide sounds as the woman chuckles and offers Adele another item. Adele asks what it is, and the instructor explains the bars are food supplies capable of replacing a full meal.
The woman mentions she ate them often during her own battles, and Adele acknowledges the information.
She reveals the taste is a mix of dirt and insect guts, prompting a shocked reaction from the boy.
The instructor walks away after telling him to eat one per day, leaving Adele to lament the terrible flavor.
She begins explaining the exam procedure, starting with the fact that instructors will not accompany the cadets. The students express confusion and question who will lead the mission if the instructors stay behind.
The gray-haired woman explains that the targets were chosen for their level and that their presence would invalidate the test.
She adds that the instructors must stay to prepare for reopening the gate upon the students' return. The instructor declares that every cadet is required to prioritize any orders given by their president, Adele. A sudden soft rustle sounds as the woman reaches out to pin something onto the boy's chest.
She explains the Enzer flower is a symbol of their home and marks Adele as the leader of the group.
The instructor hands over a map, noting she heard from the principal that Adele is capable of reading them.
She expresses her hope that the map proves useful, and Adele offers his thanks in return. A sudden low hum sounds as the instructor wishes the cadets good fortune before the swirling purple portal.
A sudden thunderous boom sounds as a massive pillar of light erupts from the crystalline gate.
Adele resolves to return alive, reflecting that while this world is new to others, it is a nightmare he knows well.
A grand landscape reveals a majestic white city nestled within a vast green valley. A moment of quiet reflection follows as the students prepare for the trials ahead.
A sudden sharp buzz sounds as Adele and the cadets begin their trek through the distorted purple void. A sudden resonant hum sounds while the masked group moves steadily through the dimensional space.
The cadets groan in discomfort as their bodies struggle against the intense physical pressure of the dimension.
Adele realizes everyone is struggling to adapt and that even he cannot hold out for much longer.
He spots a bright light in the distance and wonders if it is the exit they are seeking. The boy encourages his companions, telling them they only need to go a little further to reach safety.
A sudden sharp whoosh sounds as the dimensional portal begins to warp and pull inward. Adele urgently shouts for the cadets to run quickly because the gate is starting to close. A sudden deafening boom sounds while the students scramble frantically toward the shrinking exit. A sudden heavy thump sounds as the silhouettes of several cadets land on the other side.
Adele calls for Lady Luna and grabs her hand to pull her through the closing gap.
Luna screams as she and several other students tumble out onto a grassy field.
A sudden light top sounds as Adele leaps through the portal just before it vanishes completely.
A sudden firm step sounds as the red-haired boy stands before his group of masked cadets. The Imperial Academy stands majestically atop a series of floating islands surrounded by clouds.
Brilliant white walls and soaring towers define the massive floating complex in the bright sky.
Adele reflects on the Academy's magnificence, recognizing it as the pinnacle of human magic and technology.
The cadets stare in disbelief at the floating island, questioning the logic of a school suspended in the sky. The gray-haired woman remains stunned while Adele explains that the facility is a specialized school for humans.
Luna looks on with concern as the gray-haired woman questions if they are truly intended to enter such a place.
Adele clarifies that they cannot enter the main facility anyway because it is protected by an unbreakable dragon-level barrier. The boy considers that while he could swap positions to enter alone, he would likely be eliminated instantly by the human heroes. A sudden, sharp clap sounds as Adele calls for the attention of the assembled cadets. Holding the map firmly, the red-haired boy orders the group to prepare for a swift departure toward their objective. A lush, verdant mountain range stretches out beneath a clear blue sky, marking the start of their journey. Adele leads the column of masked cadets through the dense woods with a calm and determined expression.
The boy's eyes narrow as he senses a mysterious gaze watching them from the shadows of the trees.
Adele wonders if they are being stalked by an enemy, while Samuel glares at him with a burning, dark intensity. Samuel reflects on how much Adele's casual attitude in this life-or-death situation irritates him.
Adele acknowledges that Samuel's immense magical talent is a critical component of his strategic plan.
Deciding to overlook the hostility for now, the red-haired boy turns back toward his rival.
A sudden firm reach sounds as Adele extends his hand toward the surprised purple-haired boy.
Samuel demands to know his intentions, but Adele simply tells him that he is doing exactly what it looks like.
The red-haired boy openly admits that they both dislike each other intensely.
Samuel is taken aback when Adele insists that, despite their mutual hatred, they must cooperate just this once.
The purple-haired boy questions why he should ever consider cooperating with someone like Adele.
Adele warns with a grim expression that failing to work together will result in everyone's death because of their rivalry.
He reminds Samuel that humans are not easy prey and that Samuel should understand that better than anyone.
A tense silence follows as the purple-haired boy stares back at Adele, weighing the gravity of his words.
Samuel reluctantly agrees to the truce for this mission alone while muttering about Adele being an annoying bastard. Adele takes the insult as a compliment, relieved that they can now focus on finding the secret realm.
A cadet rushes forward to report a strange discovery just ahead in the forest.
Adele stands before a massive, ornate white door that stands alone and mysterious in a clearing. He confirms that the location is correct and that the door matches the description from his knowledge.
The cadets marvel at the sight of the floating door, struggling to comprehend the human magic before them.
Adele explains that the door is the gateway to a secret realm constructed by humans for their training.
A black-haired cadet confidently offers to open the door, and Adele gives him permission to try.
The cadet scoffs and reaches for the handle, believing the task will be simple.
A sudden crackling zap sounds as a violent surge of red electricity blasts the cadet backward.
As the cadet lies smoking on the ground, Adele calmly notes that the door is restricted to Imperial Academy instructors.
The red-haired boy turns his gaze back to Samuel, who looks at him with suspicion.
Adele calls upon Samuel, telling him that he is the only one who can step in to solve the problem.
He instructs the purple-haired boy to inject his mana into the handle and force the gateway open.
Samuel mocks Adele for being a half-breed leader who can't handle the task himself before stepping forward.
The purple-haired boy unleashes a massive, swirling torrent of green energy toward the ornate door.
A sudden, resonant thud followed by a heavy clunk sounds as the door's magical lock finally shatters.
The doors swing wide to reveal a blinding white portal leading into the unknown realm.
Adele leads the group of cadets as they step into the light, officially beginning their infiltration.
Once inside, the boy reassures the group that there are no immediate traps and it is safe to proceed.
The group treks through a massive sun-drenched canyon with towering orange rock walls.
The gray-haired woman notes the familiar atmosphere, and Adele explains the realm's purpose for hosting entire classes.
Samuel questions if it would have been more efficient to set up an ambush outside rather than entering a trapped area.
Adele smiles and admits that it is a sharp and logical question.
He agrees that an ambush would be effective, but explains he has several specific reasons for entering the realm.
Adele reveals that because he knows how to avoid the traps, the humans will be the only ones to suffer from them.
He adds that they will be long gone before the humans even arrive, prompting Samuel to question the point of the trip.
Adele lets out a small chuckle, which only serves to irritate the skeptical Samuel further.
The sun-drenched canyon was designed by humans to study and conquer demon secret realms.
Adele smiles and explains that these artificial realms act as vaults containing hidden treasures.
A sudden firm step sounds as Adele tells Samuel they are almost at their destination.
A sudden resonant hum sounds while the group arrives at a crossroads with 6 branching paths. Samuel and Fran question which path they are supposed to take through the canyon depths.
Adele walks toward a path that Fran warns is nothing more than a dead end.
A sudden, soft thud sounds as Adele places his hand on the rock wall and dismisses the other routes.
A sudden, heavy grind sounds while a hidden passage opens within the solid stone before them.
Adele encourages the stunned cadets to follow him through the passage leading straight to their goal. Samuel demands to know how he found the path, while Adele reflects on having built the place himself.
Golden light spills over the craggy peaks as the morning sun rises above the canyon.
The cadets approach a small, ornate golden chest resting alone on the cracked earth.
Adele stands before the treasure chest with Samuel and Fran, ready to claim its contents.
Fran asks what is inside, and Adele feigns ignorance by claiming it is also his first time here.
A sudden sharp creak sounds as Adele begins to pry open the heavy lid of the chest.
A sudden metallic clink sounds as a canteen and a small sandbag are revealed inside.
Samuel scoffs at the useless junk, but Adele insists the canteen will prove extremely useful.
A sudden steady splash sounds as Adele pours water out to demonstrate the artifact's magic.
Fran is amazed by the volume, and Adele explains the canteen can provide water for dozens of people.
Samuel remains unimpressed by the artifact while questioning why such a simple item was hidden underground.
Adele orders the group to move out, warning that a battle will soon break out in the area.
Lush green trees sway beneath a bright sky as the scene shifts to the forest. The cadets gather in the shaded clearing to plan their next worth.
Adele, Samuel, and Fran stand together on the grass to discuss their scouting strategy.
Samuel questions why he should handle reconnaissance when Adele is the leader. Adele explains that Samuel is most suited for it, despite being the class representative himself.
The red-haired boy praises Samuel's unparalleled stealth and magic, asking for his cooperation.
Samuel looks pleased by the praise, confirming Adele's suspicion that he wanted the role all along.
Samuel agrees to help as Adele explains he must stay behind to monitor and direct the group. The purple-haired boy asks if another cadet will be joining him on the scouting mission.
A sudden, light rustle sounds as Adele reaches into his pouch and denies needing another cadet.
Adele reveals a small, brown-feathered bird resting gently in the palms of his hands.
Fran identifies the bird as a legendary information-gathering hawk, despite its small appearance. Adele introduces the bird as Shijo, an animal he borrowed and bonded with from instructor Eris.
Samuel is skeptical that the harsh instructor Aries would ever treat Adele with such kindness. A sudden, sharp peck sounds as Shijo attacks Samuel while Adele reflects on the bird's true loyalty.
A sudden low hum sounds while Adele channels dark energy to test a vision-sharing spell.
A sudden, quick flutter sounds as Shijo takes flight while Adele admits he cannot yet replace Aries.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Adele's vision shifts to the perspective of the bird.
Adele is startled to see his own face reflected through the magical link with Shijo's eyes.
A sudden, high chirp sounds while Shijo circles above, confirming their shared vision is successful.
Adele instructs Shijo to accompany Samuel and assist him throughout the reconnaissance mission.
Shijo lands on top of Samuel's head, leaving the purple-haired boy frozen in surprise.
Samuel demands the bird get down, offended that it would dare land on him.
A sudden, quick peck sounds as Shijo strikes Samuel's head again in response to his shotting.
Samuel reluctantly agrees to protect the bird so they can continue sharing critical information.
Adele asks Fran to lead the cadets in his absence, questioning her about her charm ability.
Fran confirms she can strengthen allies, but notes her magic strangely has no effect on Adele.
Adele jokingly suggests her charm isn't strong enough, prompting an indignant shout from Fran.
Fran demands to know why Adele must leave his post during the mission.
Adele informs the group that Imperial Academy cadets and an instructor are approaching, and he intends to face that instructor himself. Samuel and Fran are shocked that Adele would face an instructor alone, while the red-haired boy asks if they are finally worrying about him.
Samuel tells him to just die, but Adele jokingly promises to regroup if the instructor fails to appear.
Adele focuses on his internal mana, knowing he must succeed to expand his total capacity.
Standing before the group, Adele delegates the roles, assigning Samuel to scout and Fran to command while he handles the human instructor. Fran looks toward Adele and asks what their immediate next steps would be. A thoughtful silence fills the clearing as the cadets wait for their leader's next instructions.
With a cheerful smile, Adele declares that they should first eat and set up camp for the night.
Samuel expresses his disbelief, but Adele commands him to depart immediately to monitor the Imperial Academy's movements. A sudden, firm wave sounds while Samuel complains about his missed meal, and Adele wishes him luck before turning to Fran.
A sudden light peck sounds while Samuel stares in stunned silence as the hawk makes its presence known.
Samuel scoffs at the idea of being the only one assigned to such a task.
A sudden, soft munch sounds while Adele begins eating a dark brick-like ration.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Fran reacts with disgust after taking a bite of the food.
The sounds of retching and gagging fill the air as the other cadets struggle to keep the foul-tasting rations down.
Adele reflects on how essential proper nutrition is for battle, even if the young nobles find the taste revolting.
Despite his stoic words, the boy privately thinks the food tastes as bad as worm droppings. A pink-haired girl sits on the grass and watches Adele while she eats her own ration. Adele notices her gaze and asks why she is staring, but she quickly dismisses it. She offers Adele some jerky to replace his bland meal, but he refuses to eat better than the other struggling cadets.
The pink-haired girl notes that he is surprisingly kind, though Adele claims he has always been that way.
Adele stands alone and reflects on how his sly appearance often leads to misunderstandings before wondering how Samuel's mission is progressing. The scene shifts to a grand white academy floating high above a jagged mountain range. Through his vision link, Adele confirms that Samuel and Shijo are successfully monitoring the Imperial Academy. A sudden, brilliant flash sounds while a light erupts from the edge of the floating island.
A sudden, roaring boom sounds as a massive object begins its descent from the clouds.
A sudden, resonant thud sounds while a magnificent carriage drawn by flaming horses races toward the ground. Adele watches in disbelief, recognizing the legendary vehicle immediately. A legend tells of a dangerous gate opening to a brutal world ruled by conquest and endless war. Adele observes the carriage, noting its ability to travel between the sky and the ground like something out of a myth. Samuel shouts something through the magical link, but Adele is frustrated that he cannot hear the words. The carriage descends into the woods much sooner than Adele anticipated, creating a troublesome situation. A golden hawk crest gleams brightly on the uniform of the arriving official. A green-haired man with glasses and a monocle steps away from the carriage with a stern expression. Adele identifies the man as Pasaha and marks him as the first target that must be eliminated. He notes that Pasaha is a 5th Circle wind magic instructor who focuses on theory, making a direct confrontation possible. A sudden heavy clank sounds as a massive metal hammer is carried into the forest.
Leon Tarius, a large blonde man and son of a count, laughs while walking with two female companions.
Adele recognizes Leon as a major protagonist's companion who possesses strength even greater than Basaha's.
He determines that he must strike when Leon is distracted, as the combination of Leon and Basaha would be lethal to Class A.
The vision link shows Samuel quickly withdrawing from a scouting position. Adele alerts the group that they need to move immediately.
Fran asks if something went wrong, and Adele confirms that their targets are heading directly toward them.
As the mission officially begins, Adele orders the cadets to erase their tracks and prepare their weapons.
He reiterates his plan to stay outside the secret realm to face the human instructor alone.
The pink-haired girl asks for confirmation that the instructor is truly coming.
Adele smiles and admits the instructor is stronger than Ares, making his own victory uncertain.
The girl is overwhelmed with fear, realizing that facing someone stronger than Basaha is a terrifying prospect.
Turning to the gray-haired woman, Adele expresses his trust in her ability to lead the cadets.
A sudden high bleep sounds as the hawk signals a new development to the red-haired boy.
Samuel reports that the humans are arriving, and Adele confirms the news through his link with Shijo.
Adele instructs Samuel to enter the secret realm and take the bird with him, which the purple-haired boy accepts.
Samuel asks if Adele is truly facing the instructor alone, but the red-haired boy insists it is a necessary task.
Samuel tells Adele not to die, and the red-haired boy promises to try his best to survive.
Adele warns Samuel to be especially cautious of the tan-skinned, blonde-haired human as they prepare to part ways.
Adele commands Samuel to move aside so he can open the door, privately hoping the cadets can hold out against Basaha.
After reflecting on the difficulty of defeating Leon Tarius, Adele decides to head toward his designated position.
A system window activates his second position swap skill, allowing him to teleport away from the clearing.
Hiding within the dense foliage, Adele watches with a glowing red eye as he waits for the targets to arrive.
A sudden, soft rustle sounds while a dark boot steps onto the grass. Basaha raises his hand and orders the group of Imperial Academy cadets to halt.
Standing before the ornate door, the green-haired instructor announces that this will be the site of their field training.
Adele watches from his hidden perch, noting that the group has finally arrived. Leon leans toward Sylvia and greets her with a smug, arrogant grin.
Leon mocks Sylvia, telling her that her disgraceful behavior ends today as she prepares to pay for their bet.
The blonde man continues his taunts, declaring his confidence that Sylvia will soon belong to him.
Basaha interrupts the conversation, sternly ordering the two cadets to stop their useless chatter and focus on the mission.
The instructor reminds the group that the first team to clear the objective will receive a reward.
The human cadets respond with enthusiastic cheers, promising to do their absolute best.
Adele watches from the trees as Basaha orders the students to enter the secret realm one by one.
Seeing the humans so full of life, Adele reflects on the grim difference between them and the pawns of war he leads.
Leon stands proudly with his massive hammer, looking completely undaunted by the upcoming task.
Leon informs Sylvia he will start the raid in 30 minutes and reiterates his belief that she will end up with him regardless.
Sylvia dismisses Leon's dreams as impossible while he laughs off her rejection.
Basaha orders the pair to get inside immediately, prompting an apology from Sylvia before they both head toward the light.
A sudden, sharp metallic clink sounds while Adele remains motionless in the shadows.
Adele notes with satisfaction that the instructor is finally alone in the clearing.
Basaha watches the last of the students disappear into the realm, confirming the area is now clear.
Adele observes the instructor carefully checking the surroundings, noting how thorough the man is.
Basaha releases a massive burst of green magic to scan the entire forest for intruders.
Adele is startled by the sudden detection wave as it washes over his hiding spot.
Brilliant green light floods the woods as the instructor's mana search continues.
A sudden firm grip sounds as Adele catches a thick tree branch to keep himself from falling.
Adele breathes a sigh of relief, realizing that moving even a moment later would have resulted in his capture. Finding no sign of life, Basaha concludes the area is empty and decides to head toward the hideout.
Adele watches the green-haired man walk away, planning to follow him from a safe distance.
Sunlight filters through the dense canopy of the quiet forest.
Adele keeps his eyes fixed on the target as the instructor moves deeper into the woods. Basaha pauses for a moment, looking back as if he sensed a presence.
The instructor wonders if someone is following him, but eventually dismisses the feeling as his imagination.
A sudden, sharp step sounds as Basaha continues his journey through the trees.
Basaha complains about the demonic plot that forced someone of his importance to travel all this way.
Adele watches from the leaves, questioning what the instructor is planning to do with the tree ahead.
Basaha places his hand on the bark, mentioning that this is all for the sake of his great experiment.
Swirling green energy erupts from the tree as the instructor's magic takes hold. The tree glows with a blinding intensity as it reacts to the massive influx of mana.
Adele realizes the tree was actually a lethal protective mechanism that would have obliterated him if touched.
Basaha continues his inspection of the magically charged tree, confident that no one has tampered with it. A sudden low hum sounds while a spectral purple dagger materializes behind the unsuspecting instructor.
Basaha shouts in surprise as the dark blade strikes his defensive shield at point-blank range. Basaha is startled as the red-haired boy with the mask suddenly appears, surrounded by menacing purple energy.
With one eye glowing red behind his mask, the boy remarks that it's a shame the instructor didn't die from that initial strike.
A new chapter introduces the realm of Vera, a land of beauty now on the edge of annihilation as monsters pour from the heavens.
Basaha powers up with green wind mana and demands to know the identity of the mysterious intruder.
The red-haired boy grips his spectral blue dagger tightly, ready to resume the fight.
A system notification activates stealth, causing the masked boy's form to blur and fade into the environment.
A sudden, sharp swish sounds as Basaha stares in shock at the empty patch of grass where his opponent stood just a moment ago.
Infuriated by the disappearance, Basaha yells at the boy to stop playing tricks and begins gathering a massive ball of energy.
Basaha commands the wind to tear his enemy to pieces as a colossal pillar of green mana erupts from his hands.
A sudden resonant whoosh sounds while the red-haired boy is knocked off balance by the expanding gale.
Gritting his teeth, the boy admits that the instructor's reaction speed is much faster than he previously estimated.
Basaha orders the very wind roaming the forest to find the intruder, his eyes glowing with intense green light.
The massive force of the wind magic sweeps across the clearing, leveling everything in its path.
Using his Position Swap 2 skill, the boy teleports through the storm as blue light crackles around his moving silhouette. A sudden, light thud sounds as the masked boy lands safely on a high tree branch to survey the battlefield.
Waves of green energy continue to ripple through the air, highlighting the sheer power of the Fifth Circle Mage.
The red-haired boy sweats under the pressure, realizing they cannot win if they keep getting pushed back and must find a way to get close.
Basaha maintains his focus, channeling even more mana into a concentrated point as he searches for any sign of life.
A sudden quick zip sounds while the boy realizes it's time to cast a new spell incantation to turn the tide.
He triggers an exchange with his Position Swap 2, instantly materializing right in front of the startled instructor.
Basaha is caught completely off guard, his eyes widening in disbelief as the boy appears within striking distance.
The masked boy unleashes his Dark Fang's sword pierce skill, driving a blade of pure shadow toward the man's throat.
A sudden metallic clang sounds as the dark blade is halted by a shimmering green protective barrier.
The boy curses his luck as he realizes he has hit yet another barrier, preventing a clean kill. Basaha snarls in rage, calling the red-haired boy a filthy bastard as his mana flares out in a violent burst.
The serenity of the distant green mountains stands in stark contrast to the magical battle raging below.
A sudden roaring bang sounds as a beam of green energy tears through the forest floor.
A sudden, firm tap sounds while a dark boot touches down on the scorched grass amidst the lingering mana.
The masked boy stands firm despite the debris falling around him, his body wreathed in protective blue energy.
He observes the instructor, concluding that the man has pre-wrapped himself in 10 layers of mana shields. Basaha demands the boy come out of hiding, while the red-haired youth calculates that the shield's recoil would have destroyed him if not for his skill. He determines that breaking the remaining 8 layers is the only path to victory as Basaha gathers more wind.
The boy's eyes widen in shock as a new overwhelming force manifests on the battlefield. A system notification activates psychokinesis, and the boy uses the power to anchor himself against the grass as the wind intensifies.
He knows he must use the psychokinesis to press his body down and hold on, as being swept away would mean certain death.
A sudden blinding boom sounds while a final massive discharge of wind energy explodes in the center of the clearing.
The storm subsides, leaving a graveyard of uprooted trees and shattered logs in its wake. A sudden heavy crunch sounds as the red-haired boy groans, pinned beneath a massive fallen trunk. Coughing up blood, the boy manages to crawl out from under the debris, relieved that he's somehow survived the onslaught.
Basaha stands atop a pile of logs, looking down at his battered opponent with a triumphant, wicked grin.
The instructor gloats that the intruder has finally shown his face and is cornered among the wreckage.
A sudden sharp zip sounds while the boy leaps from the logs to launch a desperate counterattack against the floating mage.
A sudden resonant blast sounds as their opposing powers collide once more, creating a shockwave of light.
Enraged, Basaha shouts that the boy is a damned half-demon brat for daring to continue his resistance.
The instructor stands upon a large rock, summoning a lethal vortex of wind that begins to grind the stone to dust.
A sudden forceful thud sounds while the boy is sent flying backward by the sheer pressure of the wind magic.
Wiping blood from his chin, the boy wonders why the man is targeting him so relentlessly, and if their original plan was different. Basaha pauses, narrowing his eyes as he begins to wonder if his own students are involved in this plot.
The instructor laughs mockingly, telling his foe that he is foolishly digging his own grave.
Basaha gathers a terrifying amount of green mana into his hands, promising to show the full extent of his true power. Basaha screams a death threat. A sudden roaring howl sounds. The masked boy exhales heavily. A sudden light plop sounds.
A sudden rhythmic thrumming sounds.
A hand reaches for falling leaves.
Basaha realizes his opponent has disappeared.
The instructor questions his own reality. Red light flickers in his eyes.
A sudden, sharp whoosh sounds. He prepares to rain black blades.
A sudden, sharp metallic clink sounds as Basaha groans under the assault.
Basaha demands his enemy identify himself. The counting boy continues his execution.
A sudden, sharp crack sounds while Basaha panics as the countdown continues.
The instructor screams in pure frustration.
A sudden, resonant blast sounds.
A sudden, quick whoosh sounds.
Basaha's eyes widen as recognition dawns.
A sudden, low hiss sounds while the boy names his deadly technique.
A sudden, quick whoosh sounds as he declares Basaha's long journey over.
A sudden, loud shattering sounds.
Basaha refuses to accept his defeat.
Basaha's ego remains his biggest weakness.
A sudden, faint rustle sounds.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds. The battle finally comes to end.
He admits Basaha was his strongest. Relieved to have his key senses after using stealth, he shudders at the thought of losing his eyes.
After consuming his intermediate potion, he prepares to use his final advanced potion to recover mana.
A sudden, rhythmic gulping sounds while he drinks the potion to prepare for Terius, despite losing his taste. He prepares to search for the elixir.
He stands over his gone foe.
He takes the golden emblem to prove he successfully neutralized the instructor.
A lantern illuminates the wooden stairs.
A sudden firm tap sounds while he decides to retrieve the items later.
He wonders why the air smells rotten the deeper he goes.
A sudden firm tap sounds. A sudden low hum sounds.
Specimens float inside the glass cylinders.
A skeleton hangs from the wall.
A sudden firm top sounds while he identifies the laboratory's horrific purpose.
Witnessing the horror firsthand, he regrets previously writing that experimenting on demons was justified.
Reflecting on his novel, he questions the true nature of good and evil despite the human motivations. Identifying the homunculus, he reflects on the failed creature Basaha tried to create.
The artificial life form remains unfinished.
He concludes the research failed despite Basaha's desperate desire to use a homunculus to evade death.
He decides to bring the specimen to Robolt, hoping to trade it for an intermediate potion.
A sudden, light scratch sounds.
A sudden quick snap sounds while he reacts in shock as the specimen escapes its container.
A sudden sharp crash sounds as the specimen shatters its container.
The creature questions its new surroundings.
A sudden resonant whoosh sounds while the red-haired boy watches the creature emerge. He is surprised to see his necklace begin to glow intensely.
He notes that half of the necklace filled with light after solitude consumed the homunculus.
He ponders the connection between the creature and the demon god.
He laments that Basaha destroyed the formula book before he could read it. He hears a sound and turns his head.
He notices the small snake's presence. He's intrigued by the creature's shifting presence.
He activates his position swap talent to designate a new target. He realizes Solitude was reborn as a successful homunculus.
A chilling vision of the demonic Crete appears behind him.
He decides to consume the elixir and to park quickly. He successfully finds the ginseng root.
A sudden, resonant crunch sounds while he consumes the plant to channel mana.
He is overwhelmed by the heat surging through his body. A sudden rhythmic thrumming sounds while mana fills the laboratory. He exhales in relief as his body stabilizes.
He views his updated status window, noting his massive mana increase.
He's pleased to see his mana past 2,000.
Purple energy swirls around his fist as he tests his power.
He realizes he can now hide his traces in the shadows.
He considers returning to the students before his time runs out.
He wonders if they are doing okay.
He observes the battlefield where Samuel and Sylvia are fighting.
He is impressed by Samuel's ability to maintain pressure.
A sudden resonant blast sounds while his necklace flares with Radzai.
He is startled by the pendant's sudden reaction.
A sudden light rustle sounds as a new item begins to manifest.
He is surprised to find an informational paper about the recent past.
He discovers he can see previous events.
He is confused by the changing requirements of the magic.
A sudden sharp swish sounds while he uses blood to interact with the magic.
He is shocked to see a demand for a god as an offering. He is frustrated by the impossible task given by the artifact.
He focuses back on the battle scene.
He confirms that the connection to the battlefield is restored.
He watches as Samuel continues his relentless assault.
A sudden heavy thud sounds while he is engulfed in red energy.
He groans in pain, clutching his head as the power surges. He resolves to finally use the pendant's full power.